The story begins with a supernatural spectacle, where the sky lit up with golden lightning that, like a storm, struck the city of Linhai in the Dragon Kingdom. In that chaotic moment, monsters from another dimension began invading reality, forcing humanity to face the greatest calamity they had ever witnessed. But fortunately, the heavens didn't leave humanity to fend for itself. An enigmatic mark appeared on the hands of every human, allowing them to awaken a range of unique classes. From that point on, the Age of Transformation began, with many becoming hunters in search of power and survival. Among those who awakened, only 3 stood out with mythical classes: Alfred, a Ghostblade user from the US, Rasta, a Helldragon Knight from Russia, and finally, Wang Jixian, the Ice Mage King from the Ice Nation. The mythical classes, with their incredible strength, allowed the Russian Lantern Kingdom and the Ice Nation to surpass all other countries in terms of conquest. A century ago, a similar prodigy had emerged in the Dragon Kingdom. Asura, the top expert of the Dragon Kingdom, set an unmatched milestone in 10 years, being the first to exceed the world's age limit of 70. However, when a wave of rank 9 monsters attacked Earth, Asura, who had changed classes 8 times, met his end while defending against the rift. He heroically sacrificed himself to protect his kingdom. Recently, the 100th anniversary of Chulu's death was remembered, who had become a hero at the memorial ceremony in the capital held the day before yesterday. All the top hunters from the Dragon Kingdom attended. Statistics revealed that year the kingdom had 12,350 awakened, an 11% increase from the previous year. Interestingly, 10% of the awakened were major hunters, vastly surpassing the number of awakened that surfaced during Asura's time. Because of this, many hoped another Asura would soon emerge. We then cut to a man lying in his room, hearing that the main gate to the other world was about to open and that hunters should prepare. The man looked somewhat apathetic, with a bottle of pills by his side. When the news was repeated and he heard that the hunters needed to get ready, panic flickered in his eyes. Suddenly, he sat up as if a new energy had taken hold of him. He looked around, confused, believing he had died. A sharp pain in his head began triggering haunting memories, like his hard work, the insults he endured, and his powerlessness in face of his brother's medical bills, as well as his frustrations about being a monster tamer in a humble family. With all this weighing him down, our hero reached his breaking point and decided to end his life. Confused, he began to question to whom those memories that suddenly flooded his mind belonged. He never imagined he would be reincarnated in the body of someone who shared his name 100 years later. He remembered that the guy whose life he now inhabited was a monster tamer. It's worth mentioning that the monster tamer class relies heavily on their pets to fight. Besides leveling up their own skills, the pets also need to evolve. It has been noted that to make a monster tamer truly powerful, one would need a wealth that could rival an entire nation. For a common person, awakening as a monster tamer was truly bad news. Now he was aware of the story of the young Zhang Wei, who was seen as a loser, someone who failed in life and, took his own life. He looked at the picture on the wall. The one who had reincarnated was the exact opposite of the young man who had failed. In another life, he had been the strongest awakened one in the entire realm of dragons, known by the name of Asura. Now that he had taken on a new body and been reborn, he decided to bear all the responsibility and regret of the man he had once been, ready to conquer a new world where the weak are constantly oppressed. That would be his gesture of gratitude. Soon, an announcement popped up that the main gate to the other world was about to open. He stood before the gate and chose to open it. A ring of bright light emerged. It was the space portal. Upon entering, the system greeted Asura, informing him he had been offline for 36,552 days. He stood there as various system windows began to pop up in front of him. He received a total of 221 ability power points. The system even congratulated him for being the first to defeat a wave of rank 9 monsters. With this, our hero finally reached mythical rank in a truly unique class and, of course, earned a fabulous reward, the Supreme Divine Decree, a legendary treasure of mythical rank. Most impressively, the Supreme Divine Decree would activate automatically without him having to lift a finger. Plus, to top it all off, he received a permanent buff, increasing his powers by 10. This meant that he now had the ability to gain ability power in the other world, and it was no small feat. He would earn 10,000 times as much playing online as well as offline. As if That wasn't enough. The effect was already applied, and he gained 99 times more rewards offline, totaling a staggering 210 billion. Naturally, this resulted in a colossal sum of skill points. He couldn't help but be amazed at the absurd amount of 221 quadrillion ability power he had amassed. This reward was, without a doubt, generous, especially since he had cleared a wave of legendary monsters. Then, the system delivered good news, informing him that he had also earned a class reset and needed to choose one of the 7 main classes in the mythical category. The options were pretty varied: Undead Knight, Death Knight, Warrior, Dark Swordsman, Assassin, Shadow Reaper, Priest, Divine Priest, Mage, Infernal Mage, Archer, Spectral Hunter, Beast Tamer, and of course, the Necromancer. It's worth noting that our protagonist had awakened as an epic class warrior 100 years ago. However, back then, the most powerful class in the other world was the Beast Tamers. The only issue with that class was that leveling up required an outrageous amount of ability power, both for the tamer and their pets, making progress pretty tricky. But since our boy had reincarnated, and with up to 1,000,000 years of offline power and skill, the obvious choice was the Necromancer, and so, the system congratulated him on becoming the 4th mythical rank hunter in the world. Now, as an advanced version of the Necromancer, the Beast Tamer, as expected, of a mythical rank class, began with an impressive starting rating of 100 stars. In turn, the Necromancer is a true resurrected messenger from the underworld. This type of character has control over the forces of the dead, and death is what truly ignites the flame of a Necromancer. He boasts a magical attack growth of 25 stars, mana of 18 stars, vitality of 20 stars, physical defense of 18 stars, and magical defense of 10.09 stars. He possesses remarkable abilities like Soul Harvest, Spectre Evolution, and the astounding Death Reduction. The story narrates that the intelligence of a pet from a regular monster tamer, Sura had abilities that came from rare mission rewards, and there was no way to improve his character. But he had no idea that a necromancer could not only evolve his pets, but also harvest other monsters and turn them into his companions. It was exactly what you'd expect from a mythical rank class, right? In his past life, our hero relied on an epic rank class to conquer an astonishing 70 worlds in just 10 years, becoming the first navigator in China. Now, as he began his new journey as a mythical rank class, he was determined to clear each of these worlds completely and become the most powerful, not just in China, but worldwide. So, as a new day dawned, Sura stepped through a portal and found himself in the first world of his new adventure. This place was the source of nightmares, the safe zone where the system had allocated him based on his records and location, Dunsday Village. He was asked if he wanted to continue using the ID Sura or confirm a new ID. Deciding to leave his old name behind, he chose to change his ID to 0. He was firm in his conviction that, in his new life, he wanted to transcend the existence of Sura, and the only thing that really could surpass everything was 0. As he walked through this new world, a woman watched him, fascinated by how everything seemed so real. A man nearby looked confused, as they expected this new world to be teeming with monsters. Another man explained that they were in the safe zone and that the monsters were actually outside. Then they received notification that the first world mission had been released and was available on the panel. People began to mobilize, thinking about how to form a team or what materials they would need. The system screen displayed details about the source of nightmares in the first world. When darkness covers the land, the monsters lying in a deep sleep would awaken, and the world would face a calamity. As the only survivor, 0 had the responsibility to break this apocalyptic cycle, shatter the calamities, and defeat the darkness. The first mission was to eliminate a total of 1,000 monsters in the first world. Secondly, he needed to collect 10 silver coins, either by killing monsters or completing missions. Once these tasks were completed, the instant teleportation tunnel for the first world boss would be activated, allowing him to defeat the boss and move on to the second world. 0 noticed that the layout of the new world hadn't changed much from what he knew. Our hero decided it was time for some shopping before diving into the missions. He stepped into a shop where the owner, known as Chelsea, was waiting for him. Chelsea quickly asked 0 what he needed for his adventures. 0 in turn noticed that this familiar shop only offered basic system items, with no great options available. The best they had was a 1-star equipment. Chelsea then suggested that if 0 wasn't happy with what was on offer, he could buy a higher level gear for just a few extra cents. Determined, 0 dropped a bag filled with 100 cents and asked for a star wand. The wand was finally handed to Zero. The other customers in the shop were left speechless by his boldness. After that, everyone in the shop surrounded Zero, amazed at his audacity to spend all his barely available money. One of the guests pointed out that a magic wand from a star wasn't enough to really boost attack power, suggesting that instead of just buying one weapon, it would be smarter to get a whole set. Zero appreciated the feedback and started to walk away, taking in the constructive criticism. A woman chimed in, saying that only weapons with more stars could actually be refined to increase power. The guy with her emphasized that refining weapons required skill points, which could only be earned by defeating monsters during missions. He added that it would be crazy to spend money on gear that couldn't be upgraded. As Zero walked away, the gossip about his choices continued among the others. He wondered if he'd regret his decision later since he was broke and had no defense. Everyone seemed to think it was impossible to achieve anything meaningful without money. For a newbie hunter like him, spending all his cash on a one-star weapon really didn't make sense. The skill points you could earn from fighting monsters were so limited that refining one-star weapons was out of the question for most. And now, the weapon Zero had gotten, the Wand of Infernal Fury, had only 1 star with a magic power of 5 and was still at level 0. Our hero was fully aware that he was missing one crucial thing: skill power. When he decided to use a skill point for refining, he'd only have a 10% chance of boosting his green attribute, and the higher the attribute, the more it would cost to refine, leading to worse odds of success. He was asked if he wanted to keep refining, and, of course, he said yes. The question came up again, and sticking to his decision, he confirmed he wanted to keep refining. The energy from his wand shone brightly as the refining process successfully went on. He watched the notifications, and in the blink of an eye, he was informed that his equipment had already reached its maximum level. The system screen showed that after 132 refinements, spending a total of 985 skill points, he had finally gained the golden attribute. Now his weapon was the Wand of Scorching Pioneer. This refinement of 132 points showcased the true power of having quadrillions of skill points. His wand now had an effect called Burn, which inflicted a burning status on enemies for 3 seconds with each hit, causing them to lose 20 health per second. With that, our protagonist's preparations were finally complete, and it was time for him to shine in the first world, the origin of nightmares. This place would mark the start of nightmares for all newbie hunters. A desperate hunter tried to slash at the world with his sword, but to his frustration, it had no effect at all. With a terrified look, he wondered what rank those monstrous creatures might be. The monster's health was so immense that he thought it was impossible to do any real damage, yet just one hit from that thing would be enough to wipe him out. Suddenly, a golden orb of light appeared, unleashing magic that annihilated the monster. The burn effect from the Wand of Scorching Pioneer was activated. Immediately, Zero watched as the creature fell. The system alerted him that he had defeated that giant mutant rat, earning him 2 XP and 1,000 points. Plus, he received a 10,000 times buff on his skill power. Our hero Zero is a mythical hunter with maximized base attributes and equipped with the best weapons and armor imaginable. Meanwhile, common hunters were in terrible shape, banding together in a desperate attempt to take down a giant mutant rat that could finish one of them off with a single swipe. The other hunters couldn't help but notice Zero. They were all curious because he was already causing crazy damage and was decked out in top-tier gear. One woman, perplexed, wondered if he was an experienced hunter. The kid quickly shot that down, explaining that nobody could have enough skill points to upgrade a beginner's magic staff. It was impossible not to think that Zero might be on his way to becoming a big name among hunters. In his mind, Zero reflected that all those level 1 monsters were giving him too little experience. It was time to tackle tougher foes. In the first world, the origin of nightmares, he knew there were more than just low-level mutant giant rats. There were also poison spiders ranging from levels 3 to 4, armored scorpions from level 5 to 7, and even frenzied wild boars hitting levels 8 to 9. And of course, at the top of the food chain, the final boss of the first world, a level 10 berserk wild boar king. Thinking through his options, he concluded that the most efficient way to gain experience would be to hunt monsters level 3 and up inside an abandoned factory. Just before he set out, a group of hunters appeared, blocking his path and trying to persuade him to join their team. They had a healer, a tank, and a DPS. The women even tried to charm him, but he looked visibly scared and said he wasn't interested. So, without further ado, they decided to back off, watching from a distance. They distanced themselves, commenting on the intense aura surrounding him, a vibe that was even scarier than the monsters themselves. The hunters realized Zero was heading toward the abandoned factory, where everyone knew the monsters inside were high level and extremely dangerous. They silently wondered if he was really planning to take those monsters on all by himself. They couldn't help but think that a guy like him was totally different from the average hunter. Suddenly, a huge rat with its mouth wide open appeared in front of him. Instantly, the screen displayed that he had just taken out a level 2 mutant giant rat, earning him 2 experience points and 1,000 skill points. In the blink of an eye, he also defeated a level 3 poison spider, which rewarded him with 8 experience points and 3,000 skill points. Our hero didn't stop and went on to take out another poison spider without a moment's hesitation. Zero, with a major breakthrough, leveled up, which brought a considerable increase to his vitality, now over 30. Plus, he gained 12 mana points and 6 free attribute points. He was currently at level 2 and needed to accumulate 250 XP to reach the next level. He then targeted one more spider. His attack resulted in an impressive explosion. Now he only needed 100 XP to level up. The area around him was littered with monster corpses. As a result of his feats, he received praise for unlocking his first skill slot, earning the basic skill called Small Fireball. He never imagined that the reward for leveling up as a mythical rank hunter would be 6 times higher than that of ordinary hunters. Even after leveling up 3 times, he had already accumulated 18 free attribute points. The initial growth path for a monster tamer was similar to that of a mage. This meant he still needed to improve his casting speed, stabilize his damage output, and boost his agility. As for his initial skill, regular hunters with limited powers usually didn't bother spending points to improve it since they didn't have much power to upgrade. Zero was thrilled because he had snagged even more skill points. Determined, he decided to maximize his skill. The system confirmed his choice, and in an instant, he had already spent 50 skill points on the upgrade. With that, his small fireball evolved into a medium fireball. The damage jumped to an impressive 140%, and it gained a special effect that increased burn damage by 6% every second. Zero liked what he saw. Later, he took it a step further and upgraded his skill once again, transforming it into an ultra fireball. This was the highest level he could reach for now. At this rate of progress, no matter what happened, he was sure he'd hit level 8 as soon as he completed the first 2 missions in this world, which would set him up to challenge the final boss and finish the first mission of the first world. An unexpected groaning noise caught Zero's attention. He positioned himself in front of a large door. After asking if anyone was inside, he decided to open it and found a hunter who had a leg amputated. The unfortunate guy's name was Cal. He glanced at the man and reflected on the fact that the deaths of hunters were real, realizing that in this world, there wasn't much difference from a regular game. There were missions, but he still wondered if NPCs were just paper-thin characters. Cal then revealed to Zero that his wife and kids had been killed by monsters and asked the adventurer in front of him for help to get rid of the wretched scorpions. In an instant, the system notified Zero that an instant story had been activated and asked him if he would accept the mission to exterminate the scorpions. Zero realized that the rewards for completing NPC missions were way better than what dropped from monsters. With just a magic rod in hand, he decided that the mission was worth it. The mission details were presented. He needed to get rid of all the scorpions. It was a standard mission, but at level 10 difficulty. Besides taking out the regular scorpions, he'd also need to take down the leader, the armored scorpion king. As a reward, he would receive 500 experience points, a silver coin, and 300 random 1-star items. Soon, Zero felt movement around him, but he couldn't see anything. He deduced he wasn't alone, with the presence of lurking monsters, but his priority was to complete the mission. Numerous eyes watched from the shadows while he was already far from spotting the scorpions. Suddenly, armored scorpions appeared right in front of him. These were standard physical-type monsters, level 5. Basically, they were scorpions that had mutated due to environmental contamination, with bodies covered in solid armor that helped them resist a good amount of damage. The scorpions quickly charged toward Zero, but he was ready. His rod glowed, and he hit the armored scorpion with his ultra fireball. The armored scorpion activated its charge ability. Zero managed to dodge and prepared to cast his magic again. It was such a powerful spell that it engulfed the entire area in flames. With that, the system notified him that he had defeated the level 5 armored scorpion. Our hero gained another 15 experience points and 50 skill points. Despite the ultra fireball being extremely strong, it quickly consumed Zero's skill points. From Zero's memory, when the number of armored scorpions dropped below a certain threshold, it would inevitably trigger the appearance of the armored scorpion king. Finally, the monster showed up. It was colossal and imposing. Zero, determined, planned to defeat it before his mana ran out and launched the ultra fireball. The armored scorpion king attempted a move that seemed to be its last-ditch effort. but that didn't seem to faze him at all. He was just as strong and resilient as Zero. Remembering that, he charged at Zero quickly. Zero dodged to the side and attacked from a different angle, unleashing a fireball that consumed the monster. With that, he managed to take it down. He commented that he was a bit lucky since he had still managed to prevent the scorpion from moving. Now all he needed to do was deliver the final blow to complete the mission. But suddenly, someone appeared behind him. One guy already had his sword ready, while the other approached to stab him with a scorpion's claw. Of course, they seemed to be planning to steal the final hit. Zero grabbed the guy moving toward the scorpion. He had already noticed they were there, and they finally revealed themselves. They were shocked to see that Zero was already aware of their plans. Zero knew that while some hunters level up through more honorable methods, there are also those who resort to shady business like killing and stealing. It was a real shame they had picked the wrong target, because every enemy Zero had faced before was 1,000 times stronger than that guy. So, Zero unleashed his power, and an image of a man appeared behind him. The evil hunter was terrified. Without hesitation, Zero attacked with his fire. The evil hunter's ally was completely disoriented, thinking that Zero had run out of mana. He was baffled and asked how Zero was still able to use his abilities. It was then that the guy realized Zero wasn't just some rookie. With a hint of confidence, Zero explained that he was just putting on a show. If it weren't for that, they would have never shown up. And as if that wasn't enough, a purple flame manifested over the golden flames, while the system congratulated Zero for activating the Necromancer class ability called Soul Harvest after defeating the Armored Scorpion King. Then, an intriguing question popped up. Would Zero like to absorb the Armored Scorpion King as his eye? New pet? He commented that he was really lucky to activate the class so quickly. Next, Zero absorbed the scorpion. Sparks of golden flames fell to the ground, transforming into a dark violet flame that formed under his feet. This flame started heading toward the enemy. The system then informed Zero that he had conquered the Armored Scorpion King as his pet, and that this creature was quite intimidating to opponents. The effects of the Necromancer class began to take shape. The loyalty of his pet, the Armored Scorpion King, reached maximum. Zero understood that the difficulty for a monster tamer to level up was linked to the fact that pets needed the tamer's experience to gain levels. In the early levels, the amount of experience required is doubled, and as more pets are acquired, the amount of points needed to level up grows exponentially. It's practically impossible for an average person to keep up in that scenario. On the other hand, Zero had a significant amount of accumulated experience and decided to use it to level his pet up to the max. The Armored Scorpion King's ability called Guardian leveled up to grade A, reducing the damage taken by the Armored Scorpion by 30%. Realizing the situation, the man asked who exactly Zero was, since it was impossible for an ordinary monster tamer to be this strong. Zero, in turn, revealed that ever since he accepted the mission, he felt like someone was secretly spying on him. He suspected that those guys were assassins using invisibility to hide and attack solo players, and that they had accepted the mission at the same time while plotting. Ambush him in the final phase and steal the Scorpion King. The man then realized he had offended the wrong person. He understood he needed to run. In an instant, the Armored Scorpion King delivered a deadly blow to the man's stomach. Desperate, the man pleaded for his life, but Zero, with chilling composure, explained that in a world where the weak are the favorite dish of the strong, anyone who wants to devour others must be ready to be devoured themselves. The man's eyes went blank as he began to be consumed. After that tragic ending, NP6 showed gratitude to Zero for helping him get his revenge. In a gesture of friendship, he considered Zero his friend. Shortly after, the system screen congratulated Zero on completing the mission. He earned 500 experience points, a silver coin, and 3,000 skill points. On top of that, he received gear called the Magic Necklace and Armor Boots. Zero then leveled up to 4. He only needed 2,000 experience points for the next level. He immediately decided to check out his new gear. The Magic Necklace was level 4 with 1 star, promising to grant a huge amount of magic to its wearer. The Armor Boots, meanwhile, were level 5, also with 1 star, offering considerable defense to hunters. He happily remarked that he was equipped according to his needs, especially after the urgency to strengthen his magic. Determined, he continued to refine his items until they reached their maximum potential. In total, he used 24,999 skill points and received golden equipment with an attribute called Sacred Magic Origin. Then, he spent another 29,985 skill points and earned heroic protection armor. With these two new acquisitions, our boy was on the fast track to reaching level 5 by taking on the armored Scorpion King. Then, a new screen popped up in front of him. It showed a zone announcement. All hunters in Doomsville were notified about the emergence of a hidden dungeon, the Apocalyptic City, level 5, that had appeared nearby. The dungeon would be open for 1 hour. All hunters were given the mission to head to the dungeon, and whoever cleared it first would be generously rewarded. The crowd was stunned to hear about the level 5 hidden dungeon, and our hero Zero knew he could be the first to clear it. It wasn't impossible since he had respectable power, so he decided to charge in. The portal had already opened, and everyone was gearing up, forming their teams. Most people wanted to be the first to secure the rewards. One guy even commented that with the strength entering the dungeon, it would be practically suicide. He said they might earn some cash, but they could end up dead before spending it. He emphasized that was the only reason they were forming a team. Zero noticed there were a bunch of people willing to take on the dungeon challenge. Just then, someone shoved him out of the way. It was a knight in golden armor. The crowd was curious about who Liu Yao was, the son of the richest guy in Linhai. Liu and his family claimed that the 3 most powerful pharmaceutical companies in the city belonged to the Liu family, who had a fortune in the billions. Young Master Liu had always had a flashy demeanor. Even his buddies were decked out in 1-star gear that cost a fortune. A woman noticed Zhang Yu. She was Lin Yue, Zero's ex-girlfriend. She approached and started teasing Zero, calling him a common monster tamer who could barely pay his rent while thinking of challenging the dungeon. Zero got pissed off and asked if she had a problem with that. She was shocked, expecting him to beg for another chance, considering how needy he seemed. Then, clinging to Yao, she said he was the only one qualified to clean up after the dumbest. At that point, she figured it was time to stop dreaming. Yao, with a cheeky grin, hugged Yue and cracked a joke about the rejection she had faced, giving him the advice to bounce back. Zero said the girl was like a pair of old shoes, claiming that if he wanted, he could take her with him. Yue was fuming. Her anger made her demand a lesson from him. But instead of being downcast, our guy smiled and advised everyone to appreciate their lives more. R jumped in, accusing Zero of pretending to be brave when he was really just nothing. Realizing something was off, he noticed he couldn't quite see the guy's class, almost like it was deliberately hidden. With that, Yao hurriedly said goodbye because he was eager to tackle the dungeon. Soon, he and his team crossed the portal ready for action, but Yao lamented how incredibly powerful the dungeon was, which wasn't exactly encouraging. The subordinate joined him, agreeing that it would be better to use the resurrection scroll and escape before the monsters caught up to them. Then Yao had a realization and warned that something was approaching fast. All eyes turned to the cliff where a man stood. The group was stunned to see it was Zero. Yao, furious at seeing Zero there, asked if he wasn't afraid of dying. Zero, with a defiant smile, triggered a reaction from Yao, challenging him to a fight. E and the subordinate tried to convince Eloa to back down, reminding her that survival was the priority. Before stepping away, E shot back that she'd rather die there than at their hands. The system welcomed Zero to the dungeon, revealing that his mission was to defeat the Guardian, a level 7 boss monster called Armed Scorpion. Zero sighed in relief when he realized they had left. Then, just moments later, the ground began to crack, and the boss monster emerged with a terrifying roar. Our hero soon noticed that his health bar was significantly higher compared to the minions. He quickly instructed his pet to attack, and the 2 scorpions started to clash fiercely. Pleased with the upgrades he had made to his pet, Zero wasted no time unleashing his Ultra Fireball, dealing an impressive 206 critical damage. The huge boss monster charged at him, but his loyal pet bravely stepped in front to defend him. With swift movements, Zero created several fireballs and launched 6 of them in quick succession. The boss monster's face was slightly burned, showing the impact of the attacks. Seizing the opportunity, Zero attacked from the front while his pet held the monster in place. The enemy roared, and that was the last sound it made before crumpling to the ground. Zero remarked on how weak the monster was, feeling confident about his victory. At that moment, the system screen announced that he had cleared the level 5 dungeon in the Apocalyptic City and, as a reward, received the dungeon scroll. The news left everyone shocked, questioning if Zero was some sort of big deal due to his impressive power. Everyone wondered how he managed to defeat the Guardian monster, especially since most of those present were around levels 1 to 3, while the boss monster was level 7. And curious, E asked if the winner was Yue's ex-boyfriend, since the announcement came just minutes after he entered. He found the assumption ridiculous, arguing that his ex-boyfriend didn't even have a pet. So how could he have cleaned out the dungeon by himself? He was convinced that someone else must have pulled off that feat. While he was slamming the floor with his sword, he insisted that whoever took down the Scorpion King was truly extraordinary. He ordered his subordinates to immediately find the person with ID 0 and start spying on them. It's worth noting that the drop rate for loot from boss monsters is actually way higher than that of regular monsters. You can get anything from copper coins to rare gear, and of course the most valuable item, the non-transferable scroll. That dungeon scroll would be worth way more than a few $1,000s, and Zero decided it was time to upgrade his scroll. Straight to max level, a challenging ranked dungeon scroll had never appeared in the first world. If it hit the market, it would definitely fetch several $100,000 for an average hunter. That's a serious chunk of change, but Zero's goal was to clear the other world. A notification popped up saying that Zero had used a level 5 dungeon scroll. He received 1 gold coin and a reward mission, which was to rescue a survivor. If he completed this mission on time, he'd earn a generous reward. Zero checked the mission details and found out it had a difficulty rating of 100 and an unknown reward, requiring him to escort the NPC. He also got a level 10 map, but unfortunately, Zero was only level 5. On top of that, the monsters he'd face, boars, usually, showed up in packs, making things tricky. He decided not to stress and focus on finding the survivor, Eli. In the middle of the forest, a girl was being chased by a boar. Suddenly, the boar exploded in flames, and as the smoke cleared, Zero revealed himself. The little girl lit up seeing a big dude come to save her. The notification window said survivor Elin had been found. He had 10 hours left on his mission. A furious boar appeared. Zero noticed that the boars in the forest got riled up as soon as he found Island. The boar charged, and Zero fired off a fireball. The boar kept taking damage from the flames, but soon enough, several more boars surrounded him. Zero remarked that these boars had a lot of resistance. A mythical rank hunter, wielding a gold attribute staff and an A-rank fireball, still wasn't doing effective damage. If he died here, he'd fail the mission. Zero pulled out his armored Scorpion and ordered it to protect him. The boars attacked in unison, but the armored Scorpion blocked the blows. Zero launched a super fireball. It hit the boar. The system notified him that he managed to defeat a level 10 frenzied boar, gaining 40 XP and 100,000 skill points. He informed the armored Scorpion that the strategy was working. He encouraged the Scorpion to hang in there a bit longer, and they would level up soon. Our hero took down boar after boar, but they kept coming, and Zero didn't have enough mana to fend off that wave of boars. Eli asked if he was all right. Zero assured her he would definitely get her back. Suddenly, a boar charged him. In response, Zero hit it with the super fireball, and the boar roasted, but it still managed to shrug off the fiery attack. Unfortunately, Zero was still pretty low on health. Otherwise, he would have been out of the game. After the single blow from the boar, he also noticed that the armored Scorpion wouldn't last much longer. Zero didn't expect this mission to be so annoying. He attacked a boar, chipping away at its health. At the same time, Zero received a notification that he leveled up to level 7. Given the situation, he decided to boost his attack power first. Plus, he used equipment he'd gotten from Scorpion Intel. The item was called the Level 7 Boss Fight Ring. It had a penetration effect, meaning attacks from someone equipped with this item ignored 20 defense of the opponent. So, Zero unleashed a more powerful fireball this time. It looked like an energy ball, and it engulfed the enemy, eliminating it instantly. Zero was blown away. Before, he needed to cast 80 fireballs to do some damage, but now he could take down an enemy with just 2. He attacked in quick succession. After a while, he looked exhausted, but finally managed to clear the wave of boars. Now he just needed to get Elon safely to the Unsday village, and the mission would be complete. Then someone showed up, surprised to see Quasar back from the dungeon alive. It was the loser Liu Yao, accompanied by Yuer. The Zeros were dismissed, as he wasn't in the mood to deal with extras. Yuer started praising Yao and asked him to teach Zero a lesson. Yao drew his sword, and Zero challenged him, asking if he really thought he could kill him. Yao then charged in, wanting to see if Zero's mouth was sharper than his sword. Yao's blade hit Zero's shoulder but couldn't break through. Yao couldn't believe it, and neither could Yual, since Yao couldn't inflict any damage on Zero, who was just a beast tamer without weapons. Zero asked if Yao was done because it was his turn now. He showcased his power, unleashing a whirlwind of flames. Seeing this, Yao panicked and threatened Zero, saying he came from a powerful family, and if he attacked, he'd regret it. But our boy couldn't care less about all that talk. He launched his fireball, sending Yao flying. Yao complained about how he ended up in this situation. With a single strike, he disintegrated, leaving his golden armor behind. Zero watched the screen and called Yao an idiot. In the other world, a hunter's name is usually White. However, when a hunter launches a sneaky attack on another hunter with a white name, the aggressor's name turns gray for a short time. During this time, the victim's retaliation is considered an act of defense and won't incur any evil points. If the victim fails their retaliation and gets killed, the aggressor's name turns red and they will receive evil points. According to the rules of the other world, the aggressor can't leave that world, even if they enter a safe zone, unless they kill enough monsters to clear their evil points or wait for their own death. Plus, a hunter's levels and XP drop when they die, and they lose many of their gear and items too. Elan was shocked to see Zero take out Yao with a single blow. She wondered when he had become so powerful. She panicked as she saw Zero approaching her, especially since she couldn't use the resurrection scroll since it could only be used twice in 7 days, and she had already used it once to escape from the dungeon. If she used another now, she wouldn't be able to use it again. Then, overwhelmed by fear, she started sweet-talking him, but Zero and Elan walked right past her without a care. Since Yoon didn't attack Zero, he'd also be affected if he did. He decided not to waste time with insignificant people. Yue watched them walk away. The bitch felt annoyed that Zero had ignored her. A little later, in a certain house, Elan thanked Zero for getting her back home. The system congratulated our hero Zero for completing the mission to rescue the survivor on the challenging rank. As a reward, he received an ice magic staff, a skill book called Tiny Ice, and a pet egg. Plus, he leveled up, boosting his vitality by 30, humanity by 12, and gaining 6 free attribute points. Right now, our boy was level 8 and needed 9,500 XP to level up again. Soon, Zero summoned the staff. It was a level 8 ice magic staff with an extremely strong affinity for ice power, and since he had nearly infinite skill points, Zero decided to upgrade the staff. He did that 144 times, which was the maximum allowed. He had used a total of 2,235 skill points, turning the item into a golden attribute gear, a type of jade breaker. The higher the gear's rating, the more skill points were needed for it. Enhancement. Fortunately, that amount wasn't a problem for Zero. Besides the staff, he managed to snag some other items too. He then took out the pet egg he'd received for being a regular grade. His excitement was a bit on the low side. Plus, he had picked up a few normal grade pet eggs while taking down monsters. He decided to use all of them as food for the armored scorpion. The armored scorpion liked the idea. Soon after, several notifications popped up, letting him know that his pet, the armored scorpion, had consumed the eggs. Later, he was congratulated by the system because his pet had evolved into an elite-grade silver armored scorpion. The evolved version looked super cool with its shiny silver body. Zero was pretty pleased with his 2-star magic staff and the silver armored scorpion, along with the gold gear he had acquired earlier. He was ready to take on the final boss of the first world. However, before that, he needed to head back and restock on some materials. He stepped through the portal. It was already dark outside. He was back in his room when his phone rang. When he answered, it was a call about the $390,000 he owed for his brother's medical bills. If he didn't pay, the hospital would stop his brother's treatment. Our guy then asked for the hospital's payment card number, claiming he would transfer the money in 10 minutes or less. It wasn't a huge problem since he could sell some pieces of his gold gear and come up with a few million. He planned to help the original owner of the body save his brother as a way to pay it forward. But then, he got a notice that the gear was bound and couldn't be traded or discarded. He was stunned. He commented on how this was a downside to having a 9,000-fold buff with no ability to trade his equipment. He only had a bit over 10 grand. Even if he sold all his silver coins, it made him think about ways to make money. He looked at his phone, did some research, and found out that the pay for regular boosting services was pretty low, but he spotted something interesting. There was a post hiring a booster for 300,000 gold. A lot of people were commenting on that post. He reached out to the person with a sly grin on his face. He was intrigued by the sweet reward. A girl was sitting at her PC with multiple monitors. Zero asked about the specific requirements related to the $300,000 bounty for the help mission posted on the forum. The girl replied that he would need to assist a new hunter from the current batch. Second, he had to help the designated person complete the first world. He agreed to that, but tried to negotiate the reward up to $390,000. The girl responded that once the task was completed, she would even give him $400,000. Curious, he asked when they would start. The girl informed him that the person he would be assisting would meet him at the respawn point in Downsday Village in 10 minutes. Zero waited in Downsday Village. He was excited about making 400 grand just by guiding someone through a world he was going to clear anyway. He thought it was a sweet deal with guaranteed profit and no risks. Then, he spotted someone, a woman completely covered in fabric, even hiding her eyes and hair. He asked if she was the one who hired a booster. The woman felt the people around her beginning to whisper. They recognized her as a calamity mage. They couldn't. Imagine that the weak Beastmaster would take the offer, commenting how people nowadays really value money over their lives. Zero observed and suggested forming a party, assuring her that he would help complete the world quests. She joined the team, but her ID was hidden. Zero explained that to clear the first world, she would need to complete 2 prerequisite quests, one of which was to kill 1,000 monsters. After earning 10 coins, he asked if she knew that, and she replied that she did. Zero explained that in this other world, hunters can't inflict damage on monsters that are 5 or more levels above them. Even if Zero attacked the monster until it had just 1 hit point left, it wouldn't make a difference. If he couldn't finish it off, he promised to help her level up while he completed his quests. They encountered a scorpion monster and attacked with the Ultra Fireball, although the spell's damage, which was part of the rewards from previous quests, wasn't as high as the Fireball. It didn't matter much when used as crowd control, so he froze the scorpion. He asked her why she was just standing there and told her to take it down. The woman looked nervous, but she managed to conjure purple flames in her palms. The flames made contact with the frozen monster, resulting in an explosion. The system notified her that she had leveled up, and this happened 3 times. Unbeknownst to her, the scorpion monster was sneaking up behind her to attack. Zero shouted for her to look out. He arrived just in time, pulling her out of the way of the attack. His strike caused a massive explosion. He wore a serious expression while the woman he held gazed at him in admiration, but he didn't notice. Instead, he simply told her to get up so they could move on to the next leveling spot. He asked how old she was to be able to pay $400,000. She gestured with her hand, indicating she was 21. Our hero Zero commented that everyone awakens at 18, which meant it had been 3 years since she entered this other world. Curious, he asked her why her level was still so low. She stopped walking, prompting Zero to ask what was wrong. Calmly, she pulled back her hood, revealing her purple hair and eyes. She thanked Zero for helping her level up and suggested he leave. She promised him $10,000 if he wouldn't say anything to her sister. Zero revealed that he thought she was mute and assured her he would help her get through the first world, as it was a promise he made to her sister. She looked horrified and reminded him of what people say about her, that she's the embodiment of a calamity or a curse. Worried, she said she could cause trouble for him if they stayed together. Zero was curious about what it meant to be the embodiment of calamity. She was about to explain when someone interrupted, saying the calamity mage was about to, cause trouble again. Several men appeared. One commented that, according to what they say on the forum, those who accept missions from the calamity mage often meet untimely deaths. On the flip side, they said those who managed to kill her would gain a massive amount of experience and skill points. The men decided they were going to attack her in the name of justice. The woman panicked, knowing these men were 5 to 6 levels above them, and they stood no chance against them. She told Zero that, since they only wanted her, he should leave. Zero fumed as he realized they wanted to lay hands on his 400 grand without his consent. Someone appeared and noticed a team fight was breaking out. This person found it thrilling. Several armed individuals entered the scene. The previous men started to gossip among themselves. They recognized the person in front of them as the young master Liu Yao from the Liu family, the richest family in Linhai City. They knew they didn't stand a chance if he had come to steal their wins. One man from the earlier group approached Liu and politely informed him they hadn't meant to offend him. Leo told him to shut up. Yao grabbed Zero by the collar and commented that it seemed they were destined to meet. Zero taunted him, asking if he came to give out more gear. He emphasized that Leo couldn't use any more resurrection scrolls for the next 7 days. Yao raised his hand. So he commands everyone to kill Zero. A woman's profile pops up, and her name is Sua. She's at level 1, and beyond that, the rest of the information about her is unknown. Zero puts on a serious expression and is puzzled by his reaction. Then he realizes that his men are just standing behind him, and he smacks them on the head, asking if they didn't understand his orders. One of his subordinates just replies that he's used to it. They surround Zero and Yan. Zero watches their every movement. Suddenly, they all pull out gifts while asking Zero to reconsider. Yan is completely thrown off. Zero is surprised too. She questions Yao about his intentions for doing this, and he curtly tells her to shut up. Then he steps closer to Zero but keeps a safe distance, hiding behind one of his men. Yao tells Zero that he knows he's not afraid of using brute force, but doesn't want to go that route. That's why Yao put in the effort for his men to carefully select these super rare treasures for Zero, with the condition that Zero joins his guild and works for him. Plus, he also promises to pay Zero $50,000 a month. Comments that for a poor peasant like Zero, Yao's offer is something he could never achieve even if he worked hard for 10 years. she suggests he join Yao's guild. In Yuer's mind, she was hoping Yao would be excited that she was helping to convince Zero to join the guild. As soon as Zero joins, planned to teach him a lesson. Zero replies that he only admires those stronger than him and suggests that Yao should use force. Then he could consider the offer. Gets annoyed and emphasizes that 50,000 is more than Zero would earn in a year, so he has no right to reject Yao's offer. Zero expresses that birds of a feather flock together and asks Yuer if she really thinks everyone would give up being human to become a dog like her. Zero asks if they're still going to fight. If not, they should get out of his way. Zero reaffirms that if they are still going to fight, Yao should give the order to let him go. Yuer can't accept his decision and asks why, while Zero looks down at him. Yao, now irritated, repeats that they should let Zero go. Yuer decides to back down. They watch Zero and Yan walk away. One of Al's subordinates comments that the boss is generous for letting Zero go, even after he tried to kill him before. The subordinate insists that Yao should have killed the guy, and the chatterbox gets a punch from Yao. Yao says the best. Things are out of reach, and things that are easily obtained have no value. S grabs him and asks when he ever said he wanted to kill Zero at all costs. She asks when he changed his mind. He replies it was after Zero killed him last time. Yao holds Yuer's chin, seeming to control his rage as he recalls what Yuer said earlier, that Zero's poor family couldn't afford gold equipment, but it's a mystery how a normal monster can still deal so much damage. Yao knows that Zero has more than he lets on, and, that's why he wants Zero working for him. Yuer grits her teeth deep down, insisting that Zero is just a poor peasant and that she'll make him grovel at her feet one day. It was late at night when Yan thanked Zero for protecting her. Zero responds, it was nothing. Otherwise, he'd lose 400,000 if she died, and that wouldn't be a great way to end the day. She steps closer and suggests they give up, since she thinks Zero won't be able to complete the mission. Zero asks why she posted the bounty on the forum if she doesn't have confidence. He adds that she could just give up, but why did she step into the other world? Yan replies that she gave that up a long time ago, and it was because of her sister. She emphasizes that she's the very embodiment of calamity, and it shows something like proof. The system window displays that her special class is Catastrophic Mage. With her catastrophic body, she can't defeat monsters on her own. So, instead of facing the dangers alone, our heroine has to team up with others and share the burden of calamity with her new partner. In this context, her life and her colleagues are completely intertwined. If one of them dies, the other does too, and their levels reset right away. If they decide to stop during this journey, their level will also reset to 0, but the partner will still face penalties. When the catastrophic mage completes the first world, both the player and their companion, who took down the catastrophic body, earn a significant amount of experience. Deep down, Zero is surprised to find out she's a special class hunter. They've just realized that besides main and subclass hunters, there are also special class hunters. As they push the limits of their classes, there's a huge chance of high-ranked classes emerging, which could be legendary or even mythical. It's a shame that for regular folks, breaking these limits isn't possible. They end up being just mere mortals who fade from the public eye. Erin shared that she's tried over 100 times since waking up to this special class 3 years ago, but so far, she's never succeeded. Furthermore, there's a rule from another world that prevents those who are more than 10 levels above her from teaming up with her. She wonders how it's possible that 2 level 10 people could defeat the boss of the first world. She advises him to leave. Zero asks her what would happen if he said it was possible. He responds that he can help them beat the first world, and Lin is surprised and filled with hope. She grabs him and asks if he's serious. Deep down, she admits that for 3 years, she's always dreamed of breaking this stupid class limitation and becoming a hunter admired by everyone. She wonders if that's really possible. Zero tells her to stop daydreaming and invites her to complete the first mission of the first world. Hunters have to complete missions to gain the qualifications to challenge the world boss. The first mission is to eliminate 1,000 monsters. The second is to collect 10 silver coins. Eileen was terrified to see Zero's power. In just a few hours, he led Eileen through the missions of the world. Now they had defeated 1,000 monsters and collected a good amount of coins. Zero informs Eileen that the prerequisite missions are complete, and they can challenge the boss now. Eileen responds that she's fine with that. Zero questions what's wrong. Eileen expresses that she doesn't understand why a strong guy like Zero would take on this mission. Zero says it's because he's not a normal guy. Internally, he's feeling a bit awkward about what he just said, since he actually really needs the money. He's genuinely impressed by her response. At that moment, a system window pops up, showing the details of the first world's missions. She touches it and soon realizes she's opened the first world, the boss arena. the source of nightmares. It was a door to the demon abyss. Zero asks if she's ready. They step through the door and find themselves in the boss arena, the demon abyss. They have 1 hour for the boss fight, meaning they need to defeat the Berserk Wild Boar King within that time limit. If they fail to take down the Wild Boar King before time runs out or get defeated by him, the challenge will be considered a failure. Zero provided Ellen with some potions and items, and Lin was shocked to discover that those were resurrection scrolls, instant recovery medicine, and lots of other high-value consumables. Zero knew he could advance through the first world alone, but he was fully aware that death could come at any moment. In his mind, he remembered to remind her to always stay alert. So he set everything up for the Silver Scorpion to wear the defensive armor they had managed to secure earlier, along with the Hero Guardian's armor that Lilial had left behind. He hoped the Scorpion would be able to withstand the boss's attack. Lin heard something. Zero informed her that the boss had arrived, a wild boar, looking pretty menacing. The Berserker Boar King was level 10 and a physical 2-star boss. This beast ruled over the source of nightmares, guarding the passage to the first world. The Berserker Boar King crushed anyone who dared to break through the source of nightmares to enter the second world. He trembled with fear but tried to convince himself to stay calm. He remembered that last time they hadn't been able to survive with a group of dozens of people, and now there were just 2 of them. Zero realized that Elin might have developed a subconscious fear of the Boar King after so many previous failures. He suggested she hide somewhere and focus on healing the Silver Scorpion. She asked what Zero would do, and he replied that he would take charge of the boar. As if sedated by the mere mention of the boar, the beast attacked. Zero countered with a super fireball. The boar's health dropped by 325. The room filled with smoke. The boar seemed even angrier. Zero commented that the boss monster's resistance was not to be underestimated. The beast roared loudly. It attacked again, but the scorpion blocked the blow. The boar's hooves dug into the ground, causing parts of the terrain to shatter. Then, Zero unleashed a barrage of fireballs. The boar couldn't dodge that attack, no matter how tough it was. As long as the Silver Scorpion could withstand the attacks, Zero was at an advantage. The boss monster used Wild Charge and tossed the Silver Scorpion backward. The boss roared loudly. Zero knew this fight wouldn't be easy. Now, the boss monster was in a state of rage and shouted for Zero to dodge. The Silver Scorpion braced for impact, but Zero stood still, waiting for the perfect moment. He watched the boss bear down on him. The Boar King realized he was close to Zero. He found the perfect team. It was time to use the Super Stalactite. The Berserker Boar King became encased in ice, and Lin was surprised and worried since a low-star boss like that had a 50% tenacity, so his frozen state wouldn't last long. The boss roared angrily. He was infuriated, and this usually triggered a deadly attack. The armored scorpion blocked the way as it moved toward Zero. Zero decided to give more vitality to the armored scorpion. Ellen agreed with the idea. She went ahead with what they had discussed, but soon realized that even with the extra vitality, the scorpion wouldn't hold up for much longer. They needed a stronger attack that would deal way more damage. Zero assured her it wouldn't take long. He just needed her to buy him some time, and that would be more than enough. Then, he used the stalactite, Fire Dance. The wild berserk boar slammed into a huge block of ice and roared. Even being the level 10 2-star wild boar king, he couldn't withstand the relentless assault from a 2-star golden gear with mythical classes. A round sphere floated in the air, and Zero was surrounded by a golden glow. He unleashed a combo skill, a fireball against the boss monster, and Lin was amazed, having never seen anyone wield those 2 skills with such finesse. The boss monster stopped and fell dead. AA. Notification window popped up congratulating him for defeating the level 10 Berserk Boar King, 2 stars. He received 100% of all rewards, plus 6,000 experience points and 1,000 skill points. On top of that, he got 12 more silver coins, 6 level 2 meats, and a skill book called Berserk, which sacrifices 10% of defense to boost attack power by 5% for 10 seconds. He decided to leave the skill book for one of his pets. He also received the Berserker's Coat, a magical item of level 10, 2 stars, and golden rank. When the user's vitality runs low, it absorbs damage using mana to negate the damage taken. For every 2 points of mana, 1 point of damage is nullified. Additionally, there's a Berserker Blood Ring, which is a coveted piece of gear that regenerates 55 vitality with every critical hit on an enemy. And Lin also got a message congratulating her for breaking the class restriction of the Calamitous Mage and received the Calamitous Body. She's now evolved into an epic class, the Taboo Mage. She was thrilled to no longer be the Calamitous Mage. She even managed to evolve into a central epic class. They were both taken aback when another screen popped up. Meanwhile, in the plaza, news was announced that they had defeated the world boss, the Berserk Boar King. People couldn't believe it took them only half a day to clear the first world of the other world. Then, the crowd noticed there were no notifications from other hunters. It was impossible for just one of them to complete the mission. One attendee recognized the name Suilin and recalled that she was the calamitous mage who had 0 attack power. Someone must have boosted her to complete the mission. They pieced it together. The guy she was with had an anchor, yet he managed to kill a world boss all by himself. They couldn't believe it. A system window appeared congratulating Hyling and Zero for clearing the first world, called the Origin of Evil. The second world, the Zombie Siege, was activated. Hunters were instructed to head to the second world. A red and blue tunnel appeared. The red tunnel leads to the second world, while the blue tunnel takes them back to the first world. Zero decided it was better to stock up on supplies first before heading to the second world. He turned around and started making his way to the blue tunnel. Island was surprised and asked where he was going. He replied he was going to find Island's sister to get his money. That's when Island realized that Zero was the mysterious hunter who solved the hidden dungeon known as Zero. At the city center of Linie, in the Sue family's office, a woman informed Jennifer that there was a call for her. On the other end of the line, Zero said he had completed the mission and wanted to pass the card data so she could send the payment. She replied she needed to check that first, so she would get back to him later. Jenny rolled her eyes and complained that it hadn't even been half a day, and he already had the nerve to claim he finished the mission. She suspected he was a scammer, but suddenly, Island burst through the door, exclaiming she had succeeded. Jenny asked if it was true, and Island shared that not only did she break the calamitous body, but she also obtained an epic class, the Taboo Mage. Jania was overjoyed. Nobody from the Sul family had ever achieved such a rare hunter class. She presumed Island had received help from multiple people to finish the mission quickly, and Island corrected her, saying only one person helped. Jenia was surprised. She quickly went to her desk and asked Island if the person who helped was a hunter named Zero. Island confirmed it. It was all over the internet discussion forums. Jania smiled, thinking that both Island and Zero managed to break a record that had stood for hundreds of years, and they'd be among the first to enter the second world. Instantly, Jania called a council meeting to clear the second world. First, she planned to recruit Zero for her guild. The Nebula Rain Guild cuts to the suburbs. Mr. Eiling was informed that the hospital had received payment. They asked how they could help. Deep down, Zero thought about how punctual the people who gave him $400,000 were, considering they sent the money as soon as he asked. Zero told the hospital they should heal his brother. The hospital reminded him that his brother's injuries were quite severe, so he would need to be monitored and go through recovery, which would cost about $40,000 to $50,000 a month. Hearing it would be such a high amount made Zero regret agreeing to work for that rich guy. His phone rang again. He answered and was immediately invited to join the Nebula Rain Guild. Genia introduced herself as the vice president, Sugenia. She assured him that the company would provide insurance, housing funds, and a monthly salary of $30,000, plus performance bonuses. It was all very timely. Zero immediately expressed that he would join the Yay's guild, but with one condition, that they never invade his personal life or freedom. This made Eli and Genia nervous. One of the council members argued that they could never give him that, since he would be working for them. If everyone in the guild did what they wanted, there wouldn't be much point in having a guild at all. Zero replied that if they couldn't accept his terms, then they could forget it. He simply hung up. Su Chen left the group. Sue asked Jennifer if he was the guy she had mentioned. Despite the conditions, Jennifer explained that the guy had recently become a hunter and still managed to get through the first world trials in just half a day while carrying Eli. Not to mention he broke a 100-year record that no one could surpass. She insisted they grab such a rare talent before others did. A council member was about to argue against this, but Aline interrupted, saying that Zero was really good at what he did. She shared her thoughts that, for now, she was on our board with Zero's terms and discussed bringing him to the Mr. Rain Guild for an evaluation. Genia, who is his partner, supports this idea. She even adds to what Zero said, that he wouldn't be completely free and would help the guild whenever they needed or in major events. Sheen agrees but emphasizes that if Zero refuses to listen to them, then responsibility will be entirely on him. Meanwhile, Zero is there, glued to his phone, thinking about the guild of Hennig Province in the Dragon Kingdom. It's ranked 5th, even though it's 2 positions below the Supreme Guild. It still seems like a good opportunity, and calculating his monthly salary and commissions, Zero concludes he will have more than enough to cover the hospital bills every month. Then, suddenly, his phone rings again. When he answers, he gets the news that they are willing to accept his conditions. They ask when he can start working in the guild. He says he prefers to work from home instead of the guild office. He explains that since both the office and his home are in Linhai Siri, his backup point will not be affected. Genia seemed a bit lost. Zero asks if that's possible, saying that if they can't do it, he'll forget the agreement. This makes Genia agree to let him work from home. In Zero's mind, he thinks the guildmaster is nice and easy to communicate with, and now that his financial problems are sorted, he can focus on cleaning up the alternate world. Moments later, he is called to choose the world he wants to enter. The blue tab shows the first world, the origin of nightmares, and the red tab shows the second world, the land of zombies. And of course, our protagonist, feeling all confident and overpowered, chooses to enter the second world. He steps through the portal and arrives on the other side. A system window appears, welcoming him. He looks at the screen. It was a description of the second world. This world is about to face a huge calamity, with the apocalypse knocking at the door. The humans exposed to the darkness that are taking over the city have undergone various mutations. The zombies are about to surround the city, and as the only survivor from Konote and Siri, he's called to work alongside everyone to protect the city. Otherwise, when the zombies invade, there'll be nowhere to run. The mission in World 1 is to clear a hidden dungeon, and the mission in World 2 is to survive and fend off 3 waves of zombies. The screen states that the tunnel to the boss dungeon of World 2 will only be activated after completing all the missions in that world. Only by defeating the boss can they access World 3. Zero knew that the lowest level in the second hidden dungeon is level 15, so if he wanted a chance, he had to clear that first. To do that, he'd need to level up a bit. He got distracted by someone yelling that the zombie horde would arrive in 2 days. The person was Nolan, the captain of the soldiers. Nolan was loudly complaining that those disgusting zombies keep attacking the city and that they're running low on weapons. He was worried because there weren't enough weapons in stock for the guys on the front lines. Zero noticed that even here in Knot City, the safety zone of World 2, the city still gets attacked frequently by zombie hordes, creating a constant, unbearable tension in the air. Nolan approached Zero and welcomed him. He warned Zero that a war was about to break out and asked if he could head to the west side of Konoha in Siri and take out some mutant zombies so they could gather resources and materials for weapons. Our hero, Zero, was aware that there were some missions going on in Knot City. This particular mission was the toughest of them all, with a high difficulty level and tons to do. The targets ranged from level 2 to level 20. The system screen displayed all the details about the resource collection mission. Check it out, it was a regular mission, but with a difficulty level of 200. Things were serious. It was urgent. The weapon warehouse in Knot City needed restocking, and Zero was sent west, where there was a camp full of mutant zombies. The mission was to eliminate these zombies and collect the materials. He needed to gather 100 of each core: body, fire, ice, and poison. The reward was 100,000 experience, plus 50 silver coins, 9,000 skill points, and 2 random star-rated items, either a skill book or a pet egg, along with a chance. This made Zero smirk, already thinking about the rewards. The effort would be worth it. The payouts were generous. After completing this mission, he was sure he could also clear World 2. He told Nolan he could count on him. Nolan thanked him with his usual vibe. Cut to outside Knot City, where a camp was on fire and zombies were just chilling. Zero then stepped forward and announced he was starting the mission. The kid brought along his pet, a silver scorpion. He kicked things off by launching his super fireball. One zombie went down in flames, while another, feeling brave, tried to attack, aiming for the scorpion, but the little guy squashed it. Zero then thought, wait, do these fire zombies have resistance to fire spells? The damage was terrible because of that. He decided not to use fire spells anymore, grabbed his spear, and stated he was going to take down these zombies for good. He sent the silver scorpion to distract the fire zombie. The scorpion held onto the zombie's arm with its pincers. Zero was impressed that the scorpion's equipped items, along with its defense ability, granted it a life-steal effect. The fire zombie couldn't harm it at all, and it was hilarious to see the zombie dangling by its claws. Zero decided to make his next move and hit the fire zombie with ice. The zombie was trapped in a crystal. Zero had just defeated the level 11 fire zombie. He gained 50 experience points and an extra 110,000 skill points. He picked up a few copper coins, just a handful. It seemed like the drop rate at this level wasn't great. With a determined look, he quickly took down several fire zombies. Then he glanced at the screen and noted that he only managed to collect fire body cores. After grinding all afternoon, he was far from completing the mission, and the drops were pathetic. So he decided it was time to grab something to eat before continuing the night because, come on, Humans need food to function, but a deafening roar caught him by surprise. He had a feeling he knew what it was. A boss monster was back, a fire and ice zombie commander level 14. A magical boss had appeared. Our hero took a quick peek and confirmed his gut was right, you know? Man, those boss monsters are worth a lot of cash. He was hoping to snag some fancy loot, like good gear or a skill book. That thought got him more excited than a kid in a candy store. He gripped his spear tight, and the zombie commander already spotted him. The roar was loud, and then it hit him with icy blasts, freezing Zero's feet like they were stuck to a fridge. Dude, Zero already knew this was bad news. The zombie commander hurled an icicle at Zero. The impact was intense, and he lost 352 health points. What the hell? A fireball appeared at the tip of his spear, and he hit the zombie commander, dealing real damage with the ice. Zero realized his abilities were weaker than a flat soda against that zombie with dual ice and fire powers. It was like a total counter to the spells he was casting. So, he called out the Silver Scorpion to defend himself. A bead of sweat dripped down his forehead as he saw the damage the zombie had done. The zombie commander started gathering energy in its hand, creating a magical circle full of sharp spikes and sending it straight at the scorpion. Then the system chimed in. You're out of the game. Your Silver Scorpion has died in battle. It could respawn at the fountain after 3 hours, but it would take a hit on its level and loyalty. Just then, another window popped up saying the Necromancer class abilities had been activated and the Silver Scorpion would automatically revive in an hour, avoiding the death penalty. And just to add salt to the wound, the zombie commander came charging again. Zero realized that Zombie was way stronger than the boss from the first world. Suddenly, the boss got hit by a lightning bolt right in the face. The boss was shocked since it just took damage from a girl with 400,000 health, and that's actually the nickname Zero gave her, referring to the money he got from her sister. Dinho shouted from a distance that he was going to use crowd control while landing an attack. He nodded right away. The protagonist told the zombie commander that even with reduced power, he was going to crush that loser to death. The commander let out another deafening scream and then got hit with another fireball right in the face. Zero was confused about how a fireball could control the situation, but he added a little something extra to the mix. That electricity made both of them groan loudly. Zero was amazed by how effortlessly Gina unleashed 3 abilities without giving the commander a moment to breathe. He had no idea an epic mage's taboos were that insane. She sent out a fireball and an ice spear to round off that heavy attack, hitting the commander's body and making it groan even more. The two of them kept hitting hard together. Their abilities were like a well-orchestrated masterpiece. Soon, the system window popped up, congratulating them for defeating the level 14 boss. They earned 3,000 experience points, 80% for being a duo, plus 20% for the final blow, totaling 4,200,000 skill points, which is a whole lot. Zero then called Dinha, known as Miss 400,000, and thanked her for the help. He said he'd share the boots with her. Dinha replied that it was all good. She was just doing her mission and happened to find him. Plus, she didn't even get the chance to thank him properly for helping clear the first world. Dude, our hero Zero was like, uh-oh, because he had already rolled some cash from Gina's sister. Then Gina clarified, saying that the money was from her sister, not from her. She formally introduced herself as SU Gina or Elin, a newbie. The curious girl asked Zero what his name was. The boy hesitated for a second, totally not expecting that, you know? But he shook her hand without missing a beat. Introducing themselves as the Rangs, Denia jumped right in with her idea of going on a little adventure together to farm some monsters. Zero, always the sharp one, asked about Denia's class effects. She excitedly explained that all her crowd control abilities could be turned into silences, and that the control duration would increase by 30%, plus an extra second. Plus, the cooldown on all her skills would drop by 30%. That's when Zero realized that his farming efficiency would skyrocket with her help. Then, Denia, in her typical style, asked where Zero was headed, and he said he was going to take care of something quickly and would let her know in no time. He suggested they meet back in the same spot after 10 minutes to farm together. Denia sparkled with golden energy at her fingertips, showing she was serious. She mentioned a promise she made to marry whoever helped her escape the first world where she's been stuck for 3 years. After a while, Denia snapped back from that daydream. Cut to the city where our hero was plotting his next move. So, Zero went to check the loot from the boss monster, and surprise, he found 3 pieces of gear and a skill book. He decided to sell the 1-star gear and use the rest to boost his battle power. He equipped ice and fire mobility boots, which were a 2-star mage class item. When the user attacks an enemy, their agility increases by 10 for 5 seconds. The gear is awesome, but the effect doesn't stack. Zero was super pumped with his added speed. Next up, his partner Scorpion needed some stronger attack skills. He used refinement, and the system window explained the flaming super missiles. When ranked up, he could summon 3 flaming missiles to attack the enemy, each dealing 110% magic damage, costing 72 mana with a 5-second cooldown. Zero moved as fast as a Ferrari, already in the farming area, and decided to test the skill and see what it was like now. In addition to being faster, he had an evasive move up his sleeve. Zero was feeling confident, thinking those monsters were in for a rough time. Cut to the system window popping up with a notification from Dinia. She invited Zero to join the Misty Rain Guild. With a smile on his face, Zero accepted the offer. Now that he was in the guild and had his gear and skills sorted out, it was time to continue the mission. Moments later, a zombie met the flaming missiles and turned into a little BBQ. As you can imagine, they were already in action, farming monsters without a care. Dinia was impressed to see that the kid took down that zombie with just one shot. He even complimented her, saying her situational awareness and mechanics were really good, and that her skill set was pretty solid too. He also mentioned her mythic gear, which had some awesome properties. Dinia then revealed that her sister had given her all that gear, thinking it would fit the taboo mage perfectly. Zero was green with envy, thinking about how rich those sisters must be. Then Dinia asked, "So, did you hide the view of your gear?" She also noticed his attack power was sky high, leaving her wondering if he had any mythic level equipment. Zero quickly clarified that it wasn't about gear at all, he just had a mythic rank class. Dinia didn't buy it, thinking that there are always reveals when mythic rank hunters awaken, but this year there hadn't been any revelations on Awakening Day, so no mythic classes appeared. Zero said he was cool if she didn't believe him. Deep down, he knew he didn't get his class through Awakening. They finished collecting the fire and ice element cores. The mission would wrap up once they dealt with the hyper-toxic zombie situation. Dinia agreed it was time to head to the hyper-toxic level. The system window showed they had 100% of the fire and ice cores and 0 of the poison core. Then, a guild announcement popped up from Mr. Rain, stating that everyone should gather in the zombie city in 10 minutes or they'd be kicked out of the guild. Gihan was wondering what the hell Tanjum's deal was, because that dude never explains anything and just keeps threatening people. Zero asked who Tanjum was, since he looked pretty intimidating. Gihan said Tanjum was the boss of the Misturum Guild's branch in Linhai. Tanjum's dad, who is Gihan's uncle, is the head of the Sul family, our Oath brothers. The position of Zajum was handed to him by Gina's uncle. Zero suggested they head to the meeting spot first, because of the guild event. Cut to another scene. A zombie let out a deafening scream, and a bunch of guys attacked at once, but they all got knocked away. Besides the giant zombie, the humans were also fighting among themselves. Someone yelled at Liu Yao, saying that Misty Rain Guild had found the boss first and was still trying to steal it. Liu Yao shot back that power was what mattered and ordered to take out those pathetic Misty Rain members. That guy's back again. What a nightmare. But then everyone got interrupted when a magic circle appeared in the sky and it started raining fire. This caught Yao's attention, and he got annoyed because someone was messing up his plans. Zero showed up and asked Isle if he was trying to steal their guild's loot. An hour earlier, a giant zombie was causing chaos. Several men were shooting arrows while others tried to defend themselves, but everyone just kept getting thrown around. The guys warned their superior that their taboo mage controlling the boss was draining way too much energy. The member replied that they had nothing to fear since Jinia would be there soon. In the meantime, their plan was to wear the monster out as much as possible. Zero stepped forward. He and Jinia drew a lot of attention. People recognized Jinia as the second daughter of the Soul family, the beauty of the Iceberg Legends because she had that icy demeanor. Everyone was gossiping about her, especially since she had recently broken her class limit. Then they noticed the guy next to her who helped her do that, and wondered how that was possible since he looked like any regular dude. Jinia got flustered and told Zero to stop caring about that nonsense. She made it clear that she wasn't cold. Zero seemed unfazed and just replied, "Cool." Jinia flushed red and internally scolded herself for being so awkward. A guild member was relieved to see her, but his face fell when he realized Jinia was annoyed. Then Jinia got agitated and pulled the guy's ear for snooping into her love life. Sheen responded that wasn't it, but he was worried about her because that guy might be up to something. Jinia assured him she knew how to tell right from wrong. Seeing as he called them there, she asked if there was some important mission. Sheen warned that the undead monsters in the city had resurfaced, and to top it all off, even a zombie king showed up. Dinha and Zero exchanged looks, stunned that a zombie king had popped up right there, where monster resurrections were unlikely. She told Zero that if they took down the boss of the zombie city, the fame and strength of their guild would get a monumental boost. That's when Zero decided they should go, since they also needed to complete the guild mission. Chen blocked Zero's way and insisted he shouldn't go, and Zero hesitated, asking why. Chen said it was because Zero was a beast tamer who joined the guild in a pretty suspicious way. He suspected that Zero was hoping for a free ride. When the group heard this, they were shocked and couldn't believe Zero was a tamer. You know how it is? That class has a low evolution rate and is hard to develop. Plus, they started analyzing his gear, seeing it was nothing special and assumed he was broke and just there to drain the guild's funds. They suggested to Sheen not to let him go so he wouldn't slow them down and waste the group's resources. Dinha got mad and asked if anyone there really knew who he was, but Zero just said it was up to Sheen since he was in charge. And Dinha got really pissed. She grabbed Zero and announced that if he wasn't going, neither was she. The boss panicked, asked Jinyan to calm down, and argued that he was just thinking about everyone's safety. Zero, because otherwise the kid might actually die in the battle. He agreed to let him go if that's what Janinha wanted, but Zero could only stay as a spectator and would have to bring his own resurrection scroll. Shane pulled Ginhan aside since he was hoping she'd deal with the Razumbi. They'd already taken so much damage. Ginhan asked Zero to wait for her and promised she'd be back soon. Zero knew it would be a hassle having Ginhan with him, and considering the numbers, taking down the level 15 boss was just a matter of time. He saw it as a perfect opportunity and decided to take a look at the strength of the guild that was sitting at 5th place in the provincial rankings. Fast forward to the present. Someone recognized Yao and Zero. People were shocked by how much damage he dealt. Yao asked if he had joined Mr. Rain. Someone interrupted and let it slip that Zero had turned down Yao's invitation to join the Supreme Guild, but was now acting like a guard dog for them. Fine. Woman even criticized Zero, calling him pathetic. A purple light began to form in the circus and hit the feisty girl on the head. Jinnah sighed, saying that peace had finally returned. Yao called Zero over and asked how much Mr. Rain was paying him. He offered to double or even triple that money. He even promised to make Zero the vice president, stating he could be the CEO of the guild. Ganina got furious at Yao for trying to steal Zero right under their noses. I mean, Zero had a pretty cool idea. Promises are meant to be kept, man. You gotta stay true to your word, you know? Since Zero is already in Mr. Rain's guild, he doesn't plan on leaving, but he noted that the future is uncertain, so he'll have to see what happens when the time comes. Yao liked that answer and was pretty chill about it. He told Zero that the doors of the Supreme Guild are always open for him. Then Yao called the guild members because it was time to leave, but they looked a bit confused, not getting it. They were like saying that the boss monster was almost in their grasp and asking if they were really gonna let this slip. Yao got annoyed and yelled at them like they were losing it. He asked if they were that desperate, explaining that he was looking at things from a much broader perspective, while the members didn't seem to grasp that. Meanwhile, Zero and Daninya watched Yao walk away. Daninya thanked Zero, and he replied that it was the right thing to do. Suddenly, they heard a terrifying roar followed by an attack. It was armed with a monstrous weapon, and the monster was a real terrifying giant, perfect to be called the King Zombie of Destruction. Zero grinned and shouted at the monster, "Let's dance, you son of a gun!" He launched a fire hyperbola that hit the zombie in the belly. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect him to be that tough. He called for Ginhan, the famous 400,000, asking her to do it again. Ginhan readily agreed and used mind control to freeze the zombie. Zero gathered all his power at the tip of his staff and then fired a flaming missile that fried the zombie with a single blow. Once the fight was over, the monster's body crumpled to the ground. The system window popped up, congratulating him for defeating the level 15 boss, the King Zombie of the institution. He gained 7,080 experience points, 9% performance points, and 80% of the last hit. He also earned 1,500,000 skill points. Everyone was impressed by the scene. People were wondering where this hero had come from. Even though the monster was down, it was still a boss. So many couldn't believe he took it out all by himself. Plus, they noticed that Zero made the whole Supreme Guild back off. Even the young master of the Liu family showed him some respect. Jinniana approached Zero and thanked him, saying if it weren't for him, the King Zombie would have been stolen by the Supreme Guild. Zero replied that it was also part of his job with the guild member, Mr. Rain. Everyone was all smiles when they realized Zero was a big deal in Naughton City. The girl clung to Zero as they walked, and the rest of the guild followed behind. Then Sheen, all angry, asked why the hell everyone was back. After that, he questioned if they had taken down the boss. One of the guild members said the monster tamer who came with the young lady had taken out the Supreme Guild and even dropped the boss. Man, Shine was stunned when he heard all that. He thought the guy was just another lame monster tamer. So of course, he had to check if the dude was really that strong. The guild member chimed in that the monster tamer was so skilled he could just punch and knock anyone down without breaking a sweat. With an expert like that on the team, the guild member got really pumped. believing they were gonna rock it. Then Shine couldn't hold back and started yelling and cursing at the monster tamer everyone was talking about. He asked if the guy was doing this on purpose, like he would only step in after everybody was wiped out. Sheen used his finger like it was a sword and pushed Zero in the chest, poking him and saying Zero should know he was the president and he could kick him out of the guild if he kept ignoring orders. At that moment, Zero grabbed Shine's finger and flipped it around. And not only that, Zero reminded Shine that he was the one who said not to do anything. Shine threw a fit. It was like Zero had put hands on him. Zero, completely calm, threw it back at Sheen that the mission he assigned was to take down the boss. He challenged Sheen to brag and say if he had completed that mission. The girl jumped in and told Sheen that without Zero, they'd never have been able to handle the boss, and this time it was all thanks to him, deserving of the recognition. Everyone started nodding in agreement like, yeah, that's right. The girl called to Zero to continue the mission. Shine, of course, was in shock over this whole mess. He had assigned a guild member to keep an eye on Zero 24/7, and if they spotted any weakness, they were supposed to report it immediately. The scene shifts to a place covered in a creepy purple mist. The girl complained that the smell was unbearable. Zero calmly explained that hypertoxic zombies are way harder to deal with than fire or ice zombies. He warned her to stay alert. She asked if the zombie dealt a lot of damage. Zero replied that while the hypertoxic zombies don't have fire or ice attributes, they have a pretty scary ability. Their bodies are hypertoxic, causing anyone who attacks them or gets attacked by them to enter a poison state that can't be cured for 5 seconds. And every second, the victim loses 6% of their max health. Jean was worried. Zero assured her that if she healed right away, it wouldn't be a problem. Jean remembered something. She had given him the reward for the mission he completed. Zero thanked her for that. The girl activated her ability and managed to immobilize a zombie. Then she signaled Zero to do what he did best. Zero attacked with a triple missile, dealing a ton of damage to the zombie. Dina couldn't ignore how high his damage was. The guy was taking down zombies in one hit. Every time they farmed, Zero mentioned that with Dina helping control the zombies, collecting the zombie cores for the mission got a lot easier. They moved further into the dark forest. Zero sensed something was off. A guild member reported to Sheen that Zero was on a mission with the young lady, and that they seemed pretty close. Sheen was there gnawing at his shirt trying to contain his anger. He was dying of jealousy seeing the two of them greeting each other. Ever since Gina unlocked the Calamitous Mage class 3 years ago, she didn't even have a class for it. The guild member seemed worn out from all this drama and suggested they come up with a way to kick Zero out of the guild and keep him away from the young woman. Suddenly, a system window popped up on the screen. It was an announcement that echoed throughout the city of Knoten. All the hunters in Knoten were warned about a wave of zombies heading their way in 30 minutes. This zombie wave would be level 13, so everyone had to gear up to defend the city. Shine remarked that Zero had openly challenged him and even snagged his girl. He made it clear he had thousands of ways to kick Zero out of the guild. Heavy rain. But he also said he wouldn't let that go without a fight. One guild member got nervous and reminded Sheen that there were resurrection scrolls in the other world, and that there were safe zones where killing players was off limits. He realized it wouldn't be easy to take the guy down. Sheen mentioned the second world's law. When the zombie waves attack, the protection mechanisms of the safe zones just disappear. All he needed was one zombie wave to deal with that jerk. Several zombies were sprawled out on the ground, and their loot started to drip down. It was the loot from Zero and Gina. Janina got excited because if they managed to snag a few more poison corpse cores, they'd complete the mission. With 30 minutes still to go before the zombie wave arrived, they decided to hustle. Out of nowhere, a zombie bit Zero on the shoulder. Immediately, Janina rushed to help him, but before she could cast her spell, Zero had already driven a stake into the zombie. Zombie blood spilled across the ground. Dina asked if he was okay. He said danger is part of the game when you're in a place full of it. Since they had already collected enough corpse cores, he suggested they head back to the city to finish the mission. Little did they know, a silhouette of a man was watching them. Cut to the city. The system window displayed a congratulatory message for completing the collection mission. They were rewarded with prizes, including experience points, an additional 100,000 skill points, plus 9,000, and gear like zombie armor and knee pads. They also got one gotcha prize, which was one skill book. Both Dina and Zero leveled up, with Dina now at level 16 and Zero at level 17. Zero needed 55,000 experience points to level up again. Jean, all happy, told Zero that she leveled up and received 2 level 15 2-star gear as her reward. She asked how he was doing, and Zero shared that his new level came came with an evolution for his pet. Gina pointed out that if it weren't for monster tamers having to share experience points with their pets, they'd probably be at a much higher level. Gina warned that the first wave of zombies was about to arrive. She asked if Zero wasn't going to refine his new gear. Zero, almost. Forgot about that. As always, Zero refined it to the max. The system window displayed a congratulatory message for obtaining the explosion-proof zombie attribute armor. The armor was at level 15, with vitality and an extra 720, and the class was Knight. It also provided +5 physical and +5 stamina. There was a specific feature called Defense, which reduced damage taken by 50 points. This effect doubled when facing zombies. Basically, this armor was built to protect well against zombie attacks. With it, he'd never have to worry about those monsters attacking him again. The other item he got was knee protection that was super effective against zombie explosions. This thing is level 15, all shiny and golden. It had 95 physical defense, 90 magic, 5 resilience, and +5 power. This gear is top-notch, fit for a knight, and it has this special feature that cuts damage taken by 50%. It's like he's got an invisible shield against the zombies. The effect doubles when he's up against zombies. Honestly, these knee pads are key to soaking up a ton of damage, and if he combines them with the armor, the zombies won't even get close. With those two items, our hero is practically invulnerable, and no one in the second world can touch the scorpion and silver armor, which is already at level 15. Ginhan, all pumped up, is getting ready to face the next wave of zombies, but then she gets a call. It's Chen. The guy tells her she needs to go to the office for something important, and her sister is there too. Everyone's on edge, so they send someone to pick her up. Can you imagine the drama? That put Ginhan in a bit of a panic, wondering if something serious happened. She told Zero that she wouldn't be able to fight the zombie wave because there's a family emergency. Zero advised her to hurry since once the wave hit, it would be impossible to leave. Ginhan was worried because it was just a level 13 zombie wave, but the sheer number is what was scary. She compared it to a swarm of ants that could take down an elephant. She told Zero to be careful. Zero thanked her for the heads up. Then a blue screen popped up in front of Zero. The system window alerted him that the zombie wave was approaching, so everyone needed to rush and find shelter. Soon there was an announcement in the city for all Noden hunters. It was about the incoming zombie wave. From that point on, until the wave was repelled, nobody would be able to leave the other world. The protective barriers around the city would also be disabled. There was a note saying that anyone who killed more than 50 zombies and survived would successfully repel the current wave. And then the door started to open. Hundreds of zombies began to swarm in. They were ready to devour everyone, and of course the players got overwhelmed. The zombie waves are endless. The zombies are programmed to retreat after an hour of attacking. Zero thinks if he can take out 50, he'll get a break. He received a message from Sakura at the Mr. Rain Pavilion. She's asking him to go over there and help out. So these guys had already bribed 10 level 12 archers following the president's orders and told everyone to hide in the alley. They thought that since Zero's defense was weak, a well-placed shot would take the kid out. 3 times, Chen had planned for Zero to die right there, and by the time he came back, the guys Shane sent wouldn't let him live a second longer. This dude wanted Zero to keep dying until he went crazy. Shane was obsessed with catching him in a trap, and nobody could take that away from him. Meanwhile, Zero had already shown up at the meeting spot. The moment he stepped in, the archers fired their arrows, but Zero called forth his silver scorpion, which blocked everything on the spot. Shine and the guy with blue hair were left dumbfounded. They thought Zero was just some weak monster tamer, but the guy was as strong as an ox. A system notification pinged Zero, telling him he had been attacked maliciously by a hunter. He had 10 minutes to counterattack, and the best part was he wouldn't earn evil points for taking them out during that time. With a devilish grin, Zero asked if their little show was over. Now it was his turn. Zero was notified that he had killed a hunter named Cat Free, who had a gray name. He wouldn't earn any evil points for that. Then he found out he eliminated the hunter Insanity, also with a gray name. And once again, no evil points. Zero kept walking through the alley with his silver scorpion following close behind, and the kid was fuming. Sheen asked just how strong Zero was. He was pissed at the blue-haired guy for saying Zero had low defensive stages. He demanded an explanation. Unfortunately, the blue-haired guy had no clue. Out of nowhere, they were attacked by a fireball. When the smoke cleared, Zero's silhouette was revealed. He mocked them, saying they thought they could fool him with that. Shine pretended he didn't know anything. He pointed out that Shine had sent guys to keep an eye on him after the zombie boss was killed, all to try and get rid of him. Sheen asked if Zero had just pretended to have weak defense to trick them. Zero corrected him, saying that using the word deal with wasn't exactly accurate. Zero explained that he just wanted to see what their plans were. Meanwhile, Sheen drew his bow, acting like he owned the place. He said it didn't matter if Zero figured out their intentions. He was still going to kill him. Zero shot an icicle, and a blue aura engulfed Shane. In the meantime, the blue-haired guy announced that Zero was acting insubordinate and trying to assassinate the president. He ordered his crew to kill Zero immediately, and they obeyed. Zero readied his staff and launched a powerful fireball. Chen was shocked to see Zero take out the elite Templar assassin with one hit. He asked who Zero really was. Chen screamed in agony as he burned slowly. Zero answered Shine's question by saying, "He's someone you definitely can't offend in the resurrection zone." Shine was notified he had been killed by the single-class necromancer named Zero. The blue-haired guy told Shek, who was actually Zero, that he cleared the first world in half a day. Changing the subject, the man realized that his class was necromancer, not monster tamer. Shek was just as confused. Dude, Shek was on fire. His anger was off the charts. Now he understood why the guy had been hiding his identity all this time. Shane interpreted this as a play from a sly bastard pretending to be weak, just to pull one over on everyone. You feel me? He swore to make Zero pay for this mess. Cut to a scene in reality. Inside the Sua family building, her feelings might develop in the future. Right after that, he mentioned he had a gift prepared for her. One of these gifts is an energy potion. It's pretty epic. After using it, her skill points will multiply by 100 for a month. How cool is that? And another demon suit. The head of the Sheen family revealed that the energy potion is worth $5 million, and the wizard suit cost $8 million, custom made for Diane. The family head only has one son, the Sheen heir. In the future, he's definitely going to inherit all the Chen family assets. If Diane marries him, she'll have access to all the resources she needs, you know? But even though she appreciated the gesture, Diane stood her ground and said she's the one who'll decide who her husband will be. Her uncle shot her a fierce look. The head of the Sul family, Sul Cheng, shouted at his daughter Diane, saying that the Sul family put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to raise her, so she shouldn't be talking nonsense like that. Sakura felt bad for her sister and told their uncle that nobody should interfere with Diane's choice of husband because she's not some transaction object. Sakura assured Diane that she doesn't need to dwell on this drama. She confirmed that, no matter what happens, she'll always support her sister in her pursuit of happiness. Diane thanked her sister. Right at that moment, both the heads of the Chung family and Sakura's phones rang at the same time. They were shocked to learn that Chung had been murdered and immediately asked who did it. Her uncle was furious. The head of the Shane family said he made his son lower himself to just be a guild president to help the Sul family, and still, they revealed themselves and killed my son. Sushin jumped into the conversation, telling director Sheen to chill out because it must have just been a misunderstanding. The Shane patriarch threatened, saying he wouldn't let anything slide if something bad happened to his son. Shane slammed the door on his way out, as if telling everyone to screw off. Sushin asked if the people who did this were the ones who strongly recommended recruiting for the guild. He questioned if the girls knew how much money the Sushin family gives to the Su family each year. Dion shot back that Zero wouldn't attack guild members without cause. No one in their right mind would do something like that. Damn, Sushin went nuts with rage. He demanded they bring Zero to him to see if he'd beg for forgiveness from the Chen family, saying he either does that or he can leave the Mist of Rain pavilion. Suddenly, Sakura got a call from Zero. She immediately asked where he was, and if he really killed Shane's son. Zero just replied that he was leaving the guild. As of today, he's no longer part of the Mist of Rain pavilion. Wow, I wish I could do that in real life. After making a mess at the office, he just calls the boss and says, "I quit." Sakura asked if he'd been provoked by Shane. She suggested he not act impulsively while she tries to prove his innocence. Zero simply replied that it was better to just let it go. In his mind, the best option was to cut all ties with the Whispering Rain pavilion. The protagonist realizes that Shine is extremely stubborn and has a lot of supporters. Since Zero already defeated Shine, it's certain that he'll want revenge. Instead of prolonging the drama, Zero decided to end it once and for all. He figured he'd sell materials to cover the 50 grand monthly medical bills. To get more valuable materials, he needs to complete the second world and move on to the third as quickly as possible. He still has to get through 2 waves of zombies and 1 dungeon to finish the second world quests. He checked the screen with the details of the second world, the zombie invasion of the 3 dungeons. The Cemetery of Death, level 20, is just a bloodbath in the zombie cave. Someone approached Zero, and a bunch of imposing guys surrounded him. The guy in front, with a mischievous smile, said he recognized Zero as the famous beast tamer from the Whispering Rain pavilion. Zero had a fierce look on his face and told them to get out of his way. The men were looking for a fight and replied that they weren't backing down. They provoked Zero to let go of his grip. Zero knew they were doing this on purpose. With an intimidating aura, he asked how much Chen had paid them, The man was nervous but played dumb, saying President Tim gave each of them $5,000 in resurrection scrolls, plus they'd get another $5,000 if they died at Zero's hands. Knowing that these guys would earn $10,000 if Zero goes down shows that President Tim sees Zero as a serious rival. Zero was sure he could take them out with just a single move, but that would cost him a red name and keep him locked out of safe zones. Plus, he'd be stuck in the second world forever since he wouldn't be able to activate the boss fight. It was a really ruthless move by Shen. Stepping into the scene with his men, he shouted that he would pay double. His condition was to help kill the president of the Whispering Rain Pavilion. Each time they died, he'd compensate them with $50,000, and whoever landed the final blow on Shen would score $500,000. The men were left speechless and wondered who he thought he was making such an offer. One of Ao's guys introduced himself as the youngest son of the wealthiest family in Linhai. The men stammered, realizing it was young Master Ao. They immediately fell in line with Ao's orders. He turned to Zero, saying he heard recently that Zero had been expelled from the Whispering Rain Pavilion. He shared how Shen was complaining about him to everyone, asking them to make Zero's life miserable in the other world. Zero replied that Shen was way too cocky. Isle then commented that the Whispering Rain Pavilion was full of arrogant guys. He invited Zero to join him, saying he could name a price. Additionally, Ayal was confident that he could protect Zero from those bastards. Zero answered that he would think about it one day, but for now, he wasn't interested in guilds. Isle's lackey reminded him that Isle had defended Zero several times and even spent cash to help out, yet Zero never said thanks. Isle responded that Zero had just become a target of the Whispering Rain Pavilion, which is why he didn't want to join a guild right now. Isle also added that the Whispering Rain Pavilion was a bunch of empty-headed fools. No wonder they've been stuck in 5th place forever. Zero turned around and walked away. Our hero initially thought he could cut all ties with Shen by leaving the Misty Rain Pavilion, but if he didn't sort this mess out soon, Shen would keep causing a ruckus. Soon enough, our boy ended up in a dark level 15 cave full of zombies. Man, a normal, Hunter would already be off chasing better farms. That's why most formed a team to clean out the Death Cemetery, which is the hardcore spot. But hardly anyone dared to set foot in this dark zombie cave, even though it wasn't that hard. Out of nowhere, NPC Magumu appeared, all hyped up, to welcome our hero. He asked if Zero was up for the challenge of the dark zombie cave. The mage, with a glowing crystal in hand, almost blinded our boy. Of course, Zero said yes, and Magumu wished him luck, because he was gonna need it. Look, the common quest in the zombie cave can be refined and turn into a gold mission. In that case, the zombie cave could be leveled up to an even more secret level, but thinking about it, the chance of that happening is almost impossible. And nobody knows how many skill points they're gonna have to spend for this. No one wants to waste time trying, but the story is different. Zero, despite the low odds, refined everything until it turned into a secret golden mission. Meanwhile, Sheen is on the run to avoid getting caught since there's a 500,000 bounty on his head. The guys Yal hired came after him, and desperate, Sheen hides behind a tree, fuming because he wasted money on these guys, and now they're attacking him. All he can think is, what's going on? His henchman tells him it's Zero's fault. He's worried since Sheen can't use resurrection scrolls for another 5 days, so the suggestion is to wait it out before going farming. Sheen, still mad, just talks to himself behind the tree, saying he's going to kill Zero. Then a notice goes out to all the hunters in the city of Nutting. It says that a hunter with a private profile used a secret golden order, and the regular zombie cave is now a secret dungeon. For the next 2 hours, all hunters can challenge this secret dungeon, and the cherry on top, during these 2 hours, everyone can resurrect once for free in the dark zombie cave. Sheen felt like he'd been blessed with this chance to revive and clear a super secret level 15. He quickly ordered his guildmates to gather up to clear the cave, making sure they brought the best gear they could find, and they respected his orders. A huge beast, more like a demon, was Slash. Yal even commented that free resurrection is music to the ears of those who can't use scrolls like him. He sent the Supreme members to gather and head for the zombie dungeon. Meanwhile, Zero had already taken down a bunch of monsters. One of the missions in the second world is to clear a dungeon. The rewards in a dungeon that has been upgraded to secret are way better, and with that free resurrection, he knew someone was going to be tempted. A dark mist emerged from the body he brought down, and out of nowhere, turned into a monster with purple and red eyes. Zero knew that to ensure the hunt's success, he still had to deal with the dungeon's gatekeeper. The zombie boss is the magical type. He's level 15, with 210 magical attack power, 180 physical defense, 121 magical defense, and 1,350 vitality. Then an explosion went off, ripping the zombie boss's limbs apart. Zero threatened the boss to be honest. Otherwise, he'd end up like his arm. Zero received an alert that a wave of challengers had invaded the dark zombie cave. It's a dungeon dungeon with free resurrection. An opportunity not to be missed, not just for Sheen, but for all the regular users who can't afford resurrection scrolls. Our hero then closed his eyes for a second, as if trying to concentrate. He could see Genian, and even the Supreme Guild stepping into the scene. He realized he was after just one person, so he decided not to drag the innocent into the mess. Then he initiated a permission-changing function, as if he were the big boss. As the holder of the secret golden order, he had the knack for changing 3 permissions in the dark zombie lair. At that moment, many hunters were facing the monsters, and the situation was tense. Shane warned Geninha to stay close because things were heating up inside. Geninha was pretty annoyed, like, what the hell am I doing here? She had plans to look for Zero, but now she's caught up in the fight. If it weren't for respect for her uncle, she wouldn't even care about anyone's life here, particularly Jap. A system announced to all players in the Dark Zombie dungeon that the holder of the secret golden order had changed the dungeon permissions, and the free resurrection mechanism had been removed. Bam! The hunters couldn't exit. Killing white-named hunters isn't gonna boost your karma points, you're just screwed. The dungeon entrance shut tight, man. New quests in the dungeon have been issued. Spoiler alert, it's tough. They've got to take down 500 zombies each, and the dungeon boss, the pitch-black zombie, is in total panic mode. He's starting to wonder if the golden secret order bearer is looking to take out the hunters along with himself. The blue-haired guy suggests it might be Zero who triggered the dungeon and made fools of them, but he's trying to play it cool. He believes Zero doesn't have that much ability. Then, he throws out the idea that the permissions seem to have changed to target a specific person. Shane brushes that off and starts rambling, thinking the change is because someone's scared of competition and wants to monopolize the rewards. Shane tells Gina not to worry. As long as he's around, he promised he'd carry her through the dungeon, no matter how the permissions shift. He boasts that 500 zombies is a piece of cake, you know? But deep down, Gina thinks Shane needs to focus more on himself first. He moves forward without knowing what's waiting for them. Shane tells the guild members that if they beat the boss, all the rewards for the first clan are going to be from the Misty Rain Pavilion. Then they spot someone, and Shane's like, I can't believe someone's faster than us. Someone says, finally, you made it. They recognize the voice, and Shane panics while Gina is all excited. Zero is there, casually sitting on the defeated boss like it's no big deal. He says he's been waiting for them for ages. Gina asks how he got there. She even mentions she was just about to look for him. Shane realizes it was Zero who used the golden secret order to activate the dungeon. He asks where Shane got that secret order. Zero hops down from the corpse like nothing's happening and taunts Shane, saying his chance to take him down is right in front of him. Deep down, Shane knows he's in a horror movie situation, having entered the dungeon because of the free resurrection blessing, but he didn't expect to fall for Zero's traps. If Zero attacks now, it could be the end for him. But Shane acts all proud because Zero is alone, and he's got the Shane family, one of the 3 big influences in Linhai. Even Sushin, head of the Soul family, has talked to him, so he demands respect. Zero asks how Shane plans to handle him. Sushin orders Gina to use her silence power to control Zero. Gina's like, oh, chill, dude. She replies that Zero used to be a member of the Misty Rain Pavilion, and look at how Sushin is treating him. She makes it clear that if Zero is aiming at someone's life, he can't complain if that person fights back. She doesn't want to be an accomplice to the crap he's pulling. Shane didn't see that coming. Sweat starts dripping down his face. Without thinking twice, he ordered everyone to attack Zero. He was stunned to realize that, being super low level, they had no chance against a boss. Everyone agrees that this is pure suicide. Shane is fully furious. He insists on the order and tells them not to be scared. He promised 5 grand to each of them if they could die and come back. He thought there was no way Zero could handle a mass attack from these guys. They just focused on the cash because, who doesn't live for money? Then they all charged at Zero, apologizing on the way in. You might wonder how Mr. Rain, the peacock, could be compared to a wave of level 9 zombies. He took those guys out easily with a single sword swing. Our MC just stood there, fully trusting. Zero unleashed a fire attack that wiped out all the enemies in that spot. Killing white-named hunters doesn't give karma points, so it's a murder free-for-all. The guys took advantage of Zero being vulnerable, so things went south when the silver-armored scorpion blocked their path. The guys were shaking just seeing the Zero-level pet, but one dude got cocky and underestimated the armored scorpion. He tried to slash the scorpion's face and ended up breaking his sword right then and there. He couldn't believe that as a level 14 warrior who pumped all his attributes into strength, he couldn't even scratch a mediocre scorpion. Zero commented that it would be impressive if the guy actually managed. To do it, it would be an elite silver scorpion, level 15, wearing 15 level armor and all that. Then someone fired an arrow. Someone yelled to kill everyone, promising 20 grand ahead. The guys used their shields to deflect the arrow, all confused. Not knowing where the attack came from, thinking only Mr. Rain was missing, they wondered if those idiots were there to take down the boss. Zero just watched them in silence. The guys charged forward but ran right past Zero. Mr. Rain was confused about why they were being attacked, and our MC was, of course, too. Then Yao showed up, saying nobody could touch his people. Wait, who's the protagonist here? He told Zero not to worry because as long as he was around, that trash meant nothing. Zero felt annoyed about Yao showing up again. Shane was unsure because, in his mind, he wasn't aiming at Yao's men. Yao explained it was just a thing. He heard that Shane liked to throw money at problems, so he wanted to see who was richer. Right after that, he said he was giving them a chance to get rich quick. Whoever kills his president would win $1 million. Just like that. Everyone thought that proposal was interesting. Easy money. And Shane freaked out. He asked if they were planning to revolt. He reminded them that if they acted, they'd be going up against the whole Sheen family down south. Suddenly, they heard a sinister noise. A dark aura radiated from the boss. Zero looked up and thought of another reality. When a boss monster's health is low, there's a tiny chance it goes into berserk mode. It seemed the arrows that were fired had dropped the zombie lord's health like it was a system bug. The monster let out a roar that shook the walls. A system message popped up announcing the news on the map. All the adventurers inside the secret zombie dungeon learned that the zombie boss went berserk and had leveled up to a 17-level 3-star boss now called Tyrant King, a black beast. Poor Yao was frozen in fear at the sight of such a powerful boss. He had no idea it was actually possible for a boss to level up. The beast roared with all its might and unleashed a powerful attack that sent everyone flying like feathers. With the guardian of the dungeon in a rage, the location's difficulty just shot through the roof. The exit of the dungeon, Pit Black Zombie, was forced open, and all the adventurers could leave at any moment. Shine felt like the sky was smiling down on him, while Yao was completely rooted to the spot. Then he drew his arrow with a diabolical plan in mind. The arrow hit the shoulder of the Tyrant King zombie. The Tyrant King zombie thought it was Yao who attacked and turned all his attention to him. Its eyes were locked on Yao. Faced with that attack, Yao begged for help. The Tyrant King zombie unleashed a furious attack and Yao stood frozen, as if nailed to the ground. Our MC called the silver-armored scorpion to protect Yao from the attack. Zero, on the other hand, saw how the evolution made all the difference. The attack caused the silver-armored scorpion to lose an insane amount of health. Meanwhile, Sheen was ready to bail, but before that, he called them fools and mocked them for not even being able to kill him. Zero yelled at Sheen to stop and face the zombie tyrant. He lifted the silver-armored scorpion onto his shoulder and asked for help. Zero could only use teleportation once. If he was going to take out Shane, Yao was done for and heading straight for the grave. He moved fast, got to Yao, and unleashed an ice attack, saving him just in time. Rizumbi got frozen solid. Zero pulled Yao up and told him to run. Furious, Rizumbi roared and shattered the ice. Zero realized that his level A Ice Thorn spell only dealt a bit over 100 damage. Standing tall, he prepared to face the beast, thinking that a level 17 3-star boss was truly a daunting challenge. Zero had to rely on his agility to find openings to attack and cast spells. He managed to hit the creature's torso and looked at his men, asking what they were doing. He ordered them to help out, but the guys explained that they'd be useless against that monster, only getting in Zero's way. Zero was in a serious bind, especially since the Tyrant King zombie was pretty fast. It didn't take long before he got slammed to the ground. Our MC was in a desperate situation. The weapon was just inches from Zero's face. Suddenly, the Tyrant King zombie got zapped. It was Jiniana. Zero jumped up quickly and launched a powerful attack. The other guild members were slack-jawed at how these two were handling the 3-star boss. When he recognized Dinia, he couldn't help but be impressed by her skill effects, but he felt a swell of pride for Zero, believing he could take down the monster. He acknowledged that if it were just them against a bucket of stars, they would have died tens of thousands of times. Over. He got all excited thinking about recruiting Jiniana and Zero for his supreme guild. The guys reminded him that Gina is the second lady of the Sol family, and he couldn't handle Zero either. The Pit Black Zombie Tyrant King let out a deafening roar, feeling the sting of the powerful attacks. He was giving it his all. In our hero's mind, he was thankful that the boss's health was already low. Gina called out to Zero to deliver the final blow. Zero responded that he was the bearer of the Golden Secret Order. Dinia was like, "What did Zero just say?" Then she got it. She concentrated her power into her wand and unleashed a spell called Fluid Fire. This reduced the Pit Black Zombie Tyrant King to ashes. After that, everyone present leveled up. The system window displayed a regional announcement. It was a congratulatory message for Gina for being the first to complete the level 15 of the Zombie Speech Black Dungeons. She received a realm scroll as a reward. Everyone was, celebrating. Yo hugged Zero, calling him a savior. Zero pointed out it was his fault Sheen got away. Yao thought he was a bit of a liability. Yao asked what they should do next. Then he considered offering $1 million to Zero. This made Zero question if Yao had anything besides money. Yao replied he did and shared his dream of recruiting all the strong players to form the most powerful guild in the world. It was a smooth transition to invite Zero again to join his guild. He tried to, sweeten the deal, saying his family owns the biggest pharmacy in Linie City, and that by joining, Zero would have an endless supply of medicine. Zero once again declined the offer. Yao got serious and clarified what he was saying. He revealed that his family has a cooperative relationship with the best forging families, like the Zhao family and the Zanga family of enchantments. Mentioning the master blacksmith from the Zhao family caught Zero's attention. Yao elaborated that his dad is friends with the head of the Zhao family, and as long as they have enough materials, any equipment can be crafted with just a word from him. Zero thought it over, because compared to buying, blacksmiths often create higher quality gear. And getting back to his playful self, he said it was cool if Zero wasn't ready to join just yet. He asked if they could start by adding each other as friends first, and that if he ever needed any gear made, he could help with that. Zero agreed to it. Zero and Janinha stepped through the portal while Yao was keeping track. God, everyone was gossiping about Janinha. I couldn't help but admire the epic class hunters, especially Janinha, who is gorgeous and capable. Shane overheard the, conversation and bragged that Janinha is a key member of his pavilion. He bragged about the strength of his crew. It was reported to Shane that Janinha took down the boss and that Zero survived as well. Shane admitted he underestimated the guy. He didn't expect Zero to use a secret realm and a trap to ambush them. Shine's hatred for Zero made him even more eager to take him out. Sheen's henchman pointed out that Zero's strength was formidable and that he still had the backing of the Supreme Guild. Shine figured that even if they couldn't finish him off, there'd be others who could. Shine then recalled that last year, a bunch of veteran players got stuck in the third world. Their levels were at least above 30. He was sure those people wouldn't just ignore the Shine family. Shine got real and said they should wait. He bet that if Zero managed to survive the third world, he'd have to eat dirt in the forest. Ganinha asked if she was seen as an enemy because of Shine. Zero simply replied that he only had one enemy, that being Sheen. But of course, if the Mixed Rain Pavilion insisted on helping that guy, he wouldn't mind having a few more enemies. Janinha shot back that there was no way she'd help that guy, and like our MC, she hated him too. She pulled the loot and told Zero that since he let her deal the final blow, all of it was his. In Zero's mind, he thought about refining that gear and skill books to massively boost his damage and health caps. The system window popped up with a regional announcement. A wave of zombies would invade in 30 minutes. That wave of zombies was level 15. As long as they survived the wave, the world mission should be complete, and they could head to the third world. Daneha and Zero got ready. Moments later, a brown-haired woman sprinted past Ganinha and ran straight to Zero. The woman admitted she was wrong and asked for forgiveness. Zero asked what she meant. She explained that Yao didn't want her anymore. Ganinha commented that now that Yao had dumped her, she was wagging her tail behind Zero. What was she thinking about Zero? She admitted the traitor was previously bothered by his lack of money, but she justified that there's no girl who hasn't dreamed of a good life with wealth. She added that Zero was now impressive and had a bright future ahead. She suggested that if they got back together, they wouldn't fight anymore and promised to make him happy. Zero had a cheeky smile on his face. Mirini remarked that he was shameless. Suddenly, they heard a loud noise. Ue panicked, realizing the zombie wave was approaching, and they had no time to prepare, but he remained calm. Dana was ready to face them. Good thing. She made some changes since the secret realm ended. Zero replied to the traitor with what she just said. You said I'm a promising guy, so let me ask you, why would I want someone like you back, traitor? Zero told her to beat it. R was confused. She said he had changed. The old Zero would have never said that to her. And then, the zombies arrived. Janinha unleashed an attack. She warned that since there were so many, she wouldn't be able to control them all. Zero ordered the Silver Scorpion to go help Janinha first. He assisted Janinha in taking down the zombies. Zero unleashed fire and burned several zombies at once. So someone asks for help from Zero. It was like she was being dragged by two zombies. Gina was about to run to help, but Zero stopped her. He said there was no way she could save anyone, like, let that traitor die, or you, Jian, will end up getting hurt too and die along with her, the traitor. Oh, now it's zombie dinner. Too bad those two juicy melons of hers are gone. They noticed the light fading from the traitor's eyes, which symbolizes actual death. This happens when a person runs out of revives, but zombies were coming at them like there was no tomorrow, without mercy. Zero encouraged Dana to move on because they couldn't keep dwelling on the past. First, they had to hold off this wave of zombies. Dana agreed, but Zero was feeling strange about it. He remembered a moment with the traitor. The zombies were spread out across the city while the hunters were doing their best to wipe out the threat. Zero and Gina were hiding behind a wall, ninja style. It was the third wave already, and this zombie mess just wouldn't end. Zero told her not to worry, that usually there were only 3 waves in a day, and they were almost there. They just needed to wait for the zombie tide to recede. The system screen showed they were in the second world, the zombie circus. With the apocalypse closing in, the world was about to go sour. Humanity was slowly transforming into darkness. The zombies were almost taking over the entire city. The tension was thick. As survivors of this city, they had to band together to defend it. Once the zombies broke through their barrier, there'd be nowhere to run. The mission for World 1 was to clean a secret kingdom. The mission for World 2 was to successfully fend off 3 waves of zombies. After completing these missions, they could activate the teleport to the world boss dungeon, and to enter the third world, they needed to defeat the boss. He remembered the last secret kingdom yielded 400 grand. If that dude wants to get into the third world, he first needs to clear that secret kingdom quick. He opened a portal and told Gina that the zombie wave should end soon, so she could heal up for now. Gina asked what he was going to do. He just replied that he had other things to deal with, and then he stepped into the portal, disappearing. Gina was pissed because she wanted to go with him too. In the level 17 zombie hospital, before the zombie wave ended, Zero planned to clear the secret kingdom as well. He entered the hospital like it was his last day on Earth. The zombies noticed him, and when he called out the silver scorpion, they charged at him, all to gain experience. It was a crazy night. The coins were dropping like there was no tomorrow. Zero got a system notification that he cleared the level 17 zombie hospital, earning over 2 million XP, some cash, and an extra 30,000 exotic energy, gaining 10,000 more. He picked up another demon hunter ring, a lightning spell, skill book, and an elite pet egg. Zero completed the second task for the world and activated the passage to the second world. Now he needed to defeat the boss of the world to move on to the third. Zero leveled up to 20 and needed 120,000 experience to level up again. He tossed the coins to the silver scorpion, who was all happy about it. The silver scorpion could slowly evolve into a mythical character. Zero was pumped because he gained a new skill and a new gear that boosted his attack power and health. Once the wave of zombies calmed down, our protagonist got ready to clear the second dimension. He used a super powerful lightning spell, an attack that calls down an electric discharge to blow the enemy up, dealing 300% magic damage. Here comes the trouble. Plus, there's a special effect that gives a 30% chance to stun the enemy for a second. That's right, during this downtime, the guy can't do anything. He just has to hold on to the invoice. The catch is, using this magic costs 95 mana points and has a 5-second cooldown. Nothing comes for free. He got his hands on the Blade of the Purgatory Exterminator, level 20, a 3-star weapon for beasts. It's a beast of a weapon, with a magic power of 155, plus it boosts intelligence and spirit by 10 each. More power, more responsibility, you know what I mean? And the best part, every attack he makes burns 200 mana points from the opponent. Talk about efficiency. If the enemy doesn't have enough mana, a chunk of their life gets taken away. Seriously, this guy is strong. And he's also got a ring that seals demons from hell, pulling them into the darkness. That's a priceless item. Our protagonist is gearing up to clear the second dimension. He's using a supercharged lightning spell, an attack that calls down an electric shock to blast the enemy, dealing a whopping 300% magic damage. Plus, it has a special effect that gives a 30% chance to paralyze the enemy for a second. That's right, during that pause, the dude can't do anything, just pay the bill. But using this spell costs 95 mana points and has a 5-second cooldown. Nothing comes for free. He got his hands on the Purgatory Exterminator Blade, level 20, a 3-star weapon for beasts. It's a beast of a weapon, with a magic power of 155, plus it boosts intelligence and spirit by 10 each. More power, more responsibility, you feel me? And the best part, every attack he lands burns 200 mana points from his opponent. Talk about savings. If the enemy doesn't have enough mana, they lose some health. Seriously, this guy is strong, and he's also got a ring that seals demons from hell, pulling them into darkness. An item worth its weight in gold. Suddenly, a message pops up. Ian is calling him to fight the boss of the second dimension now that the zombie wave is over. Al also messaged him, saying he needs Zero's help to face the boss of World Zero. With Major Prohibited's help, their chances are looking better, for real, especially since Yao has helped him out a few times already. He replies that they'll meet in 15 minutes at the Royal Zombie Palace. Both Dian and Yao respond casually, like no big deal. Meanwhile, outside the city, Dian asks Yao why he brought so many people, and Yao acknowledges that Jinian is strong but wants to be safe because things are gonna get wild with the boss of the second world. So he brought more healers. Zero says it's all good if it makes him feel safer. Then the system window alerts them that the mission for the world has been completed, and now they can activate the teleport portal to the second dimension's boss. The goal is to take down the boss of the third world. Rivalry that never ends. The system notices that the team is multi-person and asks if they want to enter the cauldron of the second dimension together. Zero conjures a golden orb in his palm and hits the yes button. Decision made, and the portal materializes right in front of them. Zero warns them that they're about to dive into this, and Yao tells everyone to stick close to the boss. They walk toward the portal. When they arrive, the place is shrouded in thick, black smoke. Everything is in ruins. What a creepy place. Right in the center stands the Zombie King, level 20, a massive physical monster, a 3-star boss. Their faces drop at the sight of this beast, man. They totally locked down a guy from Yao's team, saying that this is on a completely different level compared to the wild boar from the first world. Another guy got all nervous because they almost got wiped out by that level 17 boss in the secret realm. He's starting to doubt if they'll really be able to handle level 20, or if they should just assert their dominance and keep it together. He's letting them know to stay away from the boss, or they could get taken out with one hit. Now, it's time for the silver-armored scorpion to shine. He goes all in and lets out a wicked roar after snagging a bunch of experience and monster eggs from the secret realm and the zombie wave. The gap between the silver-armored scorpion and the boss has shrunk a lot. Things are heating up. The Zombie King noticed them and asked if they also wanted to taste death. What a jerk. The silver-armored scorpion speeds up, hits the Zombie King, and deals 555 damage. Boom. He's crushing it. And right after, Zero unleashes a fireball, shaking things up. The Zombie King takes the hit like a champ. His new gear seriously upgraded his attack. At this rate, the boss is going to be just a tad stronger than a regular monster. Don't underestimate him, man. The Zombie King bellowed for them to back off. He punched the silver-armored scorpion. Looks like the Zombie King got furious and screamed, wanting to show off his strength. Then he slammed the ground, making tentacles. Burst out as the ground shattered. The silver-armored scorpion decided to go in for another attack without a second thought. The now pissed-off Zombie King didn't hesitate to punch the big guy, sending him flying. That hit shoved the silver-armored scorpion back and pushed him to hurry up and heal himself. The healers jumped into action right away. 3 of them teamed up to heal the creature, while the Zombie King charged at Zero. Luckily, the silver-armored scorpion managed to block the bee attack. Meanwhile, Jinian was charging her staff with power. She used crowd control to limit the Zombie King's movements. The Zombie King got furious at that damn human using low-level magic. Diana told Zero to hurry up, saying she wouldn't be able to hold him off for much longer. Zero then concentrated his power into the staff while poking the zombie, saying they aren't weak. The zombie is the one who's pathetic. As soon as Zero released the attack, the Zombie King took a serious blow. Ows. Jaw dropped in disbelief. A level 23 lost a quarter of his life in the blink of an eye. The damage output from Zero is just ridiculously high. Zero unleashes more power to finish the fight once and for all. He summoned lightning and a tornado that came crashing down on the zombie. When it was over, the zombie fell to the ground, completely stunned. Dylan agreed and excitedly asked if Zero's damage output had gone up. Zero was watching the zombie when a system window popped up, saying that the passive destruction of the Zombie King had been activated. The place caught fire, and the ground started to crumble. They were left wondering what was going on. The Zombie King began to move and screamed that he would take everyone to hell with him. Yao panicked and asked what they should do. He was worried because he had no more resurrection scrolls. If he died, he wouldn't be able to come back. The portal was too far away, and they wouldn't make it in time. The area was getting engulfed in lava. Zero looked at the armored scorpion and understood. He grabbed Yao and put an arm around Jean's waist. He said he didn't have time to explain and threw them towards the armored scorpion. After that, he ordered the scorpion to use all its strength to throw them toward the exit. The armored scorpion grabbed them with its claws, and it looked pretty funny as the wind distorted its face. It asked what kind of international joke it was pulling. The scorpion launched them into the air, and they soared. It was so terrifying that Yao instinctively called for his mom. They came crashing down into the portal, and Yao blurted out that he thought he was going to die. Jinian was worried about Zero since he hadn't come through yet, and the exit was about to disappear. Zero and the armored scorpion were at the edge of a cliff surrounded by lava. Our hero Zero asked the armored scorpion to throw him with all its might, assuring it that he would catch it the moment he was launched. And wouldn't you know it, the scorpion did. Exactly what he asked. In midair, Zero managed to grab the armored scorpion just in time before the ground completely collapsed. The protagonist was close to the portal, but lava erupted from the ground, blocking his path. The jump was interrupted, and he started falling like he had jumped off a cliff. Then he pulled out his staff and shot fire at the ground, propelling himself upwards. It caused an explosion worthy of a movie. Yao and Dinhan were in a panic since the portal was shrinking more. Yao started to exaggerate, saying how Zero had risked his life for him. But all of a sudden, a quick movement came from the portal. It was Zero, safely back and flashing a smile that said 1,000 words. They rushed to check if he was okay. Zero said he was fine, except for the hard shake from the explosion. At that moment, a system window popped up, showing a regional announcement about voting in the city. It was a congratulatory message for Zero for defeating the second boss in the world and completing the second stage. And Ao was ecstatic. He had finally made it. He thanked Zero and thought about rewarding him with 1,000,000. Zero replied that now the mission was over and he needed to go back and rest. Just then, Diniano called Ao, letting him know that Jane had left Diane in the pavilion and, as far as he knew, he was definitely going to find a way to get back at Zero. She advised him to be careful. Zero just replied that he understood, and Ao realized how sharp Gina's control skills were, being among the first wave of players to complete the second world as newbies. He invited her to head to the third world together. Gina just flat out declined without a second thought, and Ao accepted her decision, suggesting they should team up again when the chance arose. Dinian remarked on how amazing the bond between people is. They hadn't gotten along before, but now, by some twist of fate, they had become friends. The third world was where the Reaper showed up, a place that felt like a real graveyard. At one tomb, the ground cracked open and a hand popped up, giving the creature a scare. One of Yao's crew commented on how thrilling the safe zone in the third world was. They crawled out of the graves like cheerful zombies. Ao steadied himself, half buried up to his waist. He informed his brothers that they were the first group of new players to reach the third world. Their plan evolved quickly, and they fought to become the best guild in the Jeji-Young province. But, lo and behold, someone stepped on Yao's hand, and of course, he got really mad. He asked who had the guts to step on him, and started threatening the guy, asking if he was looking for trouble. The guy just asked if he was Liu Yao from the Supreme Guild. Then he looked for Zero and demanded that they bring Zero to him. Ao pointed a finger at the dude, questioning who he thought he was, saying he wasn't going to call Zero just because the guy told him to. Eyal's men whispered that those guys didn't look friendly at all and seemed like pro players stuck in the third world. Someone suggested calling Zero, but Eyal said he didn't care if they were seasoned pros. He stuck to his guns about not ratting out his brothers. The guy asked if he was even listening and slowly showed the blade of his sword as a threat. Then, he warned Yao not to blame him for being rude. A strong wind messed up Yao's hair. The guy lunged at Yao with a stab, but it looked like the sword went right through him. The guys stood there shocked, staring at that failed attack. It made them think that Yao was still under beginner protection. It was a real puzzle for him, how a low-level noob, barely past 20, managed to get to the second world. Eyal was grateful that this beginner protection had a limit of 10,000 tons. Otherwise, they were done for. One of Eyal's men suggested they take the chance to run, but of course the opponent wouldn't let them. Suddenly, those guys charged at them. The leader might not be able to take on Eyal, but that didn't mean the others couldn't. One of the attackers was a level 25 warrior, the infamous killer Lao San. The other was Lao, also a level 25 warrior. One of the men realized these guys were part of a mercenary group that specialized in taking out players for cash. The guy told Yao this was their last chance and threatened that if Zero didn't show up, everyone was going down. Zero found out that the cash he sent to the hospital had already arrived. They said they'd take really good care of his little brother. Zero thanked them for their hard work. He read a message from Zero thanking him for helping take down the boss and mentioned he sent a bonus to make up for all the trouble Zero had gone through. This made Zero realize this guy was a rich kid, no doubt generous, with more than 1,000,000 to spare. Zero wouldn't have to worry about hospital bills anymore, and just to top it off, he received a call. When he answered, it was a member of Ao's guild begging him to save the guild leader who was about to die. A few hours later, in the third world, the mercenary said someone was coming. Zero walked toward them and demanded they let Ao go. The mercenary leader told Zero that someone had paid to have him killed. Only one of them could live, him or his brother. Ao asked who was behind this. He had bribed them with 1,000,000 yuan just to let him go. To make them believe him, he revealed his dad was the richest guy in Linhai. One of the mercenaries was tempted because Ao's offer was way. The boss went off saying that money isn't worth more than his life and that this client has powerful connections. so it's not like we can piss him off. The leader sent someone to take out that mere animal tamer. Lore charged at him, but he just froze up because he couldn't land a hit. Zero attacked with an ice spike and ended up freezing the guy. Lao Sa started to worry about Lore. He began cursing at Zero. Zero ready to fireball with his staff and unleashed it at Lao Sa. The look on Zero's face showed he was really angry. The mercenary leader got nervous seeing Zero take down those level 25 warriors with a single blow. He tried to sneak up on Zero. Zero got scratched on the arm. The system notified him that he'd been hit by the Shadow Punch ability from the assassin known as Cold Killer. You lost 1425 health points. The two guys were standing there face to face, the tension thick in the air. The assassin, who wasn't one to back down, was shocked that Zero had managed to withstand his strikes, but of course, he had plans to finish the fight. In Zero's mind, he knew that level 30 assassin had some crazy agility, so dodging his attack was out of the question. Then suddenly, a violet light appeared out of nowhere. It was silver-armored Scorpion, here to block the dagger, and the guy made a noise that would scare anyone. The assassin attacked again, thinking he'd finally hit Zero. He was on top of his game, while Zero was already aware dodging wasn't an option. Suddenly, the assassin froze up, like he was stuck. This happened because of Dinia. She asked Zero if he was okay. The assassin, realizing things weren't going well for him, gave Zero the opening he needed for revenge. The assassin got scared, not knowing where the attack was coming from. A huge fire surrounded the assassin, and his body started to burn. He couldn't believe that a mere level 20 Bastami was dealing such high damage to take down a fully equipped level 30 assassin. The Caique Fool commented that Gina always showed up in critical moments to save him and thanked her, mentioning it felt like they were linked by some crazy fate, but deep down she felt lucky for keeping an eye on Zero's online situation. Otherwise there would have been no way to create such an opportunity. And Ao apologized to Zero. Zero shrugged it off, saying it was nothing since people were really after him. Gina started to have her suspicions about Cheng, so he had been acting strange, and she already suspected he had some kind of plan. Ganinha asked if he knew those people. Yao answered that he knew they were part of a group of killer mercenaries. Zero wanted to know their backstory. The killer mercenaries are a small guild that was formed 10 years ago. They say there are over 50 assassins, but none of them are above level 30. Yao thought it was impossible for them to have survived 10 years in this world and still be stuck at level 30. Zero explained that to reach level 30, you have to make a job advancement, and as long as they haven't advanced, they won't go past that level. They probably found some kind of bug. One of Yao's friends mentioned that the bandits have always hidden in the third world, living off stealing from professionals and newly advanced players. Over the years, they've hoarded so much loot that their gear and skills became refined with golden attributes. So yeah, the bandits are pretty strong. Yo knew that normally the thefts were for money, so he was confused as to why they didn't let him go when he offered them a good sum. Zero replied that if it wasn't about the money, then the other reason was they were being coerced. They messed up this time, but Zero was sure they'd come back with a vengeance. Yao asked what they should do, given the huge level difference. There was no way they could keep defending themselves forever. Zero brought up that Yao's family is close to the legendary artisan family, the Zhao family. He asked if they could help create a piece of equipment. Yao wanted to know what kind of equipment he needed. Zero patted him on the back and said any gear below level 20 would work, but there was one condition. It had to have the Heart of the Demon effect, and the quicker, the better. Yao said that was no problem, but he was curious why they needed that equipment. Zero replied that their survival in the third world depended on it. Then the scene shifts to a construction site at night. Check it out, there was a guy who was super pissed because a level 30 assassin lost to a level 20 beastmaster. What a mess, right? So this dude, without thinking twice, slammed his hands on the table. It got intense. Chachupeche, the boss of the killer mercenaries, known as the Killer Page, responded with that swagger that the brothers were too relaxed and fell into the trap of others. He assured Chief Shane that he'd handle it personally. Man, it was one of those promises you don't know if you can trust, but then Sheen threatened him, telling him not to disappoint him again, or the consequences would be devastating. Peixinho just went along with it like, sure thing, boss. Meanwhile, Zero was over there making the Silvason shine, like it was some kind of light festival, and everything kept going while he took a quick nap. The power of sleep, right? At his level, facing that group of assassins alone is basically a death wish. Then the system pulls up the details about Death Kisa, which used to be a thriving human city but is now a total graveyard, all because of that damn Death Kisa. The survivors are struggling, just hiding in tombs to escape Death Caesar's attacks. To avoid dancing with death, they have to keep their tomb's defense above 100, or it's game over for sure. Mission Worldwide 1 is to boost that defense from 300 to 2,000, which is a massive job and super risky. Mission Worldwide 2 says they need to complete at least one task with a difficulty level of at least 300. I'm telling you, if he can pull off these missions, he'll unlock the battle against the World 3 boss. If he beats the boss, then he can enter World 4. Phew. Another system window shows that death is coming, dealing 88 damage to Zero's tomb. Things are heating up in World 3. He can improve his tomb's defense by killing monsters, completing missions, and clearing some areas, racing against the clock. And think that's it? Nope. Death Sisa attacks World 3 every night at midnight, lasting 10 minutes of pure tension, if any professionals don't make it back to their tomb, or if the defense drops below 0, it's instant death. Even the assassins huddle in tombs to avoid getting wrecked. Now, all he had to do was wait for Yao. Soon enough, he got a message. It was from Yao saying the equipment was ready. Look at that efficiency. Yao jumped into World 3 and dashed towards 0. He remarked that he didn't expect the thing to be done in just one day, mentioning that his dad is friends with the boss of the Zhao family and that it was also urgent. 0 commented that the Zhao family truly deserves the title of legendary masters, considering they managed to whip up top-notch gear in no time. And it was the heart of the demon. The thing was level 20, with 2 stars and luxury gold attributes. The magical attack was 100, with a bonus of +6 to intelligence. Pure wealth. When the bearer's health is full, they become immune to lethal damage from a single hit. Now that's what I call an advantage. The stream of the piece was made with the eyes of a demon and seasoned in black water, full of immense demonic power, crafted by Zajiba. What a response. And he asked if they were going out to fight together. He mentioned that the guild members were saying the assassins were waiting at the front of the safe zone, aiming for the guys from the Supreme Guild, but 0 told him he had other plans. Suddenly, a system window popped up showing a message about the Tomb of the Holy Light. All the pros in the tomb were alerted that the Death Kaiser was going to attack in 5 minutes, so they had to get back to their tombs real quick. He warned them to return to their tombs soon, but then they saw some folks coming towards them, and he realized they were those assassins. 0 assured them they wouldn't attack since they were in the safe zone, but she decided to provoke them, threatening that if they made even one step out, he would kill them miserably. 0 told Yao to run to the tomb. Yao freaked out watching 0 head the other way. What a disaster. If he went out now with death coming, it was practically suicide, you know? 0 advised Yao not to leave the Tomb of the Holy Light until he got back. If necessary, they could go back to the second world to get stronger. So, 0 jumped into a portal, and Yao asked what his plan was. What's our hero's deal? Suddenly, the place starts turning all red, like lava is taking over the ground. Some creepy stuff. Then, something starts rising from the ground. Dude, it's a gigantic, demonic creature that looks like it crawled out of hell. This thing is more threatening than any final boss in a game, you know? But the hero presses on until he finds what he's been looking for. Arriving at the Gravekeeper's cemetery, Lifa, a guy, is there hugging a cross, shouting that the damn Death Kaiser is coming back to destroy the holy place. He asks the guy if he needs help. The dude is totally surprised to see an adventurer in the mix. He says our hero showed up just in time. He asks our guy to head to Death City, over east from the Holy Light Cemetery, and take down the army of skeletons that are causing trouble. This army is led by the Death Kaiser, the big bad boss. He says that if the skeletons are defeated, the Death Kaiser's power will weaken. Our hero agrees because they can't let the Death Kaiser keep haunting them. The guy is happy, gives him a thumbs up, and says he'll be waiting for good news. Now, 0 has picked up the quest called Facing Death. It's a standard quest with a difficulty level of 440. Dude, the Holy Light Cemetery is always under attack from the Death Kaiser. It's a serious hassle. And I'm not in the mood to read all this seriously. During the Death Kaiser invasions, if he gets out of the graveyard, there's only one outcome: death. That giant demon beast unleashes a terrifying attack from its mouth. Our hero sets up a barrier to protect himself from the wave. Then he gets a system notification saying that his graveyard is under attack by the Death Kaiser. He's already lost 97 points, man. Now he's only got 121 defense points left in the graveyard. Wow. Another system alert pops up to warn him that the effects of darkness, and the demon's hard eyes have been activated. He managed to resist the fatal damage inflicted by the Death Kaiser. Our boy is mentally thanking himself for asking Yao to enhance his magic wand. The effect of the demon's heart is perfect for resisting death. It's basically the recipe for success, so it doesn't matter how many health points the adventurer has left. If he's within the Death Kaiser's range, death is just a matter of time, so it's good to have that protection. The demon. Heart effect grants immunity to his powers. He stumbled upon that accidentally in his previous life while exploring the fourth world. In the third world, something like that only shows up if it's crafted by a top-notch artisan. Thanks to Yao's connection with a legendary artisan, the new gear is 1,000 times better than what he had in his past life, and it didn't even take long to be ready. 0 plans to head back soon. Meanwhile, in the safe zone, Yao is venting about how scared he is. Because the Death Kaiser is a seriously powerful creature, his subordinate mentions that this is just the beginning of the trouble. If they can't get out to level up once the graveyard's defense runs out, things are gonna get really ugly. That's when Chen shows up and sees Yao just standing there. He asks Yao why he's in the safe zone instead of gearing up. He teases him, saying Yao's scared he won't make it back to the third world if he leaves. The dad reminds Shen that it's important to take the chance and go out to level up. Shen gets annoyed for being bossed around without asking for it. He remembers that his mission is to find Zero. The dad says he'll protect Shen, but if he lays a finger on Cheeky, he won't hold back. Shen replies that it all depends on the dad's behavior. If he plays nice, his daughter is safe. Shen advises Yao to hand over Zero quickly, or even if they don't kill Yao, he won't make it until nightfall. Yao gets furious. Yao comments that Shen thinks he's all that just because he has high standards. Then out of nowhere, Jinya comes running in asking, "Where's Zero?" She has an important message for him. Yao's subordinate replies that Zero got the gear and took off. Jinya counters that this left the subordinates looking like they'd seen a ghost. They were already bracing for the worst, thinking that Zero had bailed on them and left them in a tough spot. So when he told them to stop talking nonsense, he set them straight, saying it's not right to doubt the people they hire. If they're just going to keep doubting them, they might as well not even bring them on board. He made it clear that Zero isn't that kind of person. Then, one of the subordinates asked how he could still trust him. Suddenly, Yao got a message from Zero asking for a favor. Yao was happy to see that Zero remembered him. Janinha was annoyed that it was Yao who received the request. She decided he was going to understand that she's way stronger than him. When she told Zero that Shane had gone to the third world and brought about 10 top-notch mercenaries to protect him, and that Shane was using someone's powerful daughter as a hostage to force the mercenary, Zero just replied that he understood. When he asked where he was, Zero said he was in the City of Death. Jininha happened to be taking a stroll around there. According to the info, most monsters in the City of Death ranged from level 25 to 28. Based on what they had, that might not be enough to handle the monsters there. Then, out of nowhere, a hand shot up from the ground, almost giving Janinha a heart attack, and she didn't even notice there was a zombie sneaking up behind her too. The zombie was stopped when someone used an ice cone technique. Janinha recognized that voice. Zero grabbed her and burned the zombie right in front of her. Janinha turned all red, thinking about how he had come to save her again. A man approached the father to clarify, since their mission was to kill Zero, but it seemed like the boss was taking Sheen to get an upgrade. The father responded that it didn't matter whether it was to kill him or to upgrade him. As long as the sponsor pays, they'll do it. He swore that when Zero shows up, he's going to take revenge and make sure Zero doesn't get any kind of burial. Then suddenly, a person hidden under a cloak took off. The father noticed and yelled at the kid who was running away. The guy bolted from them like a madman. The father was furious. He shouted for the guy to just die there and that they didn't need to make a tomb for him. The cloaked guy ran over to Yao. Yao asked how it went and if the guy wasn't recognized. The guy was happy to say he wasn't found out. He shared that the crew was just cursing Zero, wishing he would die in the graveyard. They exchanged greetings and Yao instructed him that there wasn't anything else for him to do. The money would be transferred to his account soon. He reminded the guy not to tell anyone about it. The guy thanked Yao. One of Yao's men brought up how Zero wanted to help create the illusion that he's still at the cemetery and is curious about why Yao is still helping him, especially since if he spills to the Assassin Corporation, they might give up the siege on the Supreme Guild. Yao replied that Zero wants them to wait in the safe zone. The subordinate confronted Yao, asking if he was confused since Zero is completely on his own. He believes that even if Zero comes back, he won't be able to handle so many high-level assassins. With determination in his eyes, he declared that he trusts Zero's judgment and that Zero is definitely worth it. Meanwhile, check out these two. Janinha, super cool, thanked Zero, and out of nowhere, she noticed Zero leveled up again. Dude, Zero confirmed it and casually mentioned that leveling up is really slow. Janinha was stunned. I mean, how does he say that after being away for just a day or two? Zero was thinking that the cemetery can only withstand 3 attacks from the God of Death Kaiser. So, if he doesn't move in the next 2 nights, the folks at the Sacred Cemetery are going to get wiped out by the Assassin Guild or Kaiser himself. He asked Gina if she had any potions. She said yes and asked how many he needed. Considering how critical the situation was, Zero told her the more she brought, the better. To sweeten the deal, he promised to pay 120% of the normal price for the potions. Gina went to check her backpack. Thank goodness her sister had stocked up on plenty. Gina asked if the reason he wanted so many potions was that he wanted to level up quickly and get stronger to retaliate against the assassin mercenary guild. Zero confirmed and added that he needs to elevate his strength to a level where he can steamroll them in 3 days. Jinan was shocked, knowing there's a limit to what humans can do in this alternate world. She wanted to know if he really could handle that so fast. Zero shot back, "I need to." Then, Jinan offered to help, but Zero explained that the monsters would be high level and extremely dangerous. Jinan assured him not to worry since her sister got her new gear and her attack and defense skills have improved a lot. Zero wasn't surprised to see items costing 400,000. Whenever Jinan does something, it's always impressive. Zero agreed, and they decided to reorganize their combat strategy. Deep down, Zero thought that with 400,000 backing them up, their efficiency would be much greater, but his top priority was to keep her safe. The mission is called Facing Death, and it's a common mission with a difficulty level of 440. The player class is tasked with entering the capital of death and taking out selected soldiers from the skeleton army. They have 3 days to complete it. Zero realized that, given their progress in 3 days, leveling up and upgrading their gear was going to be quite the challenge. Zero remembered that the third world had a secret kingdom at level 25, the Skeleton Island. It was just like the secret kingdom from the second world, and Zero knew he could level up there, assuming the rewards from the rolls of the secret kingdom were worth it, and complete the mission. He thought that would be enough. Ginny, excited, declared she needed to tag along to face the secret kingdom with him. A portal to the secret kingdom of the third world, the Skeleton Island, appeared. He said it was time to go. They crossed the portal and arrived on the other side. It was a creepy island with a giant skull with red pupils in the center. The wizard NPC Salau was there. He asked Zero if they were there to help. A lonely old man standing in a place full of monsters. Zero simply replied, "Yeah." Rui gave him a badge and said he hoped Zero wouldn't get into trouble because of his recklessness in taking the badge. A screen popped up detailing the ordinary mission. A level 25 from the Order of the Secret Kingdom of Skeleton Island. For every skeleton the badge holder takes down, Zero earns 10 chances of refinement. Each chance of refinement costs 20 alternate energy and can also grant a shot at a golden mission. But there was an alert that the item is automatically bound. It can't be traded or discarded. Ginny noticed Zero had a strange look on his face. She asked if the secret branch mission was really that hard. We responded that the initial order of the secret branch has a chance to be refined into a golden order, so it takes some time. Looking worried, Gina knew that taking down monsters was chill, but the refinement rate wasn't the best and cost a ton of alternate energy, which an average guy doesn't just have lying around. But Zero, full of confidence, said there was nothing to worry about, because he had alternate energy to spare. Then, while they were hunting monsters, it was heard that Zero had taken out a level 25 skeleton guard. He earned 20 experience points, plus some courageous defense, and a ridiculous 250,000 in alternate energy. In the blink of an eye, he repeated the feat, taking down 2 more and snagging the same rewards. Over time, the smoke on the battlefield gradually started to clear. Zero and Dina had already taken out a fair number of monsters, and now Zero was curious whether the order had actually changed. He checked, and nope, it hadn't changed at all. So, he decided to give Dinia a boost, encouraging her not to give up. Suddenly, the badge turned to gold. A screen popped up with a congratulatory message for refining to the Golden Order in the secret kingdom of Skull Island. Now, their mission was to level up in the island of skeletons using the Golden Order within 2 hours. Otherwise, the order would vanish. The chance of refining the secret Golden Order was less than 1 in 10,000. Zero and Dinia were on a lucky streak, and besides, Zero had enough energy, allowing him to keep trying until he succeeded. They calculated the time and knew the God of Death would be arriving any moment. Since they had built up a solid defense, an attack in the safe zone shouldn't pose too much of a problem. However, the secret Golden Order had a retention time of just 2 hours. They decided to head to the secret kingdom first, to avoid a direct confrontation with the God of Death. A screen flashed, showing that some gear only appeared in high-level dungeons. With that, they would earn more points and have better odds of defeating the mercenary assassins. Zero used the secret Golden Order to upgrade the secret kingdom of the Skill Island to a hidden secret realm. They were congratulated for earning an exclusive activation reward of 5 more coins, a necromancer set, a level 25 reflective gearbox, and 2 stars plus 3. A mission was unlocked. kill 40 skeleton warriors, and defeat the guardian of the secret kingdom. An intense light appeared as the skeletal general showed up, causing Gina to ask what was going on. Zero warned her to pay attention because something was coming. A whirlwind blasted through the portal, and then the skeletal general appeared. It was him, a level 26 physical lord monster, summoning soldiers resurrected by dark forces to obey his command and eliminate the invaders. The soldiers surged towards Zero and Dinia. Zero laid it all out for Dinia, saying that now that those soldiers were aligned with the general, things were about to get tense. His plan was to draw the first wave of skeleton warriors away and take them out one by one. They kept running, and in the end, Gina asked how long they were going to keep this up. Zero then decided it was time to ask, how many enemies could she control at once when she unleashed all her fire? Dinha admitted she had never tested that out. Zero decided to betray them, while Dinha found a hidden spot to control as many as she could to make it easier to wipe them out quickly. Dinha agreed right away. Then, Zero unleashed a massive flame. The skeleton soldiers came rushing in like crazy, and Zero had a serious look on his face. He shouted for Dinha to get ready. Dinha had already taken control of them but told Zero she couldn't hold on any longer, so it was time for him to step up. He took his stance and released a powerful bolt. The fire consumed those zombie soldiers. Dude, right off the bat, the skeleton general announced that he's planning to use Zero's blood to redeem himself for his sins. The thing is, the skeleton general is a level 27 beast, super buff, with 800 attack power, 450 defense, plus a bunch of other killer stats. He's the boss of the skeletal warriors and the guardian of illusions, commanding an army that could crush entire legions, running the show on the island. Anyone who dares to invade is gonna feel the skeleton general's heavy hand. So Zero was drooling over the stats on this guy, but to make matters worse, Zero's abilities were still on cooldown. If he got hit, the whole mission was screwed. Suddenly, Ganinha shouts Zero's name. He couldn't believe he was about to take a massive hit. In the next moment, she casts a multicolored spell that drained almost all of her energy. Zero was a step away from getting skewered by the general's giant spear, but being super smart, he gathered all his strength and made the general miss. He fired up some flames and lectured the general, saying that at this distance the spear was worthless. Then, in a synchronized move, Zero and Ganinha attacked together, sending the skeleton general crashing to the ground, cursing those invaders. Zero explained that he'd used up a lot of energy in his previous attacks, but didn't want to kill the general. Ganinha reassured him that he did great. Then Zayera asked her for a favor, but before she could even ask what it was, just to complicate things, Era was already trying to get back up. One guy started getting worried about Shane, since his resurrection rolls hadn't recharged yet, and the guy stubbornly insisted on hanging outside the secret realm. Shane warned that the secret realm had been activated and that the rules had changed, blocking outsiders from entering. He wanted to find out who thought they could steal the rewards from the first completion of the secret realm. A guy tried to argue, but Shane told him to shut up. He asked everyone if they were just going to sit around, then ordered that as soon as that guy stepped out, they would all go after him and take him down. Then a message popped up on the system screen. It was about the Sacred Light Cemetery, congratulating Ganinha for being the first to reach level 25 on Secret Realm School Island, and on top of that, for recovering a reward scroll. Chen couldn't believe it was Gina doing all this. He asked if it was true that she had activated this realm. Gina confirmed it straight up. Chen was upset and said, "Come on, at least you could have let us in." To help out too, Gina replied that she didn't need anyone's help and that since it was her kingdom, the rewards were only for her. She told them to back off because she was leaving, and Sheen, having no other options, accepted her decision. However, someone called her back. That's when Pei, who had all the schemes in mind, dropped a little-known fact. According to the rules of the secret kingdom of Hilescu, whoever activates the kingdom and finishes first can't actually claim the reward from the scroll. He pushed further, asking if Gina wasn't alone when she entered. She said her best friend helped by opening the kingdom, but it was her who cleared it out first. Danina asked if that would be a problem. Tia then asked where the friend was, and Daninha simply said she had disappeared. So, Jinian complained that Chen and his crew were interrogating her like she was a criminal. Chen got scared seeing that Jinian was furious. In response, he said the guy over there was just a security guard he hired and didn't know anything. Chen even tried to make amends by saying he'd buy her a snack. Jinian rolled her eyes and told him to stop following her. Chen, not missing a beat, asked his dad if he was sure that Zero hadn't left the safe zone yet. Chin remarked that his brothers had seen Zero trying to leave, but since his squad was guarding the entrance, Zero had turned back. Shine, on the other hand, was hopeful. saying that if Zero didn't make it out by midnight with the Reaper's attack, the cemetery's defense would fall, and Zero and Yao would be in trouble. Meanwhile, Jinian had already slipped into the forest and shouted Zero's name. Soon enough, he appeared behind a rock. Jinian was scared of being seen and asked if he knew Shane would be outside. When he told her to come out, Zero replied that since Shane had called in so many assassins to that part of the world, the third dimension probably had the strongest of them. He hoped that as soon as the First Kingdom cleanup kicked off, considering Shane's personality, he wouldn't hesitate to keep an eye on the prize and try to grab it back if he could. Jinian finally understood why Zero had asked for help to land the final blow on the boss. It was to hide his identity. Zero apologized for not being able to reveal himself right now and causing more confusion, so he owed her one. Jinian took care of everything, saying it was all good and that she was happy to help him out. Then Zero suggested they take some time to check their loot. Among the finds, there was an awesome level 10 magic shield, which still couldn't be upgraded, but it was definitely a good thing. The shield condensed mana to create a barrier that absorbed damage for the bearer or an ally within 30 yards. It had a value of 300% of the bearer's magical power, lasted 10 seconds, and even increased the defense of the protected ally by 15%. For now, it spent 155 mana and had a cooldown of 20 seconds. Zero thought it wasn't so bad. They had managed to get a survival skill and a checkbox from the Death Knight set. He commented that if they avoided Chen's crew and headed back to the Sacred Light Cemetery to turn in their quest, they'd easily hit level 25 and solve all their problems. However, Janinha pointed out that the enemy was at level 30 and asked if he was sure that level 25 would be enough, but she wanted to use her sister's connections just to be safe. Zero assured her they could handle it. He ruffled her hair and made her heal again. Janinha remembered the reward scroll they'd gotten from their first completion of the secret realm and asked if they should open it. She mentioned that Outworld quests were generally divided into 3 types: common, hidden, and reward. The hidden quests were the rarest, while the reward quests had more uncertainties, but most were tied to monetary prizes, so they weren't held in as high regard as the hidden ones. Since potion usage had been high lately, it was a chance to make some cash for supplies. Then, out of nowhere, a golden light hit the ground. They didn't understand what was happening, and then a silhouette of a monster appeared. The system sent out a new message saying that the reward quest was updated, revealing a boss on the current map, the Golden Skeleton King, level 28, physical type, 3 stars, and Janinha had triggered a rare opportunity. They asked if she wanted to upgrade the quest to a hunt for the Skeleton King. Janinha looked confused and turned to Zero, asking what the system meant by that, but he explained that choosing to upgrade meant giving up the rewards from the original quest. If they couldn't complete the new quest, they'd end up losing out. Normally, he'd definitely opt for the upgrade, but that was the concern. If Chen showed up, everything they'd gained might be lost. Janinha started arguing that hidden quests were rare and worth it, so there was no reason to hesitate. She suggested they take the chance before Shine and his crew got in on the action. Zero agreed. They clicked the upgrade option. The system screen confirmed the update, showing the enhanced rewards: an extra 500,000 experience points, 500 additional cemetery defense value, 10 gold, 100,000 energy, a level 25 Death Knight 1-7, a full set of selectable 2-star pieces, and a bunch of pet eggs. The reward would go to the player who could take down the Golden Skeleton King, and they had only 59 minutes and 55 seconds to do it. Janinha was excited about the rewards since they were way better than the last mission. For her, it was definitely a win. Zero felt a bit anxious, thinking it would be tough, and that finishing the mission in an hour with just the 2 of them was going to be quite the challenge. Then they heard a voice commenting on how lucky they were to find a boss like this. Zero quickly covered Janinha's mouth, and they hid behind a rock. Sheen started talking about how killing those monsters would bring in generous rewards, but as soon as he saw it was a level 28 3-star boss, he realized the guy could send them to hell with just 1 hit. The monster towered majestically over them. Chen directed his men to weaken the monster, keeping the final blow for himself, but one of his guys shot back that it would cost them their lives. The dad accepted the mission and told the older members of the team to focus on defense, while the healer took care of the blessings and rivers. The assassins and the dad focused on dealing damage. Then they charged at the monster. The dad swung his sword, but the monster screamed, pushing him back. The attack began to counter, but the dad managed to dodge. He called for the healer to apply debuffs on the field. The healer agreed, and cast it. The monster got debuffed. Janina peeked out while Zero thought about letting them wear the monster down a bit first to drain some of its energy. Zero replied that it was like a praying mantis hiding from a cigarette, unaware of the spider lurking behind it. The mage attacked while the swordsman charged in front. The golden skeleton king took a hit to the chest. "Look at the elite assassins really going for it. Just a few of them are doing all that damage," Janina commented. Zero noticed that the team was well structured, with warriors in front, ranged attackers behind, and healers, and their coordination was excellent. But the leader of the elite assassins, Pai, began to feel like something was off. The boss got nervous about their movements and ordered them to ramp up the attack, threatening everyone with consequences if they didn't level up and grab the rewards. He asked why they had stopped. One of the elite assassins said the guy was too much, and the boss narrowed his eyes. He threw a knife and shouted for them to get out of the way. Zero saw the knife heading their way. An explosion went off, and when the dust settled, there was Zero and Janina standing outside. Zero commented that he didn't expect them to figure it out. Payne realized that Zero was enjoying himself, throwing it in their faces with no respect at all. Shane was shocked to see Zero, thinking he was still in the safe zone. He asked how Zero got there with Geninha. Shane wondered how Geninha could even be with a guy like him. Geninha, already annoyed, shot back that who was none of his business, which pushed Shane right to the edge of fury. Chen ordered Pai to kill Zero and promised to release his daughter immediately if he did. Pai asked if he was sure about that and, in turn, instructed one of the assassins to round everyone up from the safe zone to help. He charged at Zero. Zero saw Pai's speed and immediately shoved Dinhan out of the way to dodge the attack, but took 208 points of negative damage instead. He staggered back, and Pai declared that since he was out of the safe zone, Zero's life now belonged to him. But Zero just laughed and told him to stop dreaming. Pai unleashed his power and aimed at Dinhan. Zero got angry, seeing him hit someone who couldn't defend themselves. He concentrated all his energy into the tip of his spear and launched a powerful attack. Pai got caught in the explosion and couldn't believe how much damage he had taken. Two of the assassins called out to Pai to hurry because they couldn't hold the golden remnant. The skeleton king began to draw a magic circle in the sky, summoning a rain of lightning. Pai looked at Zero and finally decided to deal with the skeleton king. Zero told Janinha they needed to find a way to hold the line and take down the boss first. Meanwhile, Yao's group was worried because if they didn't move soon, they'd be toast. One of his subordinates lamented not having sold Zero to the assassins earlier. Suddenly, they realized the assassins had vanished, leaving a sense of relief. Yao, curious, wanted to know why. They retreated and guessed they must have spotted Zero. One of his subordinates suggested that this was their chance. After farming monsters and boosting the cemetery's defense value, he insisted they had to ignore Zero, or they'd die right there. Yao, who was steadfast, remembered he had promised Zero he would free them that night. He knew that if Zero got captured by the assassins, everything would fall apart, and he couldn't just turn a blind eye. His crew was stunned, so Yao ordered all the guild members to band together and head to the City of the Dead. He even promised that anyone who showed up would get double salary for the month. His crew exchanged glances. One of them commented that the boss was being pretty fair, but was unsure if it was good or bad. Another replied that overthinking wouldn't help, and they had to go since they couldn't refuse the cash. Meanwhile, the pawn started rushing toward the skeleton king. He told the healer to watch his position and keep weakening the beast, leaving the rest to him. The healer agreed. A bright purple light shot from his body. The golden skeleton king was about to grab the healer, who shouted loudly. Meanwhile, Zero and Janinha just stood by, tense, waiting for the king's next move. The tension was thick as Zero and Janinha watched the scene unfold, and the pawn faced down the monster. Tain, realizing his numbers had dwindled, began to act cautiously until reinforcements arrived. The skeleton king slammed the ground hard. Zero was counting on Aginya to do her part, and she ended up immobilizing the monster. It was Zero's moment, but his father noticed his movement and rushed to interfere. His father was on Zero's tail like a feral beast. Suddenly, a glowing sphere of light, bright as the sun, appeared and shot toward Zero's father. He became furious, realizing someone was messing with his plans. Several figures began sprinting toward them. The group leader informed Zero that his boss was holding the rear and sent them to help. He ordered them to protect Zero and, if necessary, sacrifice their lives for 30,000. They charged into the fray or told the assassins that those rookies were just ants they could handle. Then their guys jumped in too. They were frustrated with Yao's guild because they thought they were just some crazy dogs daring to act. One assassin attacked Yao's leader and wiped him out for good. Meanwhile, Zero unleashed a powerful beam of light at the monster. His father stood there, jaw dropped, unable to believe that such horrific damage was coming from a level 20. He chased after Zero, knowing that if he let him continue, their boss was toast. Janinha noticed and decided to interrupt. He was caught off guard, ironic. Then Pei, with a look of disdain, raged that out of respect for Sheen, he wouldn't kill her, but it seemed like she was asking for it. He unleashed his power and charged at her. Zero's expression shrank at the sight. Pei was as quick as lightning and hit Janina right in the heart. Zero went pale as a ghost seeing this, yet despite the pain, Janina encouraged him to keep going. In a blink, Zero returned with a vengeance, screaming in fury and unleashing a barrage of attacks on the Skeleton King. While Peito shot blades at him, the Skeleton King tried to punch Zero, who quickly created a barrier to shield himself. He absorbed the spear's power and sent a lethal energy dart toward the skeleton's chest. Flames surrounded him, and the system screamed that he could take down the level 28 boss. The Golden Skeleton King awarded him over 42,000 experience points, 55% high performance, 20% on the finish, and an extra 28 million energy. The flames started licking around him, and at the center of it all was Zero, cursed and looking furious. Yao and his team were nearby and saw that the boss had gone down, believing Zero was behind it, and they bolted off like bubbles. Zero was grateful for the defensive skill he'd earned clearing the realm, which helped him block the boss's final blow. Now he had to head back to deliver the loot and level up. He began collecting his rewards. Out of nowhere, a new window popped up notifying him that by killing the king, the necromancer had been triggered. There was a class effect called Necromancer's Harvest. It asked if he wanted to harvest the Golden Skeleton King as a pet. Excitedly, all he could do was say yes. However, Sheen was furious, ordering Pei to run back and bring Zero, or his daughter would be in deep trouble. Pei again launched into the attack, and Zero, unable to hold back, warned that they were about to lose their heads. Peito tried to land a hit, and Shane threatened again, saying his son was a good boy. This time, there was no stopping it. Peito decided to act and shoved Shane, knocking him to the ground. Then he stepped on Shane's chest. Coldly, he warned Sheen that if he touched his daughter, he would chop him into pieces. Sheen tried to defend himself, saying it was just a misunderstanding, trying to explain that from what he heard, the kid had just absolutely wrecked the level 28 king and stolen all the loot, which meant his power was just going to grow. If they missed this chance, it would be tough to take him out later. Pain didn't care and bragged that killing Zero would be the easiest thing in the world. Yao arrived and was surprised to see that Zero was gone. He thought he might have run away. Pain ordered to get rid of those guys from the Supreme Guild, but Chain interrupted him, saying he planned to use Yao as bait to lure Zero in. Then, the system congratulated Zero for completing the hidden mission called Calm Down, Skeleton King. He earned an extra 500,000 experience points, 500 cemetery defense, 10 gold coins, and 100 million energy. With all this, he leveled up to level 25. Zero was amazed that a boss could still turn into a pet. He knew if he trained it right, even regular monsters wouldn't stand a chance against it. Then, unexpectedly, another screen popped up. He received a message from General EU from the Jinnam Pavilion, saying he had Yao under his foot and trash-talking to provoke Zero into coming to him. Another message came through, this time from Jininha, warning him it was a trap and that he shouldn't go, or if he did, to wait for her so they could go together. But he replied that he didn't need to. His plan was to get revenge on everyone. Shane was keeping Yao as a hostage, and Yao looked pretty messed up. He believed in Zero. Zero walked over to them, and Kane mocked him for falling into the trap. Yao shouted for help desperately. Zero told Kane he was there just as they wanted and asked to let Yao go first. Pei warned Kane that as soon as Zero got closer, they were going to launch a full-on attack. Kane whispered that he couldn't believe Pei had to ambush a mere beast tamer. Pei sent an assassin to attack, and the guy kicked Yao away, sending him flying. In a leap of faith, Yao ran toward Zero, believing he would show up. Zero told him to go back, wanting him to leave the burden to him. With tears in his eyes, Yao begged them to escape together, believing they wouldn't stand a chance against the assassins. He knew that if they went back to the city, they'd lose their shot. Zero reassured him everything would be okay, and told Yao to go protect his own life. Desperate, Yao grabbed a scroll and promised Zero he'd return with reinforcements as soon as he could, and if anyone in the guild could revive him, no matter the cost, he was determined to bring help to Zero. Then Yao vanished. Zero threw down the challenge for the men to attack. Pei ordered them to strike. They looked down on him just for being a tamer. Confident they could take him down, one of them was itching to be the first to hit him for a reward from the boss. Zero pulled out his staff and it fully materialized, summoning the Black Skeleton King. The crowd was stunned, unable to believe he had actually brought the Golden Skeleton King back to life. They started questioning which monster he had messed with. Chuckling, Zero realized he should be thanking them. He pulled out some eggs, mentioning he had reached level 25, but the eggs were from level 30 elites, and the Silver Scorpion was slightly weaker. The system asked if the Golden Skeleton King wanted to inherit all the abilities and experiences of the Silver Scorpion. Upon accepting, the system notified that the Golden Skeleton King devoured the Silver Scorpion. The evolution increased by 1 level, hitting 10 out of 10. Now, the Golden Skeleton King was elite and had become rare. The next evolution would require devouring 10 rare pets. Additionally, the Black Skeleton King inherited the attack style of the Silver Scorpion. He apologized to the Scorpion and opened the screen for the 7th Knight of Death. With that, he received a complete set of the Knight of Death, level 25, 2 stars. The way he summoned a warrior or skeleton of the same level made it feel like he had 2 pets. If he refined up to 10 golden attributes, the effect would be even more powerful. So, the refining began. The treasure chest opened, releasing a golden light. A notification popped up from the system informing him that he had acquired powerful items, all level 25 with 2 stars, including the Eternal Magic Wand, the Demon's Death Ring, the Eternal Magic Hat, the Demon's Death Robe, the Demon's Death Pants, the Demon's Death Boots, and the Eternal Magic Chain. With all these new powers added to his inventory, Zero was finally ready. He just needed to equip the gear of the Skeleton King that he had prepared, and his pet would be a tank, stronger than defensive boots, making it formidable in both defense and attack with warrior stats. He swore this time Shane and the crew wouldn't escape. He ordered the Black Skeleton King to move forward. The assassins weren't scared at all, seeing him as a mere animal tamer, and charged right at him, even with the Black Skeleton King right behind. The Black Skeleton King raised his hand, and his power took down the assassins with force. The father was astonished by the defense and attack, power of the king, and wondered if that was the kid's strength. Sheen yelled for them to move, asking if the dad wanted to save his daughter. The dad got angry but was already crafting his plan, deeply frustrated with Sheen. He felt it was his fault for losing so many brothers, and promised that once he rescued his daughter, he was going to settle the score. Feeling shattered, he was sure that if he took down Zero, the pet would be useless. Zero blocked the dad's sword with his staff and then smirked, questioning if he really thought he had come unprepared. The dad was left speechless when he realized a second skeleton had appeared behind him to attack. He couldn't believe he had another pet to deal with. The skeleton hit Pain in the back, and Zero unleashed all his powers. A barrage of attacks launched at him, and Pain was confused about how this was even possible since that kind of damage wasn't typical for a level 20 player. He figured it must have to do with equipment or something. 2 assassins targeted the skeleton, dealing a negative 500 damage, and one of them reported that the Skeleton King was so tough that even their gold gear couldn't cut through. So, the dad decided to go after the tamer first, since the Skeleton King was just a pet, instructing his assassins to leave 2 of them to hold off the king while the rest attacked. Zero was sure he wouldn't be able to withstand the level 30 player's attacks. Everyone followed the orders. Zero dodged the attacks, and while he was hitting one, he got hit from behind by another assassin. He quickly turned and zapped the attacker with an electric shock. 2 assassins jumped onto his back and started attacking him. Zero created a barrier around himself to absorb the damage. Suddenly, someone arrived announcing that the guild leader had ordered them to protect Zero. Zero asked who it was. The man stepped closer, introducing himself as Xiao Yao, the vice president of the Supreme Guild. He let Zero know that the president had sent reinforcements. Zero thanked him and warned that if they found themselves in danger, they shouldn't force the fight. The guy got the message loud and clear. He turned to the guild members, urging them to combine all their strengths, heal if they could, and attack simultaneously. Everyone responded positively and formed a line. The tanks raised their shields at the front, while the mages fired attacks from a distance. The assassins had to be careful to dodge. The dad felt overwhelmed and commented that those lunatics didn't flinch in the face of willpower. He got distracted when a man attacked him. At that moment, Zero conjured a blue sphere and unleashed an ice attack. He told his dad he was keeping up the reputation of the assassin mercenary leader since his agility was off the charts. The dad replied that, unless Zero was like Gina, who could control the crowd, killing him would just be a matter of time. Zero challenged him, showing off the 2 intimidating skeletons, and suddenly, the dad got a message. One of his underlings reported that the second daughter of the Su family had sent someone to rescue the girl, so now his daughter was with him. The group sent a photo, and tears filled his eyes. Out of nowhere, he shouted for everyone to stop, leaving Zero on edge. Shine started freaking out again, threatening them by using his daughter. Without a second thought, he grabbed Shine by the neck. Shine struggled, but the guy was clearly enraged. He said that since the day his daughter was kidnapped, this was the luck Shine had brought on himself. He threw Shine to the ground. Shine screamed for him to let him go, to free his daughter, begging for forgiveness. The dad simply said there was no reason to do that since his daughter was already back home, and that's when he plunged the sword into Shine's chest, making him vanish in a puff of smoke. Zero realized Tate was a powerful force and asked Payne if he wasn't worried about retaliation. Payne responded that in their line of work, they lived on the edge and couldn't even protect their own families. He knelt before Zero, apologizing for the assassin mercenaries. Zero was confused by what he implied. He explained that Zero's friend saved his daughter and he didn't know how to repay him. Since he had already killed many of his men, he offered to pay with his own life. Meanwhile, Sheol reminded him that the assassin mercenaries had killed Supreme Community members 235 times so far. The mercenaries reacted in fury. They threatened the dad. The dad screamed for no one to move. Zero raised his staff and told the dad that since he asked, he wouldn't hold back his, anger. Zero unleashed an electric shock that shocked the dad with the damage he'd taken. He started to realize he wasn't a normal person. After that, the dad decided to step back. The mercenaries began to shout out in anger, wanting to avenge their leader, but they got distracted when a message from the chief came through. Pei informed them that the girl had returned, thanks to Zero's people. He stated he would keep his promise that anyone who moved against Zero would be immediately expelled from the guild. Everyone was stunned. Zero and Zhao Xiao felt anxious as they got closer to the assassin mercenaries. Zhao Xiao was about to say something, but Zero told them not to get too hyped up. Surprisingly, the men knelt down, ready to reflect on the lives lost by the elite mercenaries. They each started to chime in. They didn't want their leader to take all the blame. Xiao Yao was at a loss for words. Zero scolded them, saying that as citizens of Dragon Nation, their gumi should be sharp outward, not against their own people. He added that killing your own kind wasn't honorable, and being a protector and defender of Dragon Nation was the true definition of professional survival. He ordered them to tell their boss that the debt had to be settled, or else they'd be responsible for compensating the entire Supreme community for all the economic and material losses incurred over the last 2 days, doubled. Plus, from now on, they would be in charge of guiding everyone from the Supreme community through the underworld. The assassin mercenaries happily replied that it was no problem. Xiao watched as Zero walked through the portal. He commented that he finally understood why the president valued him so much. When Zero returned to the safe zone, he caught a lot of attention because of his pet. Many thought it was cool. One guy recognized it as the Skeleton King from the Death City map. This got people wondering if tamers were really that powerful. Zero checked the status screen of the Black Skeleton King. It had a rarity of 0 with an evolution level of 10. Its physical attack was 640 with 14 stars. Physical defense was 555 with 12 stars. Magical defense was 533 with 12 stars. HP was 6088 with 18 stars. And MP was 511 with 15 stars. It was a rare pet with special effects, featuring divine power that boosted the Black Skeleton King's attack by 20% and defense by 10%. It also had the regnant body effect, which increased the Skeleton King's HP by 20%. Plus, it had several skills, among them Lord of Shadows, a passive that cuts the damage the Skeleton King takes by 20% and increases its own damage by 20%. The other was Shadow Blade Arrangement, an active dodge that calls down giant swords from the sky, trapping enemies. Anyone caught within wouldn't be able to escape and would take 120% of the king's damage for 3 seconds. The cooldown was 10 seconds. Zero was already expecting these stats. He had an idea that the growth was higher than normal, but he still lacked skills. He remembered that the mission reward included 2 skill books, which he planned to teach to the Skeleton King. The first one was a deadly shout that could attract up to 3 monsters within a 30-meter radius, forcing them to attack him while reducing the damage he took by 30% for 10 seconds. The cooldown was 20 seconds, but this didn't work on players. Only the damage reduction applied. The other skill was the Ultra Light Slash, which launched a supersonic cut at the enemy, dealing 270% physical damage. This damage ignored 40% of the target's physical defense, and it had a cooldown of 5 seconds. The Skeleton King absorbed the details, and suddenly, Dina appeared out of nowhere. She asked him why he was there and if he had killed Shane. Zero replied that he actually wanted to, but he didn't get the chance because Peo took Shane out. Dina was relieved, thinking it was good that it wasn't him. Zero then wanted to know why. Dina explained that she had a son, Chan, and he was super protective. She knew that whoever killed Shane would be hunted down by Tiange. Zero acknowledged that she had risked her life to help him and only stepped in to warn her about it. She turned all red and smiled. Zero called her loyal, which wasn't what she expected to hear. She complained that she had lost a resurrection because of him and had even leveled down. Then she asked him how he was going to make it up to her. Zero frowned, told her to go home and rest, and offered to take her around the third world the following night. Dina was over the moon with happiness. At home, Zero was grateful to finally have a break, but then the doorbell rang. When he opened the door, he found a notice saying there were high expectations for him at the professional tournament. After reading the message, he was alarmed to realize someone knew his true identity and wondered if it was someone who had been reincarnated like him. Then, his phone vibrated. It was from Nyan, telling him to check the news. So he did what she asked and came across the announcement for the 100th Professional Glory Tournament. To kick things off, the mercenary assassin's hideout turned into a total massacre. 42 professionals and even a 9-year-old were tragically killed. There's no denying it. He immediately realized the massacre was a payoff that involved him and his little girl. It was such a brutal scene that the entire guild of assassins got wiped out, and not even the kids made it out alive. The guy starts wondering if there's any connection to what went down at 6 in the morning, right when a mysterious letter arrived at his place. The woman began explaining the perks of moving there. For starters, the Shiating community is the most famous in the area. It's super convenient, and even though it's an old building, the cost-benefit ratio is great. Our hero just replied with, "Okay." The woman got really excited and said she'd prepare the contract for him. In the meantime, he got a phone call. Even while listening to the woman, she kept insisting the price was reasonable and that the housemates were cool. And on the other end of the line, Jinian confirmed the plans for that night. He said everything was still on track, and she, full of zeal, said she'd be waiting for him. So he signed the contract and transferred the money. Now, all that was left for him was to conquer this third world. He approached her and said he had arrived. The guys looked at him with disdain, totally unimpressed, since he was all alone and on top of that, a beast tamer. They scoffed at his stats, saying his damage was lower than that of a priest. His defense was garbage compared to the assassins, and his speed was slower than a mage's. They didn't miss a beat in telling Dina that her partner wouldn't be able to handle it, and encouraged her to join them. Suddenly, someone grabbed one of the guys by the collar. It was Yao, who was pissed off because the guy was trying to hit on his brother's woman. Zhao, getting the vibe, pointed out that he was drawing too much attention, and that would cause trouble for Zero. Thinking it over with a serious look on his face, he ordered the guys to scram. Then, he played it off like he had exaggerated his words. Dina, curious, asked who those guys were. Zero explained he had called for help. He mentioned that Zhao could back him up and that Zenny was a healer. The situation wasn't complicated since it was just about staying safe and avoiding gunfire. He invited everyone to step out, and then our hero and Gina led the way, while Yao, Zhao, and Zini followed behind. Gina started talking about how cruel Tiao was, going as far as not sparing even the little girl. She pointed out that anyone with half a brain knew that Tiao's revenge involved his son. But without solid evidence, even the police couldn't make an arrest. Zay cut in and said it wasn't quite that simple, because some things shouldn't just be judged on the surface. He'd expressed his concern that the next target could be Zero since he'd gotten involved with Xing. Then our hero, Zero, chimed in, "Chill out, I got this. No worries." While this conversation was going on, the 3 guys who were trailing behind started to feel like they were just background connections. Yao then commented that just the fact that Zero remembered him was good enough. Then Zero asked if they were ready, and everyone immediately replied, "Yep." The screen then asked if they wanted to form a team to get started. Zero, feeling relieved, thought that even though he looked tough, he had 2 pets and a complete necromancer outfit. With his boosted battle power, he felt ready to take on the boss. He let out a roar that shook the ground and quickly summoned a bunch of creatures, like bats, some spiders, and even knights. In response, without thinking twice, Zero called forth the Skeleton King and the Skeleton Warrior. With a firm command, he ordered them to attack anything that came their way. The Skeleton Warriors jumped into the fray, while Zero provided cover with fire bullets. The battlefield turned into a fiery zone, and Sheen was left speechless witnessing it. He wondered what kind of damage that was because before, even with all 5 of them together, it was a struggle to take down just one skeleton. Now, he couldn't believe that Zero had wiped out a whole group of skeletons in the blink of an eye. Zero laid it down for everyone. "I'm going to take the boss on my own. You all deal with the minions and keep yourselves safe, especially Yao, who just revived. It's best for him to stay back and not get killed." The battle was intense. A king versus king showdown, and with adrenaline pumping, it was a real thrill. Jiao agreed, but then he got distracted because he noticed he couldn't see Yao around. And guess what? The kid was hiding behind a rock at a good distance, thanking Zero for his concern and assuring him that he would be fine. Then, our hero had the Skeleton King use Mortal Taunt to grab the boss's attention while he took care of Xiao. Zini looked shocked again. tears streaming down his face, wondering how a level 33 boss was being treated like a common mob in front of Zero. Xiao, noticing his friend's rambling, told him to focus more. So, the Skeleton Warrior, the Skeleton King, and Zero charged in together. The boss couldn't escape the approaching fate. A congratulatory message popped up, that little note congratulating our hero for taking down the level 33 boss, the so-called Death God Kaiser. The rewards were insane. Over 49,000 experience points, a guaranteed 50% in a 5-player team, a 20% bonus on the final blow, and about 30 million extra energy. Talk about a payday, right? All 4 of them watched in awe as our guy wrecked the boss. Then an announcement came through in the sacred light. Cemetery Zone. Zero had defeated the Death God. After that brutal victory, the group cleared the 3rd phase of the dungeon and leveled up. Without wasting any time, someone jumped in with, "I knew Zero would crush it and finish that boss in no time." The guy speculated that their team was the first to clear this phase. Then our protagonist threw out a cheeky question. What was the next gig? He wanted to know if they were heading straight to phase 4. But first, he warned that even though they helped secure the win, their strength was still a bit weak for the regular challenges there. So he dropped this hint. Better work on leveling up before you head into the 4th world. Ginian and Ao exchanged a knowing glance like, you got it. Ginian decided to stick around in phase 3 a bit longer, farming XP, and Ao, seeing the wisdom in our hero's words, decided to do the same. Soon enough, they all waved goodbye to that world. Zero finally got home with a simple plan, rest up, and tackle phase 4 the next day. But just as he was about to crash on his bed, he was hit with a surprise that sent his heart racing. There was a strange woman lying next to him, sleeping and mumbling in her dreams. He was in shock and shouted out, asking who she was. The woman was totally chill in her sleep, and Zero, panicking, called the real estate people who had set up his place. He needed to know if this was really the apartment he signed for. They confirmed it and mentioned that they told him the roommate was super nice. Zero, confused as hell, asked when they said that, and the woman defended herself, saying he just wasn't paying attention and had always wanted a place like this, never complained before. Zero realized he'd been so anxious that he missed that detail. Then he let out, "Please, switch me to a 1-bedroom. If it were me, I'd soak up all the fun and you viewers would either run away or be stuck in the room with that babe." Hey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because only subscribers can hang out in this room. Now, back to our story. The broker agreed, but already gave him a heads up to be clearer next time. To help the kid not overspend, she promised to call him if a decent spot opened up. He stared longingly into the room and realized he couldn't resist that woman. If she came on to him, thinking about it, he preferred to just bounce. As he rolled through all the info in his head, he remembered the letter about the National League that was set to kick off in a couple of weeks. The whole deal included the local preliminaries, provincial championships, national challenges, and of course, the World Finals. To stay in the loop, he needed to sign up. The previous record showed that Lighthouse Nation was in 1st place, while Dragon Nation was sitting at 5th. He figured that the strength of a nation isn't just measured by conquering worlds, but also by its ranking in the finals. In his past life, he died long before he could achieve this, and now he was determined to win that title. With his mind made up, he was getting hyped for the quick level up. To join the league, he needed to be at level 30. Suddenly, Yao messaged him asking for help. Meanwhile, in the 3rd world, in the Wild Shadowland zone, Yao was surrounded by 3 women who were having doubts. Was it really possible to make this happen, or were they just wasting time? Yao, keeping his cool, declared that a man never admits he can't do something. He promised the girls he would pull off the biggest power leveling in history, all to impress them. Zero realized that Yao, his buddy, couldn't lose his cool and end up embarrassing himself. Yao went on about how there was a level 27 skeleton boss that was a real pain in this mission. Even with 7 to 10 guys, the crew couldn't take it down. Then he made an emotional plea to Zero, putting all his hopes on this mission. Zero told everyone to wait outside because, I don't know, there was no reason for them to go in. The girls were pissed, thinking he was messing around, planning to go in alone and probably thinking it was a bad joke. But 3 minutes later, guess who shows up again? And the crowd was in shock, not understanding why he was back so soon. Then they freaked out, thinking he was just coming back to ask for help. But get this, Zero shows up and announces he already took down the boss. Zero said he needed to leave and Yao was over the moon. The girls who had previously thought it was all just a lie were now completely shocked because the game screen officially declared that the boss had been defeated, and something proud was highlighting that his friend was the best. In a celebratory mood, he asked the three of them who was going to be the 7-day girlfriend since they lost the bet. Meanwhile, he noticed a girl with brown hair sneaking away and immediately shot straight at her. "Hey, where do you think you're going?" The girl just replied that she would make up for it next time. Out of nowhere, she started chasing after Zero, yelling at him, calling him Azura. He couldn't help but answer that Azura had fallen in a battle 100 years ago. The girl wasn't having any of it, and shot back that he couldn't have died because he was right there. She even pointed out that Zero was him. That got him mad, and he asked if she had sent the letter he had been so curious about. He pressured her to reveal who she was, and she, calm and collected, said she would tell him if he helped her with a task. Things got tricky because that offer made Zero really angry, but the girl, sensing the tension, assured him she wouldn't spill anything to anyone as long as he lent a hand. In his head, he thought, if I take her out, I lose the only lead I have. What did she even want? As the heat rose, she invited Zero to join her team in the Pro League, saying she wanted him to help her out with the preliminaries in the city. He asked, if it was for money, and her response was that she just wanted to prove she could make it happen. Clever as always, he told her that no matter the reason, she better not show up again until she hit level 30 and had her name on the National Pro League roster. The girl made a happy face, almost jumping for joy, and asked if she could get his contact, but Zero, with his icy heart, froze up and nearly bit the dust. He turned away and told her not to follow him, making it clear that he only wanted to be found when she was registered. She agreed, though a bit confused by the rejection. Cut to Zero, standing there as the system screen was showing that he needed to choose which world he wanted to enter. As an adventurer who fears nothing, he picked the 4th world called Dragon Valley. Without further ado, the portal opened up before him, and the system screen welcomed him, saying he was now in Dragon Valley. Based on his location in High City, his safe haven was the Light Time Sanctuary. The system also informed him that this area was shared between Linai City and Ganyang City, making all the players from both places part of the Temple of Light. Zero was left speechless, just like one of the dragons in front of him. The story of Dragon Ball was enough to give anyone chills. 1,000 years ago, after a fierce clash between light and dark dragons, the leaders of both factions signed a peace pact. But wait for the drama. The Black Dragon clan was secretly getting stronger. Over the last 100 years, they invaded the territories of the Light Dragons, and that 9th-century peace left the Light Dragons with very little fighting spirit. So, it was up to our crew to help the knights of the Light Dragon clan defend the Temple of Light. The first mission, take out at least 3 Dark-class Lord Dragons. Our character had a clear goal, to achieve level 5 trust with a Dragon Knight. Once the world missions were completed, he would unlock the portal to the challenge of the 4th world boss, and of course to enter the 5th world. The crew would have to take down that boss, right? He planned that when he hit level 30 and managed to change classes for the 2nd time, he'd unlock another pet slot, and he already knew he wanted a flying dragon as a companion. So, dude, the protagonist decided to tackle some quests first, starting with the Dark Mountains. Meanwhile, a dark skeleton was battling a dragon, forcing it to open its mouth, and our hero was on a pretty standard mission. This time, he needed to boost morale. The mission required adventurers to head to the Dark Mountains on the continent of Light and hunt down 12 giant dark dragons. The goal? Lift the spirits of the Light Dragon clan. And what was the reward? 100,000 experience points, plus 15,000 energy, 20 trust points, and 2 random items rated 2 to 3 stars, not to mention 40 silver coins. It was a mission that would definitely take a few days, and Zero realized that trust was crucial for completing this world mission. The only way for him to level up and finish the mission was to roll up his sleeves and take down some monsters. During the fight, the dragon unleashed a blinding light from its mouth, causing the skeleton to back off. Suddenly, it countered with a powerful punch, and the skeletal warrior sliced the creature's neck. Our protagonist watched everything from the edge of a cliff, breathing a sigh of relief when he saw that the king of skeletons had high defense. The Black Dragon. He wasn't causing that much chaos anyway, and with the skeleton warrior fighting alongside the skeleton king, he realized that it was more than enough. He checked on the dark magic dragon's status. Whoa, this is intense. A regular magic monster, level 31, with an attack of 1080, physical defense of 500, magical defense of 520, and over 9,800 HP. The thing had Dragon Flame and Dragon Breath abilities, and things got serious when the system noted that the dark dragons packed an overwhelming power that was hard to fathom. While leaving the battle to his pets, he He started looking up how to complete tasks efficiently, but then suddenly, he heard a loud noise that caught his attention. He spotted several dragons flying in the sky and sensed it was a secret mission that had been triggered. It was the first time he'd seen anything like this. The system then showed him that, due to his location, a special scene had activated. He had unlocked a hidden opportunity. The mission requested him to upgrade the completed morale-boosting quest to a new rare mission, Crush the Darkness. Without a second thought, he decided to upgrade the task. The system congratulated him for receiving the hidden mission, Crush the Darkness. The difficulty of this new mission was 550, and it informed him that a bunch of dark dragons had emerged in the ancient ruins to the north of the Light Continent, preparing to launch an invasion. The mission asked the adventurer to join the Light Clan, dragons to wipe out all the dark dragons in the ruins. Oh, and he only had an hour to complete this mission, or he would lose a level. If that happened, he would lose 300 trust points with all the NPCs from the Light Clan. With that in mind, he headed toward the Dark Skeleton and the Skeleton Warrior to check the situation. When he got there, he was met with a booming roar. Things were getting heated, and Zero realized the fight had already started. The dragons were taking out the Chauk enemy team with their flames, and judging by our hero's expression, it was clear that things were looking pretty good for the light dragons. The showdown was on, and he had to dive right into the thick of it. Our hero was feeling confident about the mission, believing those dragons wouldn't stand a chance against him, thinking he'd wrap up the quest with ease. But, of course, life is full of surprises, and it soon hit him that this fight wouldn't be that easy. When the creature unleashed a purple flame, Zero almost got burned, and it was only thanks to the dark skeleton that he managed to escape. The dragon that attacked was the Battle Lord Dragon, a big guy, level 35 in the physical category. The dragon gave him a chance to leave the light and join the Dark Clan, and if he did, he would stay alive. The protagonist, on the other hand, didn't expect an invitation like that, and he knew that if he said no, he was heading for a grave and would even lose a level, which would be a huge penalty. So, he started to entertain the idea since, at least, it would save him from death. Zero thought, isn't this a trap from the Dark Dragon Clan? Then, he tried to think logically. If he couldn't win, why not join them? He ended up agreeing with the Battle Dragon Lord. Soon after, a portal appeared, and he was invited to step through. After some contemplation, he went through the portal, and the dark dragons followed him. On the other side, he found himself in a dark mountain. Zero ended up in a dimly lit room, only brightened by a swirling purple flame. The system alerted him that he was in the dark hall, which, guess what? It wasn't a safe zone, but it served for him to log in, log out, and respawn. And that's when he met the leader of the Dark Dragon Knights, Goya. The guy welcomed him and suggested that they team up to take down the Light Clan, those hypocrites, and take over the Dragon Valley. The system notified him that if he joined the Dark Clan, he would be kicked out of the Light Clan and wouldn't be able to accept missions from the Light Clan NPCs anymore. Goya asked if he would accept the offer. At that moment, another screen popped up warning him that time was up and his secret mission to destroy the darkness was gone. And just like that, the kid took a penalty of -1, plus he lost 300 trust points with all the NPCs from the Light Clan. As far as he knew, no player had ever switched sides in the Light Clan in the Fourth World. He just accepted what was happening, and the leader of the Dark Dragons wanted him to prove his loyalty. To do that, he had to go into the territory of the Light Clan and hunt some giant light dragons. Zero was already aware that the Light Clan only offered missions through basic NPCs, while the Dark Clan leader could also give quests with 50% better rewards. Suddenly, a message popped up on the crazy guy's screen. It was the brown-haired girl asking for his help on a quest. She offered him 561. He was about to reply that he didn't need payment since he had only agreed to help her get through the prelims and not takes on a big quest, but before he could send the message, the girl sent another message saying that if he helped her, she would share a secret about their hero. Zero was totally zoned out, thinking about the mission ahead. Meanwhile, in a shady area called the Death City, a brown-haired girl was waiting for him. Her jaw dropped when she saw him arrive, and she quickly blurted out that she was about to tackle a quest with her friends. But, surprise, surprise, they just ditched her. With only half the time left, it was too late to grab a new crew for the game. Among her acquaintances, Zero was the strongest, so naturally she decided to call him. But the vibe was super tense between them because he just wanted to wrap up this quest and didn't care about her drama with her fake friends. She, on the other hand, just replied cool and kept to herself. That's when Gina popped up out of nowhere. She was surprised and asked why the dude was hanging out in Death City. Then she noticed the girl with Zero and, with a weird look, asked who she was. The girl introduced herself as Tian, Zero's cousin, and explained that she'd asked him for help with the quest. Tian then whispered to Zero that she'd keep everything a secret. Hearing that she was his cousin, Daninha got all friendly and decided to pitch in as well. Zero liked her attitude. Moments later, things got serious. A huge area of the forest just exploded. Gina froze the enemy while Zero charged at him, showing a perfect synergy. It felt like a combat dance with zombies. The zombies moved in sync, but before they could even be a threat, they were turning to ashes in no time. Tian, impressed by what she saw, felt like a total loser compared to them, and remarked that they were taking out the mobs at a breathtaking speed. Diana, with that mischievous smile, said, "That's what happens when you play with Zero." A crowd that recognized Zero started murmuring among themselves, mentioning that he had helped win a battle against a boss before, but they were all confused because they didn't get why Tian was with him. They remembered how she had run off after the fight and were starting to think she was glued to Zero, thinking, weird. They even considered telling Dai that his girlfriend was up to something. Meanwhile, Tian thanked Zero and Gina for their help. Diana mentioned that she needed to level up fast and said she'd look for Zero in the fourth world once she hit level 25. Zero was curious about the secret she had. So, she dropped a bombshell in Linhai City. In the Shiwa community, Elegant Zero held her breath and tensed up. In the blink of an eye, our hero summoned the Dark Skeleton and the Skeleton Warrior. The Dark Skeleton grabbed the little one by the neck, while Zero interrogated her about who she really was. She struggled, but managed to say that the deal was he would help finish the Pro League competition, and only then would she reveal everything. He praised her smarts, but ordered her to turn around and come back only when she reached level 30 on her own. He even threatened her, saying if she lied, he'd bury her. Tiante swore no one would ever know what was going on, and already thinking about his own safety, Zero was plotting his escape from that place as soon as the mission was done. Meanwhile, in a place called Fourth World Destruction City, a group spotted a charred dragon lying on the ground. One of the members was the unrivaled god of war, who was fuming. The guy was furious because Tiante and that damn girl had the audacity to betray him. That's when a hooded man stepped up and asked who was brave enough to steal the girlfriend of the vice leader of the unraveled guild. With an air of mystery, he admitted he had no clue, since the opponent was using a hidden ID, and the only hint he had was that the dude was a monster tamer with the Skeleton King. Then, he simply turned around and walked away, leaving one rival feeling disdainful, thinking Zero was just some beast trainer, which made him even angrier. His buddies stopped Wivelid's wrath by reminding him they were on a tight deadline for the mission and told him to chill. Of course, a system notification popped up, announcing that the boss, the undead dragon, had appeared on their map in Destruction City. One rival remarked how lucky he was and how he now had an incredible opportunity, a rare mission to defeat the dragon. However, this mission could only be accepted by one player. Without wasting any time, he called his brothers and ordered them to get ready, promising them amazing rewards. An enormous dragon flew across the sky and started attacking with its dragon decomposition move. He froze in place, and of course, the dragon wasted no time unleashing its attack. Suspecting someone had arrived, Zero showed up and declared that the boss was his. Upon seeing Zero, Unrivaled's fury boiled over. He thought Zero had already left, and the system quickly notified our hero that during the mission, any player who attacked the undead dragon, they would be marked as hunting targets, and if they killed themselves, it wouldn't raise their sin value. The mission time was set at 23 hours and 48 minutes, and if he didn't complete it, the penalty would be losing a level and 300 trust points with all the NPCs from the Dark Clan. If the dead dragon died within that time, the mission would be a complete failure. That's when Zero decided to summon the skeleton, which totally shocked the guild. No way Zero had formed an alliance with the dead dragon. One of Zero's rivals realized that he had been played. With all this weighing on his mind, Zero was determined to succeed in this mission, especially after the last one went so horribly wrong. Before they could come up with a plan, the dead dragon unleashed a brutal attack. One of the guild members commented that it was already tough dealing with the dead dragon, and now there was this mysterious guy in the mix. Zero then directly stated that there was no way to run and quickly killed another guy. Immediately, a rival ordered everyone to fall back and notify the guild leader. The plan was to act as soon as the main force arrived, so they took off. The mission had to be completed in 24 hours, so Zero hoped they'd be back soon. While he waited, he recalled what the other guy had said. He understood that the guy had stolen his boss, but the whole thing about taking his woman had him feeling uneasy. At that moment, on the forum, people, we're discussing the War God Guild. This guild was the second most powerful in the Jijian Ningbo province, which was serious business. Zero realized that the guild was incredibly strong, and he would need some help. So, he told the dead dragon to hang tight. Jinian, who was very surprised, found out that Zero had indeed clashed with the War God Guild. She knew he was in trouble if he was going solo, and she ordered everyone to speed up the world mission and rush to the boss, then quickly jump into the fourth world. At that moment, the Dark Dragon Knight informed Zero that they were being attacked by members of the Light Clan. He had a request to make. Zero listened, not really understanding everything. Listen here. Whenever the Light Clan did missions, they never offered any help. Zero didn't expect the Dark Clan to have a more righteous side. Zero quickly informed the Dark Dragon Knight that he was on a mission to protect the dead dragon and that the enemy was about to launch a massive attack hoping for help from the Dark Clan. The Dark Dragon Knight made sure that the darkness would never leave its followers fighting alone. Suddenly, Zero got the notification that the dead dragon was under attack. He was told to rush to the City of Destruction immediately to protect the dragon. Zero didn't expect things to escalate so quickly, so he decided to head there right away. The Dark Dragon Knight wished that darkness would be by his side. The dead dragon let out a thunderous roar and then unleashed a powerful beam from its mouth. The humans were shielded by a massive barrier. Then, the rival sent mages in to face the dragon. The mages were powerful, and before long, they had bound the dark dragon with ropes of light. The warriors then charged forward, confident of victory, and with great precision, they began hacking at the helpless dragon. Just then, a pink lightning bolt struck the warriors, killing them instantly. It was Zero, come to rescue the dark dragon. One of the minions shouted to his comrades that the beast tamer was here and ordered them to attack Zero. But Zero, showing his bravery, warned them, if they didn't want to die, they should get out of there now. After saying that, Zero summoned his Skeleton King and began harvesting aura. Then, we see that the leader of the War Gods Guild was present. He's the Light Mage, and his name is Lintian. Wow, that's almost the same name as the woman. I'll change his name to Tiao, or, if I forget the story, it'll go back to being Lintian. The fearless mage Tiao moved towards Zero and told his subordinates to focus their attacks on the dragon. Tiao claimed that Zero was only his. However, Zero, enraged, asked Tiao if he was the one who attacked his dragon. But Tiao didn't back down and shot back with another question, wanting to know if Zero was the one who killed his guild members. Suddenly, he attacked Zero, trying to catch him off guard. However, the skeleton warrior blocked the cowardly surprise attack, but Zero, in the back, was already glowing with rage. Tiao was stunned. His damage was high, capable of hurting any monster below, level 30, yet he couldn't even scratch Zero's skeleton warrior. Immediately, the skeleton warrior charged at Tiao, who barely dodged the attack. The two then began a deadly dance as two fireballs raced toward Tiao. The mage quickly used his magic shield, holding the fireballs at bay, but the little shield couldn't withstand the fire and started to crack. Just after that, a deadly pink bolt fell on Tiao, inflicting excruciating pain. However, he showed he was stronger than his subordinates, and didn't go down from just one lightning strike. But he felt that one, and the fear kicked in, making him sweat. He wondered what kind of monster Zero was. Zero, filled with rage, continued to harvest even more aura and gave Tiao a deadly glare. Tiao, with great courage, told Zero he would never lose to him and started to cast a spell. Zero told Tiao that even if his entire guild showed up, he would never complete this mission. Then, the massive Nebulite dragon, level 35, appeared in the sky and roared, signaling that Zero and the other dragon had found some help. Tiao was totally terrified, shaken by the imposing presence of so many dragons. Zero starts teasing Tiao, asking if he wants to keep fighting now that things are even on both sides. Tiao clenches his fists, gathers all his courage, and tells his subordinates to back off, but one of them pipes up and tells their leader that they're on a secret mission, and if they leave now, they'll lose it forever. Tiao, feeling low, asks a rival if he wants to take down their guild, trying to make this mission even tougher. Turning around, Tiao warns that besides Zero, there's a dark dragon and two dragon lords on their way. But when he glances back, Agrivet asks Tiao why the dragons aren't attacking Zero. The guildmaster, War Gods, explains that Zero isn't there to steal their prey, but to protect the dragons, because that's Zero's mission. Tiao tells Only Valid that he's going to finish Zero off next time they meet. Dude, that guy who stole Only Valid's woman, he thinks to himself, mentally swearing to take out Zero for snatching his girl. 24 hours passed, and lo and behold, several dragons were chilling, just taking a nap on the ground. The system screen congratulated Zero for guarding the body of a dragon that had been destroyed for 24 hours, and with that, the mission was completed. The dragon was all happy, and Zero went over, gave it a little pat, and said it was time to bounce because it was all over. He watched the dragons flying off, just like in those epic scenes. The system screen popped up again to show the rewards he'd earned. 750,000 experience points, 15 gold, 300 trust points with Goya, and more gear. The kid even got a destroyer ring, a destroyer armor, destroyer boots, 3 skill books of his choice, and 5 rare pet eggs. With all of this, our hero leveled up to 28. His trust with the leader of the Dark Clan, Goya, hit level 3. The next level needs 300 trust points, but he thought the rewards were pretty sweet and right. In the middle of all this chaos, things were about to heat up even more. He already planned to give the Destroyer 7 to the Skeleton King when the kid hit level 30 and got the second job, which opens up 6 skill slots and 1 pet slot. But he decided to save the eggs, hoping they'd eventually yield some crazy prize down the line. Suddenly, he saw a message saying they needed him urgently. I wonder what went down. Meanwhile, Zero was fed up with all that chatter. After saying that a rival didn't know what he was talking about, one Riva thought he was just playing dumb, and in that tense atmosphere, a storm of lightning struck right between the two. One Riva got mad just thinking about someone daring to interrupt him. The guild leader was on his way over. He then informed the leader that he found the guy who was sabotaging their mission and was waiting for orders. He said that if Zero agreed to join the War God Guild, they could overlook the fact that he had disrespected their guild, basically giving him a chance to redeem himself. Zero looked at them and asked if everyone in their guild had an eye on their forehead, since they only seemed to look down on others. Tio was absolutely offended and asked if Zero wanted to make an enemy of his guild, but then he stopped when he heard a shout asking who dared to touch him. Yao appeared on the right with his crew, and on the left, there was Mr. Rank Pavilion's gang. Both declared they were on Zero's side. One Riva was shocked, bro. Even Tiao was gaping. He asked the classic question, do you really want to go against the second strongest guild in the province? Yao simply said he didn't care, but one Riva wasn't having any of that. He kept trying to convince everyone to go straight at them for a fight, believing their guild was more powerful. Tiao, keeping his cool, reminded him that the National Pro League competition was just around the corner, and wasting energy on a pointless brawl wasn't the way to go. One Riva paused and, damn, even apologized for not thinking that way. Then Tiao dropped a truth bomb that caught everyone by surprise. A beast tamer like him, backed by 2 powerful guilds, must have a dark past. The dude wanted to recruit Zero for their guild one day. After that, Yao turned to Zero and asked if he was okay. Zero simply replied that he was chill, but Dinya was watching him like he was an easy target. Then Yao started talking about how for every action, there would be a response in the form of his colossal sword. The guys on both sides were getting tense. Neon invited Zero to join Mr. Rank Pavilion, and soon Yao offered him a spot in Supreme Guild. And man, those two started throwing arguments around to see who could win over Zero first. She asked if he wasn't going to do any quests, and he said he would pick one up, but she quickly warned him that Ralph Light didn't hang around that side. She also wanted to know where he would find the, quests. Yal had the same question. Meanwhile, in a cozy home, a guy was chilling, contemplating what could be a complex math operation. This guy read about a secret question that no one had the guts to pursue, thinking it was just a legend. And this guy, oh boy, was the one, the rival. Upon learning this, he came up with a brilliant idea to deal with the Zero without losing anyone from his team. In that same world, dragons were throwing a party over the humans. One of the dragons was getting out of, control, going wild, and Jinan had to witness the fury. Yao wasn't shocked because, as always, some big shot was trying to steal a dragon egg, and you know what happens. When that goes down, the dragon pulls out its sword and goes for it. But when Zero showed up on the scene, everyone was taken aback. Yao, well-meaning, immediately proposed that Zero join the collab. Jininha, getting into the vibe, commented that if they teamed up, things would move along faster. But Zero, standing his ground, cut in to say he was looking to take on a different kind of mission. He needed to go the brighter route to clean up some stuff. His goal was to reach level 30 fast, to unlock that treasure for his second evolution. The protagonist thought he was in the clear, but suddenly found himself facing a dragon that, out of nowhere, landed right in front of him. The group went into a panic because he had just said the dragon wouldn't attack. So, Yao tried to reason with the mythical creature, explaining that they hadn't stolen its egg. But of course, the dragon didn't care, as it quickly blasted a breath of fire. Another guy reacted fast, saying the dragon must have smelled the egg thief, leading them to believe Zero was the one, that dishonest beast tamer. A bit skeptical, he turned to Zero and asked if it was true. Zero immediately defended himself, calling it total madness. He found it weird that the dragon was so fixated on him, wondering if maybe the dragon sensed he was from the Dark Clan. But there was no time to get lost in thoughts, so he summoned the Skeleton King and his skeletal warrior. The dragon unleashed another fire breath, but thankfully, his summons were there to block the attack. He figured that being a 4-star boss, even the Skeleton King's life would melt away quickly. If things kept going like this, he could actually die in that battle. The rival was just being malicious, smirking, thinking that Zero wasn't going to make it out alive. He thought the vice president's plan was brilliant, because everything was being thrown onto the poor guy while he watched the madness unfold from the sidelines. He was sure that no matter how tough the Zero was, he'd soon be consumed by the dragon's fire. Meanwhile, Yao and Dinia started rallying their guilds to protect the Zero. The dragon kept breathing fire, and the wizards were doing everything they could to dodge it. Gina, strong and steadfast, shot back at the accusation against the Zero, saying she knew he would never do something so treacherous. The dragon, not caring at all, asked if she had any proof, and of course, Gina was left speechless. Infuriated, the dragon decided he would take her out along with the Zero since she was helping him. Then, out of nowhere, Tantinia showed up and said she could prove he wasn't the egg thief. The dragon stopped, clearly intrigued, but it was obvious that she was terrified. Unrivalent was in shock, seeing her muster the courage to stand up for another guy. During this exchange, Aunt Tia showed a video she had recorded with the image crystal. The footage showed Univalet giving orders to drag the bodies of those black dragons. He even mentioned that the Zero had a weird skeleton, so he had also ordered some skeletal monster corpses to be brought in. It was actually a huge plan of his to deal with the beast tamer once and for all. She pointed at the rifle, saying that he was the real culprit, and of course, he didn't take that well and cursed at her, calling her a bitch. The guy couldn't believe she would betray her ex like that live on air. She quickly made it clear that they had broken up a long time ago, and that one reveler was the one acting like a slave for using such a dirty weapon against the Zero. The dragon, for his part, got interested in the egg that had gone missing. One reveler from his crew started casting freezing spells since they had actually sold the egg, and just like that, the dragon breathed fire on those miserable fools who ended up getting roasted and flying off. Gina and Yao rushed to check if the Zero was okay. He, looking calm, said he was fine. Yao, surprised, commented that he never imagined the War Gods Guild would use a divine dragon against him. They were almost wiped out, and thanks to Aunt Tia's help, the Zero managed to escape that deadly trap. Our hero was there, cheeky as ever, chatting with Aunt Tia. Believe it or not, he said he owed her big time. The girl gave that little smile with rosy cheeks, like, "Aw, how sweet. Is that how it works now?" Right after that, Yao asked Zero what his plan was, and he confidently replied that since the guild wanted to take him out, fine, he'd respond in kind. The kid wasn't planning to let any member of God of War survive while he was in the City of Destruction. Oh, buddy, things were about to get intense. Cut to the God of War headquarters in the Zhan province. One of the members rushed in, all flustered, reporting that the vice leader, a rival, and his crew were being chased by a divine dragon and had bailed out of the game super quick to escape, while Zero was busy taking out everyone from the guild. Lintian, or Tiao for those who know him well, the leader of God of War, had already warned a rival that if he ever got beat in a fight, he'd be calling him by his real name, Woody. Tiao had cautioned the vice leader that messing with beast tamers was a stupid move, and to make matters worse, he was pissed off because now he had to clean up all this mess, so he started ordering that nobody should enter the City of Destruction, and if anyone got a mission there, they needed to skedaddle to another place. As if that wasn't enough, he expelled Woody, an old rival, along with everyone involved in the whole Dragon Egg heist. The crew was shocked to hear that because, the global professional tournament was coming up, and the tension in the air was thick. One of the guys, kinda incredulous, asked if he was sure about this move. Tiao then decided to put out generous bounties to recruit the most badass pros from Genhando City to patch up the guild. As for the beast tamer, he planned to handle that situation himself. Meanwhile, in the real world, a realtor called Zero to let him know he had a rental property near Chia and Atom. Right after that, a guy pushed open a door, and guess who it was? Woody! He walked in like he owned the place, saying that even if she tried to run, he'd find her. The girl just wanted to know what he wanted. Woody was there looking for revenge, because his girlfriend had teamed up with the beast tamer, which got him kicked out of the guild. He blamed Tiao for ruining his bright future. On the flip side, she was completely lost, had no idea what he was talking about, and just wanted him to stop blaming others. And then, to top it all off, he lunged at her, accusing her of being with Zero, because there was no other explanation for a weak woman like her doing missions with Zero. She yelled for help, and unbelievably, he ended up tearing her clothes. What a situation. She was screaming desperately for help, and Woody was yanked away, totally in shock, not even knowing what had just happened. Out of nowhere, he found himself slamming into the wall on the other side of the room. When he looked to see who pushed him, to his surprise, it was Zero. Aunt Tiam rushed over to him, and Woody, all cocky, thought they were a couple living together. He asked Zero if he knew she was his. Aunt Tiam, panicking, begged Zero to believe her when she said she never agreed with Woody's plans and that he was the one attacking her. Woody was already fuming and wanted to take Zero down. He charged at him, but Zero, with all his swagger, just dodged and landed a kick right in Woody's gut. The guy shook all over. Before Woody could recover, Zero had already clocked him in the face and sent him to the floor. Aunt Tiam, in disbelief, asked if he was dead, but Zero clarified that he just passed out. The girl felt the need to explain that Woody wasn't her boyfriend and that they were just starting to do missions together. When he got all clingy, Zero, calm as can be, said he didn't care about that drama at all. Our hero finally realized the girl was living next door to him. You catch that? He decided to ask if she knew him. She shyly admitted that once she peeked through the party door and ended up bumping into him in the gaming world. This made him all curious, asking, "So why did you call me Asura?" She explained that there was a time when he disappeared and the delivery guy left a letter with that name on it. Our buddy Zero looked totally lost, like his mind was frying. The letter became an irritation in Zero's head. It said they called him Asura and hoped he wouldn't get eliminated in the qualifiers, wherever that was. The sender was eager to see him at the national tournament, but the kid realized the girl wasn't lying. However, he was on high alert because the enemy was right in front of him, and he still had no clue who it was. He decided he needed to find out who sent that letter, so he hinted to her. He kept the whole letter thing to himself. Cool? When he was about to leave, she said, "So, where are you off to?" He just glanced at her, and even though she looked all shy, she asked if she could tag along because she couldn't stay there now that Woody knew where she lived. Was she trying to move in with Zero? But Zero wasn't really into living with anyone, thinking she was just going to move somewhere else. But the really easy girl said she couldn't find a new place right now and was low on cash. Then, Zero started reminiscing about what she had done for him last time. He asked for her phone, and she thought he was just going to save her contact, but to her surprise, he transferred 100 grand to her account. Like, get away from me. When she asked what it was for, Zero just said it was the prize from the city tournament, and he had promised to help her win. Crazy, right? Then he told her to consider it a payment, and that she didn't need to pay him back, which made them even. She was left speechless, deep in thought and sad, because for her, with all that money, it felt like someone like her, with no cash or connections and just living off help, would never be wanted by anyone. After that chat, Zero got a level up notification, you know? Now he was level 30, and to level up again, he needed 700,000 experience points. The system even congratulated him for boosting the confidence of the leader of the Dark Clan, Goya. For level 4, he needed 400 confidence points to level up again, and Glay noticed that Zero was genuinely supporting the clan. Glay encouraged our guy to keep it up, saying they'd soon get a mission from him, and if he completed it, the reward would be the best in the clan. Zero, being clever, realized he needed to hit the required confidence level to take on that 4th mission. The system then suggested he prepare for a job change mission. So, he decided to accept that before tackling new quests. Zero wasted no time and clicked yes. He joined the Skeleton King. The evolution mission, Trial of the Underworld, Shackles of the Mirror Image, had begun. And check it out. During this quest, players couldn't leave the map. If they died, they would drop 3 levels. Zero realized this was the Necromancer's evolution mission, you know? And the skeletons started rising up, man. While the skeletons attacked, the Skeleton King let out terrifying screams. Zero, who's no idiot, decided to lend a hand, but in the middle of all the action, one of the skeletons popped up from the ground and blocked his path. Then suddenly, there was an explosion, and our hero had to pull back. Like, what the hell, dude? The Skeleton King seemed to be sinking into the ground. Our guy got anxious, thinking maybe he couldn't bring pets during the job advancement mission because, things were getting tough. He took another look at the map and decided, let's go. He was the first to notice that things were getting weird. He ran at supersonic speed. As he got closer to the center, trying to wrap his head around the chaos that surrounded him, the mess started feeling less daunting. The whole vibe began to chill again until he reached the spot and spotted a dark crystal. It hit him. That crystal was what was causing all the trouble. The chains in the reflected image were connected to it. Our protagonist got focused and cautious. He thought, better not let my guard down. Who knows if some beast pops up out of nowhere. The crystal was, shining and seemed to want to pull him in, which was super sketchy. Then, out of nowhere, he vanished and got thrown somewhere else. he looked around and saw that the ground was like a massive mirror, reflecting everything. Wild. He realized the mission was to trap him in a separate space. Like, this is it. Black orbs floating in the air started turning into tadpoles, which got absorbed by a dark Zero. Then, the Zero almost freaked out when he saw a version of himself, but instead of hesitating, he went right for it, pulled out his spear, and attacked. But the twist? The other Zero did the same thing. What a crazy situation. The attack caught him off guard. With some ninja-like reflexes, our hero blocked the strike and shoved the imposter away. Then, he unleashed a lightning spell, but guess what? The imposter copied it again. There was a huge clash of lightning at the center, and eventually, the whole thing started to fade, leaving the Zero kneeling, as if to say, I'm out of breath, here. He noticed that the speed, strength, and even the magic methods of the imposter were super similar to his, even the instincts. But hold up, here's the kicker. The imposter only copies right when he acts, so there's no human instinct. What a twist. He didn't think the mission would go down like this, so he smiled because, hey, that made things easier. He launched another attack with his staff and the imposter copied it. This felt so much like Among Us. Then the brawl kicked off again, and when he charged in, the imposter got caught off guard and took a hit that was so powerful it could make it rain. He managed to knock the imposter to the ground. Just like he planned, if he reacted fast enough, the imposter couldn't keep up with his moves. The real Zero went on the offensive with punches, kicks, sweeps, everything he had, and no mercy. Every strike landed. The imposter was just taking hits like a punching bag, and at the moment of the jump, both of them shot out a powerful bolt of lightning. But wait, there was another bolt that trapped the imposter, and with fire in his eyes, the Zero charged right for the big guy, attacking his chest. He shouted triumphantly that fake is fake, and it will never be real, and with a wave of his hand, the imposter was gone for good. But then, he spotted a golden gleam on his chest that sent his mind reeling. The system popped up a notification saying he'd completed the job advancement mission, the ultimate test from the underworld. The chains in the reflected image showed that the task had earned him 140 professional advancement stars. His magical attack growth shot up 35 stars, his health points increased by 30, his physical defense jumped up 24 stars, and his magical defense gained 25 stars. And to top it all off, his mana also went up by 26 stars. With that, his second-class skill level hit rank S, unlocking the second combat slot for pets. Our boy was on cloud 9, finally unlocking a second battle slot. Papede was thrilled, thinking about how he was going to find a beast stronger than the Dark Skeleton King, which would skyrocket his power, you know? But first, he decided to level up his skills because, come on, who doesn't want to be the king of the game? His A-rank fire became a full-blown hellfire, now an S-rank. His A-rank ice spear turned into a frozen desert, also S-rank. Now, his electric spell that was A-rank morphed into an S-rank spell called Thunder Dominance, just to give you an idea of how badass this kid became. And he wasn't done yet, dude. His A-rank fire missile transformed into an S-rank flame cataclysm, and his A-rank magic shield upgraded to a divine demon protection, also S-rank. The teleportation spell that was A-rank is now a ghostly displacement, S-rank. After this upgrade, he decided to go hunt some light dragons. Once he levels up the confidence that Goya needs, he's gonna tackle that special mission he mentioned. Meanwhile, Nin-Chen-Shan was facing off with Woody again, like it was a real reality show. He even called her dumb, thinking that just because she had left the city, he wouldn't run into her. Dude, the drama had already started. Woody was furious with her for not helping at all with the dragon, but being the alpha male he is, he landed a holy kick right in Auntie's face. Woody was sure that the folks from the Hall of Light would find out that anyone who teamed up with her would be on the dead list. Woody wasted no time and ordered Auntie to call Zero, because they were going to set up a trap from which he'd never escape alive. Suddenly, Woody's lackeys started sweating bullets, stammering to Woody to look over there, and of course, our hero happened to be in the right place. At the right moment, Woody, laughing at Zero, pointed out how dumb he was for putting himself in danger to save his aunt. The girl was really happy to see Zero, and even blushed a bit. Woody, full of bravado, told his lackeys that beast tamers were weak in vitality. So, even if Zero's attack was strong, if they worked together, they could take the bastard down. Woody's goons charged in, all pumped up and determined to end Zero's life, but Zero seized the chance to test his new powers against the enemies. In a flash, flaming arrows flew toward them and hit their mark. At that moment, Tien and his guild showed up. Tien's eyes narrowed as he reminded Woody not to touch the beast tamer, since things were already heating up. Woody panicked and accused Zero of screwing up his mission and, on top of that, striking first. Woody even blamed Tien for all of this, claiming that instead of supporting the team, he was siding with the enemy. Tien, fed up with Woody, ordered one of his guild members to take care of him. After that, Tien turned to Zero and apologized on behalf of the War Gods Guild, as if that would fix everything. He even offered him the vice leader position if he wanted to join them. Zero, being his humble self, declined and just hoped everyone would stay out of his way. To add a bit more heroism, he handed a healing potion to his aunt. Out of nowhere, a screen popped up asking for help because he and Dina were getting their asses kicked by two massive elite black dragons, and we had no idea if they had mutated on their own or if someone had messed with their genes. Gina organized everyone, telling the archers to target the weaker one on the left, while the mages attacked the right one, which didn't have any magic resistance. What a ride. The creature was Siamese with different weaknesses for each head. The knights were tasked with distracting the dragons, and the priests, well, they were focused on healing. In the heat of battle, a subordinate mage of Ayal asked how they were going to fight. Ayal told them to follow the example of the Misty Rain Pavilion. The dragons started taking a lot of hits but fiercely counterattacked. Their heads unleashed beams of light that were deflected by the shields that were still holding strong. The dragons were way tougher than they could have imagined. But just then, Zero showed up and asked what was going on, and everybody was shocked to realize he had finally arrived. If he hadn't shown up, well, the story could have ended differently. Dinia Frenetica warned that the dragons had high magical resistance, so they needed to be careful, but Vei Zero told her not to worry. He realized those creatures were corrupted by light, so taking them out wouldn't affect his standing. It was the perfect chance to test his S-rank power. He unleashed the frozen world power and hit the dragon dead on. The ice clung to the creature, leaving everyone speechless at the damage. The hit was insane, and Yao even asked if he had already leveled up to the second tier. Smart Gina picked up on the fact that he had used an S-rank power and was curious about how he leveled up so fast. The dragons shot out another beam of light, and our hero, totally unfazed, countered with Thunder's Domain and Heavenly Flames. The dragon's roar was spine-chilling, and everyone got pumped to join the fight too. It was a perfect sync. They combined their strengths and toasted that dragon in no time. In the end, the victory was theirs. Now Zero hoped the Soul Harvest would kick in, but nothing happened. He needed a pet stronger than the Skeleton King. At the very least, Yao, full of energy, said that with his strength, he could easily dominate the university preliminaries. He suggested joining the Supreme Guild to take down the God of War Guild and the Infinite Guild. But what confused him was Gininha, who was quiet. She always used to argue with him. Dinia and Yao looked at Zero, and he asked what was up. The guy is smart. If he wanted to get rid of the potion, he would have done it already. No point in waiting. Their breathing eased up when they heard that. For a second, Yao thought Zero might get a world bounty again. Then Gininha commented that this put pressure on the God of War Guild, giving more chances to the Supreme Guild. Zero reminded them that he had just met them recently and was intrigued about who had wiped out their team so quickly. Suddenly, the system chimed in, congratulating him for raising Goya's trust to level 5. With that, his trust level maxed out. He went back to Goya and got a rockstar welcome. Goya told him he was the only one to meet the requirements of the last mission from the Dark Clan in thousands of years, so they needed his help. Curious, Zero asked about the last mission, and Goya explained that for millennia, they couldn't defeat the hypocritical Light Clan to dominate the Dragon Valley because of the Divine Light Dragon and its royal guard. Zero, half in disbelief, checked if he was supposed to kill the Divine Light Dragon. Goya replied that what he needed was for him to enter its territory and take out the Royal Dragon Knights. Zero asked if he hit the Royal Squad, and Goya confirmed, explaining that he was in the Forbidden Zone of the Light Clan, but that only humans could go there. So, he was the only hope for victory. And then, to make things even more epic, the system congratulated him for activating the unique hidden mission, Glory of the Dark Clan, a secret mission that hadn't appeared in over 100 years. The system unveiled the details of this insane mission, which had a difficulty rating of 750. In it, he would represent the Dark Clan and had to infiltrate the Forbidden Zone of the Light Clan to wipe out the Dragon Knights. Goya, all pompous, threw in, his face that the glory of the Dark Clan rested on the protagonist's shoulders. Goya told him to go in confidently because they would draw the attention of the Divine Light Dragon to prevent it from returning to the Forbidden Zone. Then, as if it were magic, a portal appeared, created by Goya, transporting the protagonist into the Forbidden Zone of the Light Clan. Upon entering, he was greeted like royalty in a special level 35 map. When he got there, he realized he couldn't leave. During the mission, this place would serve as a temporary point where he could log in and out. Dying or escaping from that brutal zone would count as a mission failure, and of course he was shocked by this. The system made it clear that he could only use the spot as an entry and exit point. He figured they did this because they were afraid he'd get trapped there and starve to death. Then he took a look around and suddenly heard a deafening roar. Several dragons started flying across the sky, a scene so cinematic. They were 35-level Battle Guardian dragons, normal physical creatures. Their stats were sinister, with a physical attack of 1,120, a physical defense of 880, magic defense of 920, and a health of 18,000. And it didn't stop there. They also had abilities that would make anyone tremble, like Dragon Breath and the Radiant Sacred Shield. These dragons were an Imperial unit, personally cultivated by the Divine Light Dragon, and their strength was enough to scare even the bravest. The protagonist thought about how he was going to annihilate them. That group of dragons alone started to wonder how long it was going to take, but what he didn't know was that he didn't have time to hesitate because 10 days was more than enough time to take out those dragons. So, he decided to unleash a powerful explosion that caught the attention of all the dragons, shining like a beacon. Of course, the dragons weren't going to just sit back. They rained down a flurry of attacks in his direction. The hero cleverly dodged to avoid getting fried, but in that moment of distraction, he noticed the Skeleton King was blocking the attacks. That's when he realized someone was controlling the situation. A guy riding a dragon appeared and asked who the crazy person was that dared to invade those forbidden lands. It all made sense to the protagonist now. That's why dealing with a bunch of dragons was so complicated. The Dragon Knights were in play. The Dragon Knight saw the power of the last attack, and if it hadn't been for the armor he was wearing, he'd be on the ground nearly dead. Our hero told the Skeleton King to hold on, rolling out a defense and protecting the Skeleton King. He threw out a sarcastic jab at the dragon and the Dragon Knight, and of course, they weren't going to let that slide, unleashing a heavy barrage of attacks. Man, those guys were so weak on magical defense, and they made a mistake messing with our protagonist. This was going to be serious. Our boy was facing the Dragon Knights, and let's be real, those dragons were a joke. They didn't even come close to being a threat. Then he unleashed a combo of attacks that even made the Wi-Fi glitch out, while the skeletons were pushing hard, protecting with all their power. But damn, there were so many that his abilities were running out faster than energy drinks at a party, and worse, his mana potions were running low. So, he decided to swing by the base to restock. As he was leaving through the gates, he started thinking about the cost of the mana potions. A small, fourth-dimensional mana potion cost a fortune, $150 a bottle, and if he had to buy it in the real world, the bill would double. The costs for those things were insane, and he needed a massive supply. Plus, he didn't want some shady person spoiling his mission. Then he remembered what Yao had said about his dad, who was an epic-level pharmacist and totally ruled the biggest family line in High City. That's when he realized the solution to his problem was right in his hands. So, he shot a message to Aid. You asking how much the special instant recovery medicine from the family was. He thought about all that stuff. As he flopped onto his bed, he thought the potions would be enough to complete the mission and decided to take a breather to regain his strength. After all, he couldn't afford to mess this up. Meanwhile, over at Yao's place, the dude was fuming and asked his assistant why he hadn't told Zero that the stuff wasn't free. The assistant made a joke about how, as the young master of the Liu family, he should have a bit of clout. The assistant then suggested that if they wanted Zero to join the Supreme Guild, they needed to apply a little pressure, let him see the perks to get him more pumped up. Of course, Yao was impressed by his assistant's cleverness, but to teach him a lesson about working smarter, he decided to dock the assistant's pay by 10 grand. The poor guy just sobbed his eyes out. Then, out of nowhere, someone burst in shouting that their guild members were getting beaten down in the fourth world, attacked by a bunch of mysterious pros and taking a serious beating. On top of that, Mr. Rain Pavilion had also lost some people. The news left everyone stunned. They were dying to know who had the guts to pull off such a mess. So, Yao immediately ordered everyone to gather around because the drama was just heating up. If you liked it, drop a like and leave a comment to help the channel out and ask for part 2, and I'll bring it. So, take care, and see you in the next video.